It is the entrance ceremony for the Demon Academy, and the Academy's principal steps out before all the applicants. Her mere presence sends shivers down their spines, and she announces that they will now be tested for mental endurance. Right away, she releases an aura so powerful that the students can't stay on their feet and struggle to breathe. They simply collapse in front of the professors, who are already used to seeing this happen every year. After 5 minutes, only 8 students remain standing, and after 10, only 1. But the professors are certain that even he will fall soon. Suddenly, this guy releases an aura so powerful that it shocks the professors. Even the principal is surprised by such power. One of the professors even feels so threatened that he wants to kill our boy on the spot. But the principal stops him and instead strengthens her own aura. Even that doesn't help. Our guy continues to stand until the very end of the test. But just a few days ago, he was only a novelist named Nam Woo-hyun living in the human world. One day, after finishing the last chapter of his novel, he receives some sort of letter that transmigrates him into his own story, into the body of the very villain whose tragic fate he wrote. After the transmigration, Nam Woo-hyun finds himself lying on a bed. He's totally clueless about his surroundings, and even his body doesn't feel the same. When he walks up to a mirror and looks into it, he notices some disturbingly familiar features, like this ominously crimson hair, that sly mouth, and thin slitted eyes that hide every trace of emotion. That's when it hits him like a thunderbolt out of the blue. He has possessed someone else's body, and that someone is Arsene Adele, the most powerful villain in his novel. The concerning part is that he is only a few days away from being assassinated. Before we get into all that, here's the context on this villain. Basically, the Arsene family has mixed blood, part demon, part human. Thanks to the demonic powers in their bloodline, they were once one of the greatest families in the empire. But they fell from grace, thanks to 6 specific families who banded together to take them down. With that context, it's pretty clear why Adele chose to walk the path of a villain. He tried to take revenge against the families that ruined his own, but he failed miserably. That's the very reason the original Adele called out to the creator of the novel in the first place. In just a few days, Adele will die a dog's death at the hands of knights from those 6 families. And here's the kicker. In terms of talent, Adele is one of the most gifted characters in the entire novel, so much so that his abilities even outshine the main characters. But no matter how powerful the villain is, Woo-hyun wrote the story in a way that he could never defeat the main character, no matter what. Worse yet, Adele currently can't even use his mana. If only Woo-hyun had known the restrictions he put on Adele would come back to haunt him, he never would have crafted a narrative this screwed up. It's completely stacked against the villain. As he's cursing his rotten luck, he notices the same kind of letter that originally brought him into this world. Turns out, it's a letter left behind by the original Adele for Woo-hyun. Bro's hoping it'll have some helpful clues to get him started, but the paper's completely blank. Like literally, not a single word. Then, all of a sudden, letters begin appearing on the page miraculously. The phrase that pops up is a message from the original Adele to his creator. If Woo-hyun wants to know how to use the powers this body holds, Adele wants him to answer with a simple yes or no. Of course, Woo-hyun starts cursing again when he realizes he's actually talking directly to Adele, the same guy who dragged him into this mess. The paper once again insists him to respond with a yes or no. Eventually, Bro gives in and says yes. Now that Woo-hyun's on board, Adele explains that he'll answer anything his creator writes on this paper. Some questions might be free, but others come with a price. The more important the question, the higher the cost. Naturally, Woo-hyun shoots his shot and asks the big one, how to return to his original world. Adele responds immediately that it's impossible. Well, Woo-hyun kind of figured that out already, so he was ready for the bad news. Next, he asks the more practical question, how to use mana and how to activate Adele's unique abilities. Turns out this question has no fee. Adele directly imprints the knowledge into Woo-hyun's mind. The moment it happens, Woo-hyun begins to feel the mana flowing through his body. The first trait of Adele's body is the ability to take away someone's 5 senses, called darkness. The next is the power to restrain opponents using aura, called killing intent. When Woo-hyun activates it, he can feel it working. It makes him a little happier. At least now he can restrain ordinary people, if not trained knights or soldiers. The last major talent he has to learn is Adele's most busted ability, is Position Transfer 1. As the name suggests, Position Transfer 1 lets him literally switch places with an object of his choosing. It's basically the ultimate assassination move. The moment he activates it, some magic mumbo-jumbo kicks in, which is a clear sign that the power actually works. But it's not that great just yet. He can only swap within a 20 square yard radius, which is kind of underwhelming compared to Adele's powers in the original story. Still, if he keeps practicing every day, he'll improve. So, he decides to test it out by swapping places with a suit of armor nearby. The moment he activates it, he vanishes from his spot, and the suit of armor appears there. The swap is successful, but Bro doesn't exactly land smoothly. Guess he just needs more practice. Meanwhile, a group of knights is marching straight toward his residence, ready to claim his life. At the Arsene family estate, those knights finally arrive at their destination. Representing Leon County with his determined eyes, Captain Feltz learns from Adele's servants that the villain is resting in his room. The servants are worried that Adele hasn't even moved for days and he's locked inside. Barging without warning, Feltz and his men confront their target, who is casually enjoying himself as he comments on the captain's brutal mission to eliminate a young man. Without listening to Adele's words, Feltz merely orders his men to eliminate the kid immediately. But they weren't ready for our boy's position transfer ability, allowing him to switch positions with any object in a set radius. Targeting the knight's blade that was about to attack him, he initiates the ability and lunges forth with the knight's sword in hand. His unexpected assault is a successful hit, slashing his opponent and surprising Feltz and his men. Backing away from his first kill, the villain simply awaits for the next person to mess with him. Feltz still seems confident with his numbers and orders his men to attack the guy head-on. The battle ensues, but instead of recklessly confronting them head-on, Adele breaks a window and jumps. Also, using an excellent application of his ability, he first throws the sword into the ground. Then he activates the position transfer ability just in time to replace himself with the sword. This allows him to avoid having to deal with the fall damage and escaping safe and sound. Next up, he needs to escape to the Arson family's forest. As he's delving into the forest, Feltz orders his men to chase after their target to confirm his elimination. Let's switch perspectives to the Arson forest, where our boy is panting, and his legs are trying their best to gain as much distance as possible. The thing is, even if he did escape this territory, our boy knows that only death is promised ahead. That's why, instead of escaping the territory, he plans on using the gate in the forest to access the demonic realm. The demonic realm suffered huge losses because of its war against the humans, so he's hoping that they'll accept his help in the time of need, even though he's a human himself. Though that was his initial plan, Feltz and his knights are already here, and they're sharply spreading out to look for him. Luckily, the villain is still hiding, but he's struggling to find the exact location of the gate. Having a rough idea of where the gate might be, steps on a twig and immediately draws attention with the noise. Feltz is done playing around and exerts his immense power to destroy everything in his path. He's finally located his target, which is bad news for our boy, especially since he's only got 2 more position transfers to use. His priority is to find the gate instead of fighting. But at this point, the author inside of Adele's body is starting to feel unease. That's why he consults Adele's true spirit and asks for the location of the gate. Since this is secret knowledge, it comes with a cost of 100 gold coins or a special relic boasting A rank or more. The author is freaking pissed that he's trying to negotiate something like that in the middle of the time trial for his life. Unfortunately, Feltz's latest attack catches up to our boy, who is sent knocking into the tree. With him down, the ruthless captain prepares his sword, questioning if the atrocious villain truly thought he could live if he ran for his life. Carving an eerie smile on his face, Feltz promises that Adele will meet his end today. Despite being injured, the young man responds with confidence. He did not know much about anything, except for one thing, that he was determined to survive. Realizing that he's at the verge of his life anyway, Adele gets up to use a final measure against his opponent. Feltz finds his persistence annoying, though he respects the half-demon for boasting his pride as the patriarch of his family. In response, Adele reminds him that knights like the captain and his men shouldn't even feel any semblance of dignity when they're out here ganging up on a young child. Bro literally ends his damn life by telling Feltz to switch professions to being a nanny instead. Yeah, that's gonna take some serious ice to cool from. Completely provoked, the captain points his blade at his target, coldly declaring that he will no longer hesitate to be ruthless with his blade. He plans to ensure the sword plunges the kid's heart. Feltz lunges forth to deal the killing blow, not knowing that this exact moment is what our boy had been waiting for. He whips out the special note that he uses to communicate with Adele and forces its contact with Feltz's sword. Maybe you guys don't understand what's going on. Our boy is so smart, he used his opponent's special artifact as the cost to know the answer to his question. This achieves his goal and also takes away Feltz's weapon. Adel's got that happy, "I fooled you, bruh" smile on his face, while the captain's blade disintegrates to nothingness, much to his amazement. The position of the demonic gate is made clear as the reward for the artifact, and so our boy utilizes position transfer again to leap away. Feltz tried stopping him, but the incompetent captain just lost his chance. The villain escapes to find his special gate. Having finally located the gate that exudes red tendrils of dark energy, Adele has achieved his purpose. But this guy Feltz is like a damn cockroach. He chucks a freaking log at our boy, and the moment it is about to make contact with Adele's head, he activates the final usage of his position transfer, promising to see the captain again someday. Feltz is frustrated that his target escaped to the demonic realm, a place where only darkness awaits him. A while passes, and we get to see Adele sitting on his own and chewing down some meat. He wonders how long it's been after he successfully passed through the gate and entered the dungeon. This dungeon is actually a humanly made dungeon that someone created using the secret demonic arts. Now he is rather surprised to find jerky in a bed placed here. Adele wonders if it was intentionally being used to protect some kind of treasure. Also, there's a special barrier that deflects any blades from the front. There's also a stone guardian here, which only further adds the mysterious origins of this man-made dungeon. The stone guardian looks creepy by itself, and even Adele knows that if he crosses the barrier to challenge it, he will literally get bitch slapped, so he won't be trying that. Finally, the special note illuminates as Adele's true spirit communicates with the author. warning him of a penalty for manipulating the rules of the price. This is because he tried forcing Feltz's sword as a sacrifice. This trick will no longer work beyond this point, but even the author thinks that it's crazy already he was able to use it at all. Also, he's not even being punished for it. Suddenly, the author's attention is drawn to a stone which appears different from the others on the wall. Interacting with the stone, he realizes that it's only thanks to Adele's powers that he's able to perceive certain things. An assertive voice responds to him interacting with the stone, telling him that he does not possess the right to use this function. Our boy strongly suspects that this stone must be the key to the deactivation of the barrier. Since he can't use that, he's planning on using another way to escape. Past the barrier, he sees a stone that likely fell from the Stone Guardian's body. Even though it is a stone, it might prove to be useful in this case. Activating his position transfer ability, the author switches places with the piece of stone, safely exiting without needing to activate the function. But this dude is too caught up in his excitement and forgets the demonic stone dragon that was outside. The creature roars in his face, alerting him to be wary. The scene cuts to the demon's castle in the realm, where the patriarch of the bear's family, Crete, is observing the sight of his servants busy with work. He comments that it's probably because of his daughter's raid attempt that his people are working overtime. Crete doesn't know how to handle the situation. The thing is, if his daughter succeeds, she's going to be granted the right to enter the Saitan, which is supposed to be a demonic school, and even if he strictly orders her to fail, she's going to rebel against his decision anyway. After all, his daughter is hell-bent on achieving her goal of exacting revenge against the murderous humans who killed her mother. Wow, that's a really tragic burden for a girl of her age. Anyway, her papa is worried that she might get tossed around in a ruthless demon school. Suddenly, one of his maids comes to inform him about trouble. Crete is extremely agitated that he was disturbed from his thoughts. The maid apologizes in fear and informs her master that there's news of an unknown person in the hidden domain. They've located several energy traces of the person having opened the door, which is causing great confusion. Also, their identity is still unknown. The only thing they know about the person is that they tried interacting with the door's function from inside. This puts the demon patriarch in a state of contemplation. He wonders if the human was summoned via the demonic gate during the Great War. Believing that the pest will die anyway, he thinks it's an insignificant matter. For now, all he cares about is his daughter's exam going well. Crete amuses the possibility of achieving a pawn from the human side if things go well for him. Anyway, let's go back to our boy who instantly regretted his decision to exit the domain and teleported back inside for his own good. The dude clearly wasn't expecting a damn wolf to eat him alive. The creature is staring at him from outside, while the author realizes just how bad his situation is. Even if he breaks free of the barrier, it's only going to put him in grave danger. Suddenly, the author is enlightened by a realization. The wolf creature is made of stone. This means his ability might work on it. Activating position transfer again, he forces the target to be the stone wolf outside the barrier. His plan successfully worked to an amazing degree, trapping the monster inside and freeing him of the barrier's grasp. The wolf takes a while to realize that it's stuck inside. Despite its many attempts, it is unable to bypass the barrier. Adele makes a run for it and tries to find an exit, when suddenly, Bro runs into another horrifying creature of the abyss. He quickly realizes that there's a mission at every level, and this giant bug looks even more menacing than the wolf he just escaped. The funny thing is, Adele keeps abusing his position transfer ability on the creatures, repeatedly trapping the monsters inside. It is because of their inanimate nature that he can abuse his powers to their fullest extent. Having finally reached the final stage of the hidden domain, a voice calls out to him, congratulating him for reaching the final obstacle. It's surprisingly welcoming, especially to a human like Adele. The author assesses that this must be the boss room, and what he sees is truly terrifying. It's a Death Knight aura farming and showing off his immaculate armor. From the strength being exuded from its body, Adele compares its strength to Captain Feltz. Bro genuinely doesn't even entertain a conversation with the Death Knight and spams the use of his position transfer ability. Before the boss monster is even able to finish his sentence, the poor guy is trapped inside the barrier. Adele moves past and finds the treasure box he was looking for. It's different from his expectations, as he didn't expect a special ornament engraved on it. This black dragon ornament actually respects the highest-ranked demonic families. Among them, there is the sloth family: lust, gluttony, wrath, envy, and finally greed. The black dragon symbol represents the bear's family, denoting the sin of pride. It's also the same family that Crete leads. Of course, this revelation alone is a threat to our boy's existence. He tests his luck and opens the box to find a way to escape. All he cares about for now is to escape the demon realm. But to his horror, a shadowy mist emerges from the box and attacks his face. The dark energy forces its way inside of him. Pause, not that way, it's just going inside. The comments will have a field day with this one. Unable to handle the dark energy, Adele roars in pain as his human body experiences extreme agony. The consequence is a brutal one, implying that his head popped to 1,000,000 pieces. But apparently that's not what happened, because he wakes up later and he's still fine. His eye changed as the black liquid attacked him and gave him the Eye of Superbia, a special ocular ability that increases his dynamic eyesight and only activates after killing an enemy. Now Bro thinks he's unstoppable because he can take on dozens of enemies at once. He's impressed by his decision to come to the demonic realm, and from here on out, he prepares himself for what's to come. Ahead of the chest is a giant doorway. Adele wonders how he should act, because there's going to be tons of forces lined up to seize him outside. Going outside practically ensures his death, so he has to think of another way. He amuses the possibility of surrendering faster than light, which is funny, but that's not going to work either. Right now, the issue is that he belongs to the arson family, and the moment the demons find out about him, they're gonna kill him. So he goes on to cover the insignia on his neck. As for the Death Knight from earlier, Bro is out here busting his sword against the barrier and demanding to be freed. The troubled Death Knight alarms him that Her Highness is coming. But of course, Adele has no idea who that is. It was at this moment he finally realized why there were rock beds and jerky around the hidden domain. It's because this hidden domain is a testing ground for the higher families to train their children. It's important for him to know what he's dealing with, so he immediately takes out his special note to communicate with the real Adele. The author inquires about the closest character to him right now. Once again, Adele's soul demands a sacrifice to offer a response to that question. Unfortunately, the author's at a pinch here. So instead of paying with gold or artifacts, he spends 100 points of his mana, which is a brutal way of handling things. Finally, the answer to his question is revealed, as the person most closest to Adele is Renee herself, who is the youngest daughter of the demonic patriarch of the Bears family. Our boy faces an "oh shit I am screwed" realization because there's no way he is beating her. The Eye of Superbia, which he stole, is supposed to be her reward for completing the training, and our boy literally stole the achievement. Because she's got plenty of authority in the demonic army, Adele is assuming that she's going to annihilate the Stone Guardians and show up in front of him. That is exactly what happens as Renee slices the Death Knight to pieces and confronts the human before her. In a serious tone, she demands to know the man's identity. Realizing that there's genuinely no way out of this one, Adele concedes by kneeling before her. He actually manipulates her by telling her that she successfully completed the hidden domain and became worthy. But the demonic princess is genuinely pissed and not having any of it. Sweating bullets knowing he might die here, the author lies to her, telling her that he's supposed to be her bodyguard assigned by her father. He's also glad that she's yet to recognize his possession of the Eye of Superbia. Having distrustful eyes of the vermin before her, she taunts him for looking pathetically weak for being a bodyguard. Adele emphasizes that he's actually quite capable despite his looks, and he's slowly growing optimistic of this meeting. She lowers her blade and laughs. In an effort to earn her trust, Adele switches positions with her sword and shocks Renee by appearing before her eyes. He doesn't do anything to attack her though, and simply asks if she was impressed by his capabilities. Renee grabs his hand in Ange before snapping away. She doesn't say anything, which makes him boggle his mind, wondering what she thinks of him now. Playing it casual, he tells her they should head out together as the patriarch is waiting for her arrival. This man is a top-tier gaslighter, goddamn. Adele also tells her that he's going to be taking care of other duties that he's been assigned by her father. Inside, he knows he's got to hurry up and get the fudge out or else he's doomed. Finally, he opens the door, causing Renee to become startled at the sight of her father. She wasn't expecting him to be here with his men. Intrigued by the whole situation, Crete finds interest in the human. Meanwhile, our boy is out here questioning his existence because now he's got to come up with an excuse to fool her dad too. He's going to be killed on the spot if they realize what he's done, but for some reason, Crete has yet to lift a finger. Crete attends to his daughter and asks if she cleared the domain. After confirming that she did, the patriarch requests the human to follow after him. Not knowing what's in store for him, the author ponders what's about to happen. He quickly follows suit, and he can't even consult the special note anymore because he doesn't have enough mana or things to offer. Having arrived inside the family mansion of the Bears family, Crete signals everyone else to return to their quarters. Glad that he's being given the chance to escape, Adele is celebrating on the inside. That is, until he realizes that there are guards secretly watching his ass in case he tries to defy orders. In his office, Crete meets his daughter, emphasizing that Renee has successfully completed the final task. But he still wants her to be sure of her decision to enter the training school. Renee is determined to go and answers yes. Crete goes quiet for a moment, before asking about the human she encountered in the reward stage. Recalling the way he shocked her with his powers, Renee confirms him to be a strong person. This pleases the patriarch's ears, causing him to be eager about the mysterious human. He concludes their discussion by approving of his daughter's admission to the Saitan school. As for Crete, Bro isn't even thinking about his daughter. He's more impressed by the human who entered the domain and cleared it on his own. Not to mention that he claimed the Eye of Superbia, and yes, this basically confirms that he knows about our boy being in possession of it. Finally, Renee's opinion is the most assuring confirmation he could receive. All of these factors point to one thing. He could use the human to his benefit. While this is happening, the clueless author is wondering just how long he's going to have to wait for them to finish up. At last, the human is given directions to the patriarch's room. He appears before Crete, who stares him down with a menacing glare. Adele is already afraid of what's to come, and wonders how the demon patriarch is going to handle this. He inquires why Crete permitted him to live. The patriarch carves a smile on his face before cursing him out for having the gall to fool his daughter to an impressive degree. Also, he casts an overwhelming amount of aura, to the point Adele is forced to submit beneath it. He realizes that the patriarch doesn't intend to kill the human, which is an observation that Crete finds amusing. Releasing the pressure, he allows the human to regain his composure. But Adele is out here panicking from the experience he just had. Crete is impressed by the human's sharp wits and inquires for his name. Adele responds with his name without including his family's ties. The patriarch then uses his demonic force to manipulate the human's body. At this point, our boy is genuinely clueless on what this dude actually wants from him. Crete orders him to open his mouth. Whoa, pause again. The demon patriarch shares that all he has to do is continue on with the story he was telling his daughter. While this is happening, a dark energy enters our boy's mouth, choking him from the inside out. Crete reminds him that the poison inside his body will kill the human instantly if he ever tries to deceive them. Adele is out here choking on his words, while Crete casually tells him that he's going to offer him a nice place to stay for later orders. The one-sided encounter meets its end with Adele at a loss for words. In the next scene, he is shown his new quarters to stay. Unfortunately, Adele doesn't have much choice but to accept what he was given in this shabby house. He's glad enough that his life was spared for the time being, even though it feels like he's being used as a tool. Also, the author is glad to have earned the patriarch's acknowledgement, which may turn out favorable for him in the long run. As far as his goals are considered, the dude has to do something about the damn poison inside of his body. Smartly making use of his position transfer ability, Adele forces the inanimate poison out of his body. He can't even think about what horrors would have been caused if something else had been teleported from his body instead. Anyway, Adele doesn't want to kill the poisonous creature, knowing it will alert the demon patriarch. The creature wakes up because its mana supply was cut off. Finally, Adele collapses on his bed, knowing he's no longer threatened by the poison. The tiny creature is snoozing right next to him. He's at the verge of sleeping when the status window opens, alarming him of his upgrade in abilities. Position transfer reached level 2, but the mana costs are too demanding. Adele wonders if there's a way for him to actually increase his mana pool so that he can hold his own against the main characters of the story. He figures out that there's indeed a way to achieve this effect. The scene cuts to Renee's expressionless face as she disapproves of our boy's plan. So far, he's been keeping checks on her for the past 3 days. Bro is getting ghosted in real life. That's how bad his situation is. The author assumes that she must have had a brighter personality, but thanks to the loss of her mother, it has made her ruthless and distant. Even as the author, he feels sorry for what happened to her. The servants of the patriarch call out to both Adele and Renee because Crete has summoned them. Adele thinks that it must be regarding Renee's entrance to the demonic school of Saitan. Of course, despite her accomplishment of successfully clearing the hidden domain, Saitan was on another level. Crete tells his daughter that she's destined to die after a while, and if that happens, she'll never be able to achieve her goals. This causes Renee an air of disappointment and sadness. Meanwhile, Adele is out here feeling like a third wheel to a parent-daughter conversation. To both of their shock, the demon patriarch entrusts her bodyguard to help keep her safe. To his surprise, the girl literally rejects this offer, which is really funny considering that she's willing to trample over her own goals just to get away from our boy. The thing about Saitan is that it's the only school where the promising heirs of multiple demonic realms gather. They're constantly experiencing conflict with the imperial school of the main characters, and in the original story, Renee was destined to face her death because of the conflict. It's the worst location on the planet, because death is always just a matter of time for the demons there. Despite that, Renee is prepared to go there. As for Adele, he thinks it's the perfect place for him to increase his manpower and his network. After all, since he's the author, he knows about the events of the story that will occur at the school. Shooting his shot, Adele agrees to go, but he has one final request. The author requests something related to mana, which the demon patriarch finds amusing, because he thought the human would try and negotiate his way out of the poison. The good thing is, Crete has yet to catch on to the fact that Adele no longer has poison inside of his body. Crete curses him but considers his request. Now that they're alone, Adele wonders what the demon patriarch will offer him for mana. Crete reveals that this particular treasure is part of his family's legacy, so he wants this matter to be confidential. Understanding that the human's mana is basically insignificant, the demon patriarch is prepared to lend him a power that will help him survive for his daughter's sake. Crete channels his demonic energy and declares that he will teach the humans the cultivation technique of their family, which bewilders Adele's expectations and shocks him to the core. The demon patriarch requests the aid of the demon god to bestow the powers of the demons upon a human. Crete's chant comes to an end and his body is flared up with purple demonic energy. A smile is formed on the patriarch's face, who is impressed that our boy's mental fortitude is impressive to have maintained his sanity even after the power boost. Adele learns that his cultivation technique will help him receive mana directly via the demon god, which means he's pretty much got an overpowered storage of mana now. Interestingly, Crete has noticed that the human's family has its ties to the 7 deadly sins. Though the human attempts to feign ignorance, the demon patriarch emphasizes that he's not worried about any betrayal schemes coming from the human. After all, the poison worm will take care of everything if he did in fact turn out to be a spy. The author is rather surprised to learn of the half-demon's family being connected to the 7 deadly sins, even though he, as the writer, never really included this in the original story. Crete tells him to leave, and in the next scene, we catch our boy in the forest meditating on his own. He believes this place should be suitable for him to practice his powers, especially when mana is easy to spiral out of control. Normal meditation seems calming and peaceful, right? Well, not for this guy. He's getting tensed up asking for the demon god's help, reflecting that he won't be able to use human mana ever again after this. Still, he doesn't have a choice, and has to fight for his survival here. Menacing eyes glare at him from the sky. The demon god deems this human a filthy disgrace, and even goes on to roar at him for carrying the blood of a traitor. It's funny to me how Adele is so sharp and slow at the same time. He's out here asking the demon god if he's truly the entity that governs the demons. In this world, this god is known as the god of pride. Adele asks if he's going to survive this experience. The demon god emphasizes that he would be dead already if he wanted that, but strangely, it chooses not to kill him, because for some reason, it feels an unexplained feeling of kinship with him. That's why it is willing to help humans by bestowing upon them a mark of pride. This insignia is the representation of the god of pride's powers. However, the deity warns him not to lose his composure to such powers as they will make him insane. Adel has now acquired the power of a god, increasing his chances of survival in this hellish dimension. At this point, he thinks his entire body will end up getting covered with marks and tattoos. Suddenly, the author senses the presence of someone spying on him from behind. Renee gets spotted, much to both of their shock. This is really bad for him, because her father clearly didn't want her to know about this. She mutters the words "dark priest," which fly right over his head. Fast forwarding a month ahead, Adele has been training relentlessly, and his mana supply has tripled in that short period of training. He suspects that he'll have enough mana accumulated to surpass the heirs of all 6 houses of the human realm in a few years. In his current state, he can easily conquer the hidden domain without teleporting. Apart from that, Bro is questioning why Renee has been lately training in front of his house, instead of the training grounds. To satiate his curiosity, he decides to confront her. Thankfully, Renee hasn't been avoiding him like she stubbornly used to. Adel thinks the girl probably misunderstands him as some kind of priest who can communicate with the demon god. After all, they're the only ones who can communicate with the demon god. Thankfully, she didn't overhear the exact conversation he shared with the god of pride. But in this case, being treated as a superior to the Demon King's daughter will only increase trouble for him. Addressing her once more, Adele requests that she treat him the same way she used to. However, the girl feels a bit shameful for treating him coldly after seeing his powers. Acting as her bodyguard, he reminds Renee that he's merely following orders, so he too wants to be treated comfortably. Renee decides to follow his words and orders him to fetch her water. Bro doesn't get what she's scheming. Renee emphasizes that she's just following what he said just now by treating him coldly. Adele realizes that this guy is going to have to follow her every word at this point. Dude just can't win here. Having brought her some water, he assesses that he must conquer a domain, but unfortunately Renee is glued to him everywhere he goes. There's the issue of the main character of the story passing over to the demonic realm soon. He doesn't want the treasure of that domain to be lost, because its reward will help him survive Saitan. The author asks about her preparations for the enrollment exam. Renee is a bit surprised he's asking a question like that. Adele reasons that she's going to have to fight the strongest humans eventually, so it worries him to ask. Renee doesn't seem to be worried at all though, stating that she's got everything prepared. Adele suggests she double check, because it could always end up being a thorn in her path if she forgot something important. Renee is pissed off by his imprecise language. Adele reveals that he's genuinely concerned for her. But this girl is sharp, she's not ready to be manipulated so easily. She quickly noticed that he wants to go on his own in her absence. Bro meets a dead end with his approach, while Renee is out here annoyed that he might be getting bored of her. To calm her down, Adele finally reveals the truth of his interest in conquering a domain nearby. Instead of getting pissed off, she actually goes into a contemplative state. She tells him that she's actually forgotten something, just like he said. At first, our boy was as happy as he could be, but then she reveals that what she forgot is actually her warming up for the training. Long story short, the girl wants to go with him to conquer the domain and warm up her skills. She thinks it would easily be conquerable in one day. Of course, Adele is worried, but he can't exactly deny her as his superior. Let's explore more about this secret domain. It's titled the Domain of the Undead, so you can only expect what's going to come next. The Domain of the Undead was once ruled by the necromancers, but now, it's nothing more than an abandoned site filled with the undead soldiers after the necromancers were killed in the war. Renee has extensive knowledge about the domain, and it brings her worry because it's dangerous, as it's a middle-upper level domain. Right now, the number of the undead soldiers is worrisome. That's why Renee's help will be necessary in this mission. The only problem is, going together will make it harder for him to escape with her. And if the news reaches the Patriarch's ears, he's going to get in trouble for putting her in danger. So that's why he requests her not to come. highlighting the patriarch's reaction for leaving without his permission. But this demonic girl is already prepared. She knows a secret exit from the mansion. She takes him to the secret hole that no one knows about. Adele realizes that she must be used to sneaking out for doing this so casually. Renee doesn't respond to him, and they quickly use the exit to leave. Arriving in a misty mountain range, the duo walks ahead. Adele asks about how long it will take, but this seems to earn an annoyed reaction from her. He realizes he messed up and tells her they'll just go ahead. Anyway, Renee explains that they're gonna have to climb over the mountain, and that will be it. For her, this is easy to say, but for our boy, he's suffering inside. Finally, they're at the desired location. The place is destroyed and abandoned. Renee is out here cursing in her language, while the author believes he's got to hide his family name from her no matter what. Now, since he knows the way inside, the duo digs their way ahead. The domain rests under a large rock statue, which soldiers situated underneath to protect their lands. Having arrived at the entrance of the place, Adele offers to take the lead for her, but Renee is confident and wants to go on ahead. Inside the domain, Adele is impressed by how bright it is. Renee finally leads him to the exact location they were looking for. From its energy alone, the author judges that it's an even more powerful region than the bear's training grounds. He suspects 100 graves to be buried here at least. Renee and our boy are moving on ahead when suddenly, a bonehead and his fellow friends emerge from the ground. These bald bags of bones surround the duo from every direction. Channeling her abilities, Renee unleashes her advance and disintegrates the skeletal soldiers like paper. Right now, Adele is really glad that he brought her along. He understands that at least one necromancer must be casting the use of the soldiers, so they need to target him. He blocks an attack and tells Renee that he'll be right behind her. The defeated soldiers only end up resurrecting again, much to her shock. The necromancer leading his troops stares them down, impressed by their audacity to step foot in the domain. He ordered his soldiers to eliminate both intruders. This is bad for the duo because the undead soldiers keep on reviving. Adele instructs her to keep on advancing and target the necromancer. As for him, he's busy helping create an opening so she can execute on her goal here. Defeating more of the soldiers, the author tells her that he's got this side covered so she can focus on her role. Channeling her powers, the demon patriarch's daughter lunges forth to kill the necromancer. The mage summons even more soldiers to stop them, but Adele thinks they need to focus on taking him out quickly. If they can break the caster's orb, this battle will be as good as gone, as he can then use position transfer's new ability. Well, their troubles shoot up to 1,000,000 when a goddamn King Kong-sized skeleton is summoned out of nowhere. Adele is worried for Renee, but instead of getting beat like any weakling manhwa character would, this girl actually ends up defeating the creature in a full swing. She is much more powerful than Adele thought. With this, he activates position transfer to catch up to the necromance, closing their distance. His newest ability allows him to swap objects with each other instead of himself. So he casts Exchange, which relinquishes the orb from the necromancer's grasp and places it directly in Adele's hand. That's all they needed really, because the bonehead mage is basically about to get fucked without being able to cast anything. With the orb crushed and finished, the necromancer is automatically defeated along with his summons. Thanks to their combined efforts, they were successful in taking down the threat. Interestingly, the necromancer's final words are one of gratitude for the human. Adele faces a stark realization. He's the one who wrote the tragedy of this place in his story. And because of that, he really feels sad for his characters, and hopes that they're now finally able to rest in peace. Renee questions if there's anything else for them to do beyond the boss battle. Of course, there's the reward collection. Finally, he'll be able to get his hands on the item he so desperately requires. The item is called the Fang of Darkness, a dagger made from a special steel of the demon realm. With it, it can convert darkness into mana and increase one's abilities in the dark. The second item is a ring called the Eternal Full Moon, allowing the user to quickly absorb mana with moonlight. Adele is quite impressed by the dagger, and realizes that he can max out his darkness trait with this weapon. As for the ring, he doesn't really have any use for it, so he turns to Renee and offers it to her. She's okay with the reward and accepts it. Acting like a gentleman, Adele places it on her finger, causing her to visibly blush from the experience. She quickly draws her hand away, acting cutely in confusion. Our dense protagonist has no idea why she's acting in this manner. Renee, still feeling flustered, feels the effects of the ring coursing through her body. She really likes it. Next up, Adele decides to keep all of the gold from this place. But bro's dreams are ruined when Renee goes into her killing machine mode and warns him not to be selfish. With the domina finished, the duo return to the mansion right before dinner. Next, they continued to train together, and another month passed eventually. The author was making great progress in the demon realm. He'd acquired just about 1,300 mana, which is comparable to the mid-tier demons in the realm. Finally, the demon patriarch summoned them a few days later, permitting them the chance to enter Saitan at last. The time has come for both of them. They will be going to the capital for the entrance exam. With their preparations wrapped up, the patriarch orders them to just leave. He doesn't even care about a proper farewell. Seeing Renee's expression, Adele realizes she is sad. She simply bows before her father and leaves. Next up, our boy does the same to accompany her. But before he leaves, Crete stops to remind him that he's got high expectations for the human. And this scene is sad in a way the patriarch is wishing a human some hope. but not his own daughter who needs it the most. In the next scene, their carriage is prepared as Crete stares them down from above. The author notices that even demons must have considerate feelings for their children because he can tell Crete really cares about his daughter. Right now, the author may be worried about his future, but he's willing to do whatever it takes to achieve his goals in the demonic school of Saitan. Their journey starts off with a bumpy ride. Ever since they left the mansion, Renee has been scarily quiet. He wonders if he's at fault. At last, she turns to look at him with a strong glare, reflecting how he is much more handsome than she initially thought. Bro is getting rizzed up by a demon baddie. That should have been me. Like an average Joe fumbling with a goth girl, this man is out here chatting about the weather because he doesn't have anything else to talk about. Even she thinks he's kinda dense, and that he isn't really particularly strong. At this point, she's doubting her assumptions of his rank as a priest. Meanwhile, Adele is questioning what's up with all the staring. Renee calls herself stupid for doubting his powers when she witnessed his conversation with the literal god of pride itself. The way they're thinking about each other is funny, because Adele thinks he's in trouble while she's out here catching feelings for our boy. Now let's talk about the thing our boy did earlier by giving her the ring. It's actually called an eternal vow in their dimension, and it's basically their way of marrying someone. Even though Adele did it without uttering a word, she's curious about the kind of vow he made when doing such a thing. The once expressionless demon is really interested in knowing his feelings. Anyway, Adele reminds her that they'll be arriving in an hour. His empty words only make her even more pissed because the chick was out here daydreaming a romance in her head. Without telling him anything, she simply goes on to take a nap, keeping Adele in a mystery. An hour later, they step outside the carriage with their luggage packed. The capital of the demon realm is huge, and it resembles the human realm's capital a lot. Even though the demons here have horns and some physical differences, they're not too hard to differ from humans. The elite demons are known for having marks on their body, like a blonde who has it on his neck. Renee tells him to keep up and he follows suit, asking where they're headed. Since the entrance exam is in 2 days, they'll need to register before that. Since it's in 2 days, Adele suggests touring the capital in that time, but she appears disinterested and doesn't want to travel. Adele still thinks he messed up, but once again, she shuts him down to register for the exam. Recalling the backstory he wrote for her, the author realizes that Renee never left her house because of her mother's death. So she should be feeling freedom here, but for some reason she's appearing disinterested in her surroundings. Anyway, they're in Saitan at last, an incredible university that is triple the size of an ordinary one. The receptionist here is an old man taking care of the registration process. Adele steps up to speak on his lady's behalf, much to the guy's shock as he points out that Adele doesn't even look like a demon to begin with. Even worse, the egghead calls him out for being a half-demon trying to apply to Saitan's exam. At this point, our boy knows that his future here is going to be really painful to deal with. The angry egghead continues his rant until he recognizes the horns of the demonic princess. Renee mentions that she's from the House Bears and that her guard will be admitting along with her. Humpty Dumpty follows her words, even though he calls the guard a pathetic half-demon trying to enroll in the best demon academy. Renee is done listening to his arrogant words and reveals a hint of her power for insulting the Bears family. Bro wants to get in trouble for no reason. Just do your job, baldhead. Anyway, Adele mentions his name and house association to House Pixie, and with that, the registration process is finished. To explain why the receptionist is behaving this way, the author internalizes that the half-demons actually ended up banding with the humans in the war. That's mostly why the pure-blooded demons are mad about them. Anyway, with the registration finished, they need to get to their inn for the night. Having located a nice-looking tavern, Adele thinks it should do the trick. But this rich and spoiled brat has her own complaints about the taverns here. Adele reminds her that they don't have her daddy's money to play with, so their options are limited. Crete only parted them with 10 gold coins, which will only be enough for them to live up to a month. After all, House Bears suffered major losses after losing the war, so they can't afford to overspend. The duo heads inside to book a room. Adele does all the talking for her. The funny thing is, Renee gets embarrassed the moment she hears the receptionist asking if they want to share a room, because it implies the birds and the bees, and I don't think that needs more explaining, folks. The dude insists upon having separate rooms. Since they'll have 2 different rooms, it will cost them 2 gold coins in total. It's not the worst deal ever according to the author. Renee heads upstairs while Adele shares that he'll unpack the luggage while she can rest. Since she's always lived in a giant mansion, the author suspects that it's her first ever experience of living in a shabby place like this. But it is necessary for her to get used to it as fast as possible. As for him, he's gonna need all the rest he can get for the exam ahead. At last, the 2 days passed and the day of the exam is here. Applicants are told to follow strict instructions. There's so many applicants around them, which makes the author wonder if there are at least 100 candidates. The fact that so many of these talented people are signing up to kill the humans is enough of a warning sign to our boy, because the moment his identity is leaked, they're all going to jump him. The supervisor of the exam orders the students to bring out their ID and board the train. It's the last thing he expected in the demon realm. For the demons, they've actually set up dimensional gates to block intruders from entering their realm. Trains are the only way to cross paths in Saitan, and at this point, the author wonders just how large Saitan really is for having a train system installed so easily. The two of them board the train and arrive at their destination in mere moments. Finally, they're in front of the Grand Demon Academy. Applicants are told to follow their guide and enter the auditorium for their exam. They walk inside. Adele is left speechless by the luxurious ornaments. Every glance is overwhelming to him. He also notices that only young demons have come to take the exam, which makes it likely that the other heirs of the 7 deadly sins also showed up. Donning full black trench coats, the author realizes that these people must be the instructors. Now, he wants to make a positive impression right away to increase his chances of having a good time in this hellhole. Renee mentions that their exam is about to begin. The doors immediately snap shut, and the once illuminated bright place turns disturbingly dark. The author suspects that magic was used to achieve this effect, and he's curious about the content of the exam. The first order is from an instructor who demands the applicants to quiet down. Wearing a distinct appearance and a short stature, she welcomes them all to Saitan, and instantly starts cursing the shit out of the lousy candidates. She openly admits that she's looking forward to seeing them get killed this year. Wow, what a welcome. Adele is trembling by the sheer weight of her voice. Carving a malicious smile, the girl gets serious to attend to their business. She begins the exam procedure without warning them another word. The pressure exerted from her body is enough to cause every student to feel overwhelmed. One after another, the weak candidates are filtered out swiftly. The instructors aren't surprised by the headmaster's cruel way of handling the exam. Yeah, that crazy psycho chick is actually the headmaster of the academy. Also, this test is one of mental fortitude. The reason Headmaster Lucian selected this test is because she wants to see if the candidates have enough power to withstand an interrogation by the humans if the situation comes to it. 5 painful minutes were endured by the candidates, and almost none of them were left standing, except for Renee and Adele and 6 others. The instructor initially had high expectations from the 100 candidates that showed up to take the exam. Still, it's more impressive than last year, which is a good improvement already. This batch of candidates especially includes the heirs of the 7 deadly sins. The instructors are confident of their arrival. However, they're shocked to find an unknown guy holding his ground. This kid is different from the heirs of the demonic families, and the fact that he maintained his sanity for 10 minutes is proof of his caliber. However, beyond this point, the instructors believe that the kid will cripple and fall. Though Adele is experiencing extreme agony, the male instructor senses a pulsing dark energy exuding from his body. They're all shocked, including the headmaster Lucian. Bro is out here looking like a demon god himself with this sudden transformation. Sensing the danger of the situation at hand, the male instructor senses the need to act and kill the candidate at once. At first glance, it was clear to everyone that the boy didn't appear special, but the moment he caused the very atmosphere around him to crumble, they recognized his hellish killing intent. It was a ruthless intent, as if he were one of the worst murderers ever known. That's why the instructor immediately wanted to act. But despite his preparation to act, Lucian observes that the instructor is hesitant. He is afraid of taking on a formidable threat, even though the kid is nothing more than an applicant. His colleague smiles, while the rest of the candidates are exhausted. At this moment, our boy understands that if he doesn't find a way to endure this test, he's going to crumble his mental state and go crazy, like the god of pride warned him. Then a plan sparks up in his mind. What if he used his killing intent to go against the aura of the girl conducting the test? So he does exactly that, knowing that he can't just wait around. His body exerts tendrils of red demonic energy, countering the headmaster's aura. Lucian is so impressed she wants to increase the intensity of her aura to make him submit. But the author is at the verge of going insane and actually holds his own, even after Lucian's increased intensity. It earns her attention, and at last, he succeeds in surviving the test. Even though he should be worrying about himself, his attention turns to Renee, who is holding her ground without much trouble. The same goes for the remaining heirs of the 7 deadly sins. The heir of envy, Baltan, and Prone of lust, Samuel of gluttony, Aaron of sloth, and Guar of greed. They're all holding their ground. The author remarks that he wrote some of the characters with passion, but in the end, these meaningful characters all get killed by the heroes of the story. He takes notice of the 6 members and finally turns his eyes to the heir of wrath. Donning beautiful long hair of snowy white, she has a crown of thorns and scarlet merciless eyes. It was at this moment that he was staring down the worst villain of the story he wrote. He was facing the future demon lord Diana. The first part of the exam is concluded, but Adele is busy gathering his thoughts. Now, the demon king typically comes from the family of wrath, so Diana basically doesn't have any need to be here at all. And yet, despite being a successor to the demon lord, she's come to apply as a candidate. So he wonders if something went wrong in the story. Anyway, the candidates who failed are being little bitches for being unable to pass the test. Most of them are spoiled brats who are complaining about the nature of the cruel exam. But the instructors don't give a damn about them being trust fund babies of their daddy. They make that part very clear to these rich imbeciles. The male instructor emphasizes that the applicants who couldn't even survive for 5 minutes are unneeded in the academy. And so, the gates are closed on the failed candidates. This first exam alone is enough to show just how ruthless the demonic academy is for treating its candidates. Luckily, Adel passed, and he also observes that Lucian is actually the headmaster instead of a typical supervisor. She alone is the strongest person in the demonic realm. Despite her cute-looking character design, Though he was lucky to survive the first test, he needs to hold his ground for the ones remaining. After all, most people fail in the second exam. While this is happening, the author notices that Renee is gathering a ton of eyeballs. She's got a lot of fans for being super strong with her combat ability. It only makes sense that the heirs of the 7 deadly sins are famous figures. They were able to withstand Lucian's aura as well. Poor Adele is a bit disappointed that he isn't getting noticed like all the others, especially since he stood his ground. Renee comes around praising her so-called bodyguard for passing. Though he passed, the author is satisfied to have shown to the instructors that he isn't a normal candidate. With this impression, they will be sure to remember him, or so he thinks. The male headmaster demands their attention and properly introduces himself as Aries, the instructor in charge of their education. This guy looks so intimidating that Adele thinks he probably keeps a secret knife in his pockets at all times. Aries congratulates the candidates who passed and elaborates on the test's purpose to test their mental fortitude in case they were to be interrogated by humans. The 8 applicants who survived will be granted extra points, and if they succeed in the second exam, they'll all gain access to the weaponry. It's Christmas for our boy, who is as happy as he can be for getting a chance to obtain such a prize. Well, the other candidates are equally as annoyed for failing even more now. Aries starts by explaining the nature of the second exam. First, they will show off their abilities, regarding the kind of talents they each possess to face the humans. They will be assigned a class depending on this specific exam, so they must be careful to bring out their best. Adele understands what is being asked of the applicants here, though he wonders what kind of humans they'll be going up against in this exam. Aries showcases them the opponent they will be facing for this special exam, and with the snap of his fingers, he summons a creature born from the essence of light. Donning a distinct set of armor and a recognizable sword, Adele immediately realizes that they're about to get destroyed at the hands of the strongest hero among the 6 great human families. It's basically the definition of fighting the final boss of the game while you're at level 2. It doesn't make any sense for this overpowered dude to be here. Renee observes his reaction and wonders if he knows about the guy. Of course, poor Adele can't even reveal that they're gonna go up against Ninai Sel, the head of the Ninai house, and a man closely related to the protagonist of the main story. To make matters even worse, the author internalizes that John Wick's overpowered cousin over here is actually the protagonist's father, the sword saint who stands unrivaled with his sheer talent alone. Some of the candidates are smart enough to recognize who he is, and they've already given up hope to pass this test. It's not a surprise they know about him, since this guy is a one-man army responsible for bringing down multiple demon houses on his own. Of course, even Aries understands that the kids will get massacred in a full-on battle against the Sword Saint. That's why Ninai Sel won't be using more than 10% of his strength in the fight. Initially, Renee thinks this test is about to be way too easy with those odds, but the author carefully reminds her that they're facing a literal apocalypse-level threat inside the body of a human. Even at 10% of his output, the Sword Saint can easily wipe out cities. This makes Adele curious about how these applicants will overcome the exam. He thinks that there must be some kind of criteria in place, and while the information scroll could be really useful here, he doesn't have any money to waste on it. Aries announces that they're going to be dividing the applicants in teams of 4 to take him head-on. To make it even fair for the applicants who scored exceptionally well, the top 8 will all be separated from each other, and the remaining candidates will be assigned at random. Bro is really happy to be included in that list, while Renee is a bit ticked off that her teammates are freeloading off of her. As for Adele's team, yeah, these guys are already giving him hell for simply existing in the same team. Renee gives him a cute tap on his shoulder, gesturing to him to return safely. Adele happily wishes her the same, and that's how 33 groups were formed. Adele was the leader of the last group, and his team members include Kina, Chris, and Sanchez. He doesn't recognize a single one of those names as the author, which means they're pretty much NPC characters without any specialty in moving the plot. Kina and Chris are really nice and greet him well, but Sanchez appears to be a stuck-up emo bitch with issues. He immediately attacks our boy with his words, shaming him for being a half-demon. The situation is so bad for the author that even the NPC trash characters are out here grilling his ass. Anyway, he ignores it and encourages the group to do their best. First off, he wants to clear off some roles for his team, so he starts with Chris in an effort to know about their abilities and skill sets better. Chris cooperates nicely, showcasing his mana transformation ability to morph a triangular prism into armor and sword. Though his abilities lack high killing intent, they are versatile and can be used in a number of ways. This is a really good sign to Adele, who wanted this kind of teammate. Kina is next and explains that she's a support player instead of a damage doer. With her powers, she can amplify the speed of her allies by offering a prayer to the demon god. After casting her buff on Adele, she feels really exhausted, but our boy teases her by making light of her ability. Anyway, this is really bad for him. The chick's buff is practically weak as hell, so he's got no idea how she managed to pass. Last up is Sanchez, who showcases his rock-type enhancement ability. Bro is out here turning into Super Saiyan Brown. It's not bad for a tank-type fighter. At last, Sanchez demands the leader to show his abilities. Tossing a ring in his direction, our boy casually teleports up to him with godlike speed, stunning Sanchez as he could have killed him at any second in a real battle. Kina and Chris are really impressed by their leader's unique teleportation ability. In his mind, the author willingly chose to keep the rest of his powers a secret, because he just doesn't know what they're going to be up against in the future. As for their team formation, he wants Chris and Sanchez to prioritize defense. He will take the center and Kina will support from the rear. That sounds like a good enough formation for the test, so they all agree in unison. And with that, the second exam is about to start as Ares calls the designated teams to step up. Group 1 is first in line. The author is impressed to find the candidates possessing blazing eyes of determination, even though they were going up against the Sword Saint. Well, not that it matters, because the moment the exam begins, it also ends in that very small instant. Group 1 is decimated, and not even Adele could see the Sword Saint in that small duration. Ares calls for Group 2, which also gets annihilated. Group 3 meets the same fate, and upon calling Group 4, the candidates rebel against the nature of the ridiculous exam, calling it rigged from the start. Ares excludes the 2 complaining candidates from the test, and asks the remaining 2 members if they want to still participate. Adele notices a blonde kid actually going forward with the exam, despite being handicapped. And it is at this moment, he reflects that this must be the hidden part of the puzzle to succeed in the second exam. Group 4's test initiates with the 2 kids facing the Sword Saint. The outcome of this battle is already decided as both of them are defeated in an instant. Now if he used real aura, they would be in pieces. Even our boys' team is doubting their abilities now. Sanchez is practically shaking in his boots. The Sword Saint continues to annihilate the groups until Group 10 steps up and immediately forfeits. At last, Group 20 is called and all teams until 30 are wiped out from there on. Not even one of them could land a proper strike. It was a fight against an unbeatable opponent. To his shock, one of the candidates actually blocked one attack. Interestingly, Adele noticed that fights are getting longer and longer because of the skill difference for each group. Now, he is even more certain of the passing condition for the test. Their team is a bit scared because they're about to go up against him soon. Of course, our boy tells them about his genius plan. He's figured out the criteria of the test and believes that they should fight and persevere for as long as they can. After observing the way the instructors are handling the applicants, he is even more sure of his theory. Sanchez tries to object, but it's too late as their group is called up front. Our boy is confident enough to believe they will defeat the Sword Saint in a head-on battle. His words encourage his team and they are prepared to last the longest among the duels seen so far. Deep down, Adele is planning to use the talent of the strongest villain in the story to manipulate the odds in his favor. The fight begins with an interesting formation of Chris, Sanchez, Adele, and finally their support. Since he doesn't have much information about the Sword Saint compared to other characters, he wonders what they should do in this difficult situation. He tells the team to get in formation as the Sword Saint unleashes his first strike. Our boy roars to inform them ahead of time, but with a single swing of his blade, the barrier shield is shattered, and even Sanchez can't block the attack. The author tells Kina to prioritize enforcing Chris so they can prevent the impact of his fall after he was blown away. Next, he tells Sanchez to do his job, which is basically to withstand the full brunt of the attack. Thanks to his hardening ability as a tank, they were able to block the first attack. Adele sharply assesses a gap between the second slash and realizes that it has been a trap from his opponent. He doesn't want to exploit it because he believes it is a bait to draw them in. Anyway, focusing on the battle, he informs his squad of the second incoming attack. The team gets in position, but Chris is the first to face his limitations. Right now, only one attack was able to wipe out their team. So this next one will finish the job if they are not careful. The Sword Saint unleashed his attack, showcasing the same opening. This time, not even Sanchez can withstand its force as his body is getting severe cuts from defending his team. Sanchez thinks they're gonna die, but Adele is persistent in holding out for as long as possible, questioning his opponent's next move. At last, the Sword Saint lowers his blade. Unfortunately, the test is yet to be concluded. The Sword Saint is about to unleash a final attack, but Adele wants to confront it head-on. Carving a malicious expression on his face, the author declares that he will plunge a sword against his opponent's throat, a declaration that shocks his team. The Sword Saint prepares his final attack, and Adele tells Sanchez to withstand the blow without Chris's intervention. It's a crazy idea, but Adele knows what he's doing. The Sword Saint practically demolishes Sanchez's armor and sends him flying toward the ceiling. It's at this moment that the author utilizes position transfer to switch places with Sanchez, and in the small opening he was given, he activates position transfer again to concentrate on his opponent's sword. After terminating the blade from his hand, he targets the Sword Saint head-on, aiming to drive the black dagger against his opponent's throat as a final checkmate. The attack shocks the rest of the instructors, but unfortunately for our boy, he still misses to land the clear hit and gets kicked so hard that he chokes out blood. Still, being a persistent opponent in this battle, the author activates his darkness trait to engulf their surroundings. It's only thanks to Chris's barrier from earlier that he survived the kick, or else his body would have been crippled. Though his attack failed, he successfully trapped the Sword Saint inside a barrier without a trace of light. In this void, he has the clear advantage with the Blade of Darkness in his hand. In a place like this, it basically has limitless attack potential, so he is confident in his approach. Or so he thought, because the Sword Saint menacingly turns back and shoots him a glare, before appearing right before his eyes for another attack. Even Adele thinks he's facing a monster more demonic than any demon. But luckily, thanks to his control over the dark, he pulls the dagger from a blind spot and targets his opponent. This time, the Sword Saint failed to anticipate that our boy could cast hundreds of dimensional daggers. He activates the skill as it pierces the Sword Saint's body like projectiles, impaling him throughout. The state of the black void confuses Adele's teammates, while Ares realizes the fight is over. From the shadowy mist emerges one warrior standing and one defeated on the ground. Adele is the victor, and his performance has left the candidates speechless. His strategy worked, and even impressed one of the heirs. His teammates come rushing to him for his brilliant plan. Our boy is smart, and doesn't dive into the details of how he beat the Sword Saint. As for Sanchez, the poor guy is in a terrible state, but he's being helped out by the instructors. To his teammates' surprise, the exam isn't over. As Adele explains, they have to execute one last step. Plunging the blade deep into his opponent's body, the author showcases his ruthlessness to the instructors, even amusing the heirs. Fran think he's quite impressive for being a half-demon. However, she thinks he's still naturally inferior to pure bloods. Her words just now piss the heck out of Renee, who is releasing a murderous aura to signal her response. Fran wonders what's causing the bear's princess to act up with such viciousness. It sends a chill down her spine. The 7 deadly sins are already working their way, trying to intimidate each other for the sake of rivalry. Fran's servants are lousy simps who think she will win against Renee. Back to Adele, he notices Renee radiating bloodlust and wonders what's up. But that's not important, as the instructor Ares approaches him and questions if the boy knows why he's here. Seeing his nonchalant response, Ares turns away, reminding the boy that he will be keeping close watch over him. Adele is a little disappointed he didn't get praised or something like that. Right now, a battle between Renee and Fran is being set up. Adele wonders about the identity of the demon Renee is facing. From air appearance, he realizes that she belongs to the House of Lust, but it doesn't make any sense that she's challenging Renee of all people. The author admits that he's naive for only writing deeply about his human characters and neglecting his demon characters. Fran sees the half-blood from the distance and calls him out for it. Bro wasn't expecting that, but this crazy chick makes it even worse by ordering him to become her slave. Hearing that, Renee gets even more fired up to kill the bitch, and she dives in to unleash her first attack. Seeing her guard being disrespected by the embodiment of lust, Lady Renee charged forth with her blade drawn. She refused to give Laurel Fran any time to respond. The two would have clashed if it wasn't for the instructor's meddling. He warned them that unnecessary quarrels inside the Satan campus are strictly forbidden. If they want to slice each other up, they should resolve their conflict outside the school. The students watching the fight were taken aback. If Ares hadn't intervened, something bad could have happened to 2 of the top prospects from the 7 Deadly Sins family. Renee promptly sheaths her sword with a scoff as Laurel shivered. With a concerned smile, Adele checked on his boss. She stared at him blankly as he gave her a heads up to take the stage. Instead of joining her group to take the test, Lady Renee pulled out a handkerchief and wiped Adele's sweat instead. She gently cleaned his face and complimented his good showing. It should have been me, not him. Lauren still hasn't learned her lesson and criticized Lady Renee for acting too close with a half-demon. Adele ignored her racism and was just glad that he was being treated a little better after passing the test. Looking him in the eye, Lady Renee asked if he hid his strength during the trial. Adele was confused. He had to risk a lot just to land his attack earlier. Finally, Group 34 was called to the stage, and Renee calmly made her way while promising to keep Adele's secret. She must think that he's an all-powerful priest from the family. With Lady Renee out of the picture, Laurel Fran swooped in to mess with Adele once more. Upon hearing what his name was, a sly smile appeared on her seductive face. She didn't appreciate being interrupted earlier. Emanating an intoxicating aura, she ordered Adele to leave that bear as skank and serve her instead. Laurel thinks her appeal can steal this nobody guard so she can avenge the humiliation from earlier. I know some of you would have folded. Wholly unaffected by her bewitching ability, Adele nonchalantly dismissed her and turned his attention to Lady Renee's performance. While she throws a childish tantrum, he focuses on the stage. Adele has high expectations for the children of the other 7 Deadly Sins family, but he's rooting for Renee. The Sword Saint had been rebuilt, leaking a bone-chilling aura around his attack range. It's an intense standoff, and Renee is not faltering in the slightest. Instead, she took a step forward, ignoring the 3 nobodies in her group completely. Her actions piqued even the future Demon Lord's attention. The air of envy, Balton laughed at her boldness. Adele, on the other hand, felt his alarm bells go off. Logically speaking, walking up to the Sword Saint is a death sentence. When the two were just inches apart, the aura showdown began. An old man and a young lady faced off to see who could aura farm better. After what seemed like forever, both of their expressions twisted with ferocity. The Sword Saint tried to stab her but ended up getting cut down in half, his sword and upper body sliced in two. Everyone was flabbergasted by the young lady's display of dominance. Without wasting another second in this stupid test and sparing another glance at his victim, Lady Renee quietly walked back and was welcomed with cheers. Even Instructor Aries was visibly pleased with her showing. Perhaps the most surprised of all was Adele. The Sword Saint must have sensed how good of a fighter she was and didn't dare to swing at first. Like a real stuck-up loser, Laurel scoffed at Renee's performance. Curious, Adele asked the heir of lust if a team comprised of 7 deadly sins heirs could defeat the real Sword Saint at full power. She laughed and answered that no life form can defeat the real Sword Saint as of now. Maybe if the previous Demon King was still alive, they would stand a chance. Besides, anyone with eyes would know that the pathetic fake they're using for this test is far weaker than the 10% power the instructors claim it has. Adele just realized that he had a ton of trouble with a fake with not even a tenth of the real deal's power. He created this world, but he's far too ignorant about the demonic realm. Still, the anticipation is beating in his heart. The remaining groups that are about to be tested are all led by 7 deadly sins heirs. Maybe they were fired up by Renee's performance, but the other heirs also showed why they are who they are. Every one of them trashed the fake Sword Saint convincingly, so it's hard to gauge the difference between the different families. But Adele knows the top 2 of this batch, the 2 who will go on to become major characters in the future. Once everyone had their turn, the entrance exams finally concluded. After gathering everyone in front of the podium, Instructor Aries announced that everyone who had the balls to participate in combat, regardless of the result, got a passing grade. With this, the remaining youngsters are now official trainees of Saitan. Aries warned them not to celebrate just yet, for they had just punched their ticket to a hellish road that had broken a lot of demons before. For those who have passed, the entrance ceremony will take place in 2 days' time. Those who have managed to defeat the Sword Saint must stay for a bit longer. Adele reckoned this must have something to do with the promise of the reward mentioned during the first test. The heirs of the 7 deadly sins, plus Adele, passed with flying colors, and they will have the opportunity to enter the armory. Before that, Baltan raised his hand in question. He asked if they could exit the armory with tons of weapons in hand. He's excited to see what Saitan has in store for him. This delusional question is par with the course for the Son of Envy, Lycan Baltan, who has an insatiable curiosity and appetite. Adele remembers writing quite a bit about this guy in his novel. Instructor Aries calmly retorted that trainees would have a hard time progressing on wielding multiple weapons, so they are permitted to only take one. Refusing to entertain more inane questions, he led them to the armory. He touched a wall's surface and a magical seal activated. A hidden door materialized before everyone's eyes. Aries added that this is a privilege that Saitan is giving outstanding trainees. Whether they make the best or worst choice is entirely up to fate. Instead of an armory, the entrance looks more like a dungeon gate. Aries instructed them to enter in the opposite order of the exam, and they would be inspected upon exit. That gives Baltan the first pick and Adele the last. The big guy must really dislike him, excited to get the first treasure for himself. Baltan cheekily waved at everyone before going in. Since Lady Renee already has a good weapon, she plans on picking up an artifact inside, and Adele plans to do the same. Since they've been thinking along those lines, the other heirs must also be considering it. All the good artifacts might be gone by the time Adele gets his turn. Baltan exited the armory wearing a blackthorn crown, supremely pleased with his pick. The worst-case scenario is happening. Just as expected, everyone is coming out with artifacts. Before he knew it, Adele's turn had come. He saw the bracelet on Renee's wrist and asked about its features. She simply urged him to go inside and find out the description for himself. Renee also warned him about some of the displayed items that do not have descriptions. Those things might be devoid of descriptions, but they shouldn't be worthless if they're being housed in the armory, right? Before he went in, Adele gave Instructor Aries a lingering stare. Seemingly offended by this, the big guy urged the trainee to talk if he had something to say. With an awkward laugh, Adele asked what the deal was with the items that didn't have descriptions. Aries succinctly explained that those ones are artifacts and weapons with unclear purposes and unknown owners. If one is lucky, they can score an amazing relic. On the other hand, it might bring about a lifelong curse. With one final warning, Aries pressed the last passer to enter. Adele will just have to find out if going last is a good or bad thing. Once he entered, the structure changed dramatically. It was surprisingly bright and tidy, yet he felt a little anxious. He saw the light at the end of a long hallway and followed it through. When he arrived at the armory itself, he was greeted by the sight of weapons and artifacts sealed behind magical glass. All kinds of demonic relics filled the massive room. Turning to his right, he found a unique-looking spear and read its description. It's known as the Twin Fang Spear, a weapon used by an unnamed demon for serpent hunting. Vengeful serpent spirits inhabit the tip, and when infused with mana, 2 serpents emerge. The description tries hard to make this shit sound important, but it's a trash weapon through and through. Besides, Adele already has his daggers. Next up was the Starlight Crystal, once used by a skilled astrologer. When injected with mana, the user can borrow the light of the stars to illuminate the surroundings. It's practically a glorified flashlight. That's a pass. especially now that Adele is investing in the dark element. Seeing an empty magic case, he curiously looked at the description of the item that used to be housed inside. It's the Great Circlet of the Victor. It grants the user exceptional recovery and stamina, binding itself to the user until the day they die. This thing must be the thing Baltan was wearing on his head. Adele found this discovery odd. He remembers getting rid of binding items in his novel, so he never thought he would run into one here. Looking left and right to scan the area, he became more and more convinced that all the good stuff was gone. The bind of the python is gone, and so are the flag of the demon general and insignia of the fallen noble. The 7 deadly sins took most of the broken artifacts, and most of the armor and weapons in this place are borderline trash. Thinking that he has no other decent choice, Adele turned his attention to a cursed artifact. But then he remembered a unique method only he could use. Pulling out the magic paper, he steeled his resolve to spend a bit of gold. Turning to a broken sword without a description, he asked the page for information. He was prompted to pay with either an artifact above the relic grade or 100 gold coins. Before pulling out his savings, he realized one more thing. Testing out his burgeoning idea, he turned to a damaged scroll and did the same thing. This time, he was asked to pay at least 50 gold coins for more info. Since the scroll gauges importance by cost, he doesn't even need to pay up. He just needs to go with the item that extorts him the most. There is a total of 7 description-less boxes, and he quickly scouted them. Information for the eagle-shaped black stone costs a single gold coin. It's an obvious dud. Since it's just 1 gold coin, Adele didn't see the harm in spending a little. He was met with the eagle's function. It exchanges the owner's fortune with someone else's misfortune. In other words, it's trash. Adele quickly continued prospecting the unknown relics. Some intel costs 100, and some are in the 50s. None of them are overwhelmingly broken. With only 2 more left to go, he finally found one that cost 300 gold coins, a shoulder pauldron. The page estimates it to be at least a mythical artifact. This thing puts all the other artifacts picked by the heirs into the dirt. Just as he was about to pull the trigger and pick the pauldron, his attention was inexplicably drawn by the last descriptionless item he had yet to scout. He felt the strange feeling of being watched even though he was by himself. The artifact is in the form of an unassuming necklace. Something tells him that Adele's sharp senses are tingling. So he pulled out the magic paper and asked for more information about the strange accessory. The page glowed with bright light, and it flew on its own, emanating a blinding light. The cheat paper displayed a single sentence in response. You must offer a god. This thing must be at least legendary if it demands a god for a sacrifice. Just when he thought he was doomed, he had been blessed instead. Upon thinking about this a little bit more, he realized that he was jumping the gun a little too early. Right now, he's not even associated with a minor god, let alone the demon god. For now, he decides to try infusing a bit of his mana into the mysterious necklace. After waiting for a few seconds, he was met with complete silence. It was frustrating. He has something extraordinary in front of him, and he has no idea what it's capable of. Racking his brain, he tried some more tricks using the paper, hoping to scam a bit of information by framing his questions differently. However, no matter what he asks, as long as it relates to the necklace, he keeps being prompted to offer a god in return. He's finally beginning to concede getting a lick of free info. Nevertheless, he took the risk and picked the bejeweled necklace as his reward. Regardless of function, he's certain that he got the most valuable thing in this armory. Upon equipping the accessory, he opened his status window to check for any changes. Just as he expected, an unknown trait that wasn't there had popped up. He'll just have to take his time figuring out what this thing really is. When he exited the armory, Instructor Ares questioned him about his odd pick. He truthfully explained that he picked an item without a description. When asked if he had any insider info, he honestly answered that he didn't. Technically, that wasn't a lie. Adele just can't think of a decent reason why this seems to hate him so much. Finally, the big guy conceded. He might be a little sus, but he has to trust the words of his cadets. He turned to the freshman frontrunners and advised them to take care of their chosen artifacts, for they could be their lifeline. Adele scanned the room and saw figures that would lead the demon world soon. They'll get tons of investment and support in the future, for sure. If he could siphon a bit of that resource to himself, he'd be satisfied. Upon dismissal, the hidden door to the armory vanished without a trace. With the exams wrapped up, it's time for the lady and the guard to head back to their dorm. Before they could leave, someone stopped Adele from taking another step. The smiling Baltan came up to him to apologize for his previous rudeness. He properly introduced himself and extended his hand to shake their beef out. This came out of nowhere, but Adele was not one to turn down politeness. When he took Baltan's hand, he realized that this guy was the farthest thing from polite. He immediately locked Adele's hand in a death grip, a mischievous grin on his face. Adele felt a sharp and crushing pain coursing through his hand. Baltan is the type of guy who doesn't give a damn about weaklings. He's only interested in the strong, driven by burning jealousy and envy. He once pushed the protagonist of the novel to the brink of death, but once he realized the MC's potential, the bastard spared him for another duel in the future. Liken Baltan as a battle-crazed lunatic. With that smug smile plastered on his face, Baltan goaded Adele into action. So he assigned Baltan's sword as a target for position transfer too. In a blink of an eye, he exchanged positions with the blade, tapping the bastard's shoulder. The test just ended, so Adele is not in the mood to placate a spoiled young master's whims. Besides, that handshake almost crushed his bones. In response, Baltan laughed with pure amusement. Seeing Adele's ability only served to stoke the lunatic's fighting spirit. Now he wants to fight to the death. Before things could escalate further, Lady Renee stepped up to stop the psycho. Emitting her own bone-chilling aura, she warned Baltan that she'd join the fray if he continued with his antics. Finally, the lunatic reined his aura in. As much as he loves fighting, taking on two powerhouses at once would be a bit much. He doesn't want to risk injury before school starts. Besides, there will be plenty of chances to draw each other's blood. The maniac really is crazy. He says he doesn't want to get injured, but he's down for a fight to the death. Adele can't get a clear of Baltan just yet. For now, it's time to make his exit with the young lady. Despite all those shenanigans, Adele couldn't help but look forward to life at Saitan. Back in their hotel, Adele woke up feeling refreshed in the morning. Bro is casually showing off his perfectly toned body to flex on us mortals. He feels better, and he's getting stronger day by day. Excited, he pulled out the uniform that Saitan sent over to try. After putting on standard black pants and a patched black blazer combo, he was surprised by how comfortable it felt. They are not allowed to wear anything but uniforms for 3 whole years, but at least the uniform itself is practical. Wanting to see Lady Renee and hers, he hurried towards her room and gave a knock. Upon confirming that it was her guard, Renee opened the door. Adele was taken aback by how pretty she looked in the classic blazer and skirt, illuminated by the sunlight peering through the windows. He couldn't help but verbalize his compliment, making the young lady blush. She might be cold-blooded with a blade, but her cute side is seriously killer too. Since Adele has a rare day off, he's planning to walk around the city for a bit. He bowed and advised that she rest, but was stopped before leaving. Red-faced and bashful, she asked if he was forgetting something. She reminded him that he was on a day off as a student, but not as a guard. He totally forgot about his primary job after getting too excited at the thought of resting alone. To compromise, she'll just join him on a walk around the city after changing. Just like that, his planned day off went up to smoke. His sorrow was erased by the liveliness of the city. With how clean and peaceful it is, it's hard to believe that the war took place just 10 years ago. Reconstruction is still ongoing in the outer regions. Humans may have won the war, but they failed to fully take the capital. Tugging on his sleeves, Lady Renee innocently pointed to a street food stall, eager to try some. The meat glistened as the heat brought it to the perfect color. It's a skewer of seasoned buck and vegetables. Curious if it tastes like chicken, Adele ordered 2 for him and the lady. As soon as they took the first bite, the pleasant flavor uplifted their moods. Adele was amused to see the stoic Renee making such an adorable expression. Maybe she's starting to open up to him bit by bit. The two continued to stroll around the city square while happily chatting. It's been a long time since Adele had a real break, and this will probably be the last one he'll have. Eventually, their walk led them to a stalwart statue in the middle of the capital. Adele looked at the giant statue with confusion, and Renee had to explain that it depicted the image of the first Demon King. Looking at it closer, he noticed the uncanny resemblance to Diana. It's not every day you get to see the first Demon King's features up close. When Adele tried to focus a bit more, he saw the statue's eyes glow with a familiar light. The necklace dangling on his neck resonated with the piercing glare. The stoic memorial of the first Demon King shot out an otherworldly power right into his artifact. Much to his surprise, it resulted in one of the jewels losing its luster and turning gray. What's weirder is that Renee doesn't see what just happened. She just saw Adele behaving oddly and pulling out his artifact. Normally, it's simply impossible that she didn't notice that blinding light. But based on her confused expression, she really had no clue. He remembered the page asking him to offer a god for information. Now he just discovered something significant in the most unexpected place. He's certain that this artifact is somehow connected to the first Demon King, firing him up to investigate further. With that, their walk around the city had concluded with Adele bursting with curiosity. The next morning, they headed straight to Saitan for the entrance ceremony. The headmaster and instructors stood on stage, facing around 100 new students in the auditorium. Adele can overhear the freshmen calling the headmaster a little kid, even though she's a monster who can crush them without lifting a finger. Some even find her cute. They are calling a child covered in tattoos cute. Some of Adele's batchmates need to investigate their hard drives. Suddenly, she shot a sharp glare in the direction of the scandalous students. Adele made a mental note of the possibility that she could read minds. With Instructor Aries' shout that shut everybody up, the entrance ceremony started. The headmaster gave a run-of-the-mill speech, and the atmosphere settled down. With the opening speech out of the way, the oath-taking for the top cadet and the runner-up commenced. As expected, the accolades went to Diana and Baltan. Looking at Lady Renee, she seemed unfazed that she didn't get the top spot. It makes sense, considering that her sole reason for enrolling is to take revenge on her mother. She doesn't give a damn about competition. As for Adele, he has his own agenda, no matter what anyone says. On the way up to the podium, Baltan shot him a challenging glare and a cocky smile. Adele chose to just ignore him. Getting caught up with that maniac will be nothing but bad news. When the top cadet walked up to the stage, her presence alone showed why she was on top. As expected from someone blessed by the gods, the Demon King's daughter, Diana, is unmatched. The oath of the top cadet to wipe their disgrace and rebuild the demonic realm echoed inside the auditorium. Everyone could feel the rage from those who lost their homes and families at the hands of humans. If these demons find out that Adele is from the arson bloodline, the worst-case scenario would be torture for an eternity. With the entrance ceremony concluded, Instructor Aries directed everyone to check their assigned classes on the bulletin board. Everyone lined up neatly to find their names on the board. Upon scanning the assignments, Adele found his name under Class A. When he looked for Lady Renee's name, a tear almost ran down his cheek. Thankfully, his boss is assigned to Class C. He tried to appear upset, but the smile on his face gave his mood away. She asserted that he's still her guard, and he must drop everything when she calls for him. Pleased with the semblance of independence he just gained, Adele headed for his assigned classroom. On the way, he accidentally bumped into another student. The kid turned to him with murderous eyes, veins bulging in his neck. The rude kid threatened to kill him and called him a Cerberus-looking bastard. Adele was taken aback by the unprovoked hostility from a stranger. He recognized the kid as the son of Varus, a descendant of gluttony, Samuel. He's pretty strong among the 7 deadly sins. The kid is picking a fight, even though he's at fault. Trying to avoid any mishaps on the first day, Adele apologized. Samuel is one prickly freak with an extremely punchable face. Aside from Lady Renee, it seems like the children of the 7 deadly sins are all freaks. Adele can only pray that he won't be stuck with Baltan in Class A. In the faculty room of Saitan, a heated meeting was underway. Instructor Idea was protesting that she should be respected as a proper instructor of Saitan. Instructor Aries argued that she simply couldn't be trusted to handle a particularly dangerous child, and asserted that he had more experience handling such a case. Idea found it preposterous that this guy was trying to walk all over her to take control of Class A. Mediating in between the two, Headmaster Lucian asked them to pipe down. Idea finds it unfair that she's always being targeted by criticism. To clear the air, the headmaster let Aries speak of his reason for wishing to switch classes with Idea. He simply explained that he was better equipped to handle that trainee, Adele, for he had faced countless foes like that kid on the battlefield before. One look was all it took for him to see that the boy was a natural-born killer. He's the kind who would point his blade at his allies and must be restrained right away. The other instructors think he's overreacting to a half-demon boy significantly weaker than the children of the 7 deadly sins. Aries argued that raw power doesn't define true strength. Adel's boldness and calmness are no less than the best of the heirs. This is why he wants to take over Class A, which is to keep a close eye on the cadet. So, in the end, he's simply saying that Instructor Idea cannot be trusted to handle one standout trainee. Aries is treating his colleague like a kid. Hearing this useless chatter, the headmaster sighed. She leaked a little bit of her aura, forcing the instructors to shut the hell up. While she understands Aries' concerns, switching class advisors now would do more harm than good. However, she also recognized being a bit cautious would not hurt. So she simply tasked Instructor Idea to pay special attention to the Adele boy. With that, the meeting concluded, and the first day of classes shall officially begin. Inside Class A's lecture hall, Adele is sitting quietly while cursing his luck. In front of him was Laura Fran, the heir of lust, already pestering him non-stop. At least being stuck with her would be better than being stuck with Diana. And instead of Baltan, another one of his classmates is Samuel, the prickly brat of gluttony. Laurel conceitedly asked him if he followed her into class when everyone knew that class assignments were random. With a haughty laugh, she arrogantly bestowed Adele the privilege of being her slave again. Look at those horns. Some of you would have folded immediately. While they were having a one-sided conversation, Samuel butted in and threatened to kill both of them if they didn't shut the hell up. Even for a demon, this kid is just insufferable. Laurel did not like his tone at all. Thankfully, she found another target to bother, leaving Adele alone to cry, for this would be his life in the near future. The door burst open and Instructor Idea entered the lecture hall, silencing everyone. Her presence commanded everyone's respect. When she finally got to the lectern, Instructor Idea introduced herself to the cadets of Class A. She also added that people know her more commonly as the Legion of Calamity. That nickname goes hard, not gonna lie. The students murmured amongst themselves upon hearing her moniker. She's famed to have killed 10 or 30,000 humans at the Pollux River by herself. Adele liked what he heard. With such a strong mentor, his chances of survival should improve by a lot. With introductions done, she segued into how their classes will progress in the coming days. It's quite simple, actually. She will be in charge of teaching them hunting methods. Of course, they won't be hunting animals or demonic beasts. They will be hunting, one of the main reasons why cadets flock to Saitan. They will be learning how to properly prey on humans. Adele maintained his poker face upon hearing such a thing. Instructor Idea will be solely responsible for hunting classes. Magic and weaponry will be taught by other capable instructors. On top of that, she'll also be in charge of basic stamina training. For their first class, being cooped up inside a classroom won't suffice. They need to go to the training grounds. As soon as Adele laid eyes upon the grounds, he was shocked by its size. It's maybe 4 or 5 times larger than a typical field. With everyone assembled, Instructor Idea activated her ability and summoned a swirling black hole, directing everyone to pay attention to her actions. When the black hole reached critical mass, a spread of darkness descended. The hole turned into a portal, and the sound of metal marching out bellowed. An army of human crusaders trailed out of the portal, their expressions blank. Seeing the strained looks on her cadets' faces, she assured them that these were just illusions created by magic. She also created the Sword Saint that tested their mettle at the entrance exam. Adele could tell that someone capable of creating a clone nearing a tenth of the Sword Saint's power was not someone to mess with. This instructor is a monster in her own right. While Saitan is quite formidable, he is pretty certain that the Royal Academy far exceeds it by a decent margin. Instructor Idea gave the cadets of Class A a simple task. They must pass the humans and reach her. For starters, she scanned the field until her eyes landed on a particular trainee. She called Adele up to give him the first try. With a sly smile, she dared him to stab her throat like he did with the Sword Saint's clone. Just when he thought he'd escaped the prying eyes of Instructor Aries, it seems like Instructor Idea is also wary of him. Firstly, he asked if they wouldn't have a normal direct sparring. She expounded that humans use their leader as a source of mental fortitude. They are susceptible to falling like dominoes when the leader falls. A strong leader begets a strong army. She will take on that role for this sparring. Adele thought it made sense. Sun Tzu's Art of War chronicled the concept that an enemy can be defeated by capturing their chief. As he drew his dagger, a confident smile appeared on his face. Subduing a leader in the middle of an army is way too easy. Instructor Idea jovially added that subduing her is impossible, so a simple tap of a hand or a weapon on her body will suffice for a passing grade. And so, she ordered her human army to begin their assault. A second had barely passed, and Adele had already transferred from behind the overconfident instructor. His dagger could lop her head off if he wanted. The confident smile was erased from her face as thick killing intent froze her in place. Adele playfully asked if this was considered a pass. They started off separated by a dozen meters, but this much distance is practically nothing to him now. All he had to do was transfer twice to sneak up on her. He's steadily progressing the cap on his position transfer. Soon he'll be the perfect assassin who can bring down any enemy base with ease and finesse. Instructor Idea laughed. She's not naive enough to leave her body unguarded. Her body is protected by a barrier. At least now she gets why Ares is so adamant about watching out for this kid. She gave him a passing grade and told him to get back in line. As he walked back to the pack, he wondered if what he sensed was hostility or curiosity. Either way, it made him worry about his identity being leaked. Instructor Idea praised Cadet Adele and warned the rest of the class that those who fail will receive additional classes. And so, Class A took turns trying to break through an army of human clones. As expected of demons, they got the basics of combat down pat. It also helps that they're fighting against the equivalent of normal humans without powers. Still, all everyone had accomplished thus far was taking down a few puppets that the instructor wasn't even directly controlling. One by one, the cadets were forced to surrender upon being overwhelmed by a sloppily assembled battalion formation. The next cadet who was called up saw the mistakes of his classmates and tried to use elevation to bypass the wall of human puppets. He was quickly shot down by a group of puppet archers and their arrows. Adele awkwardly smiled at such pathetic displays. Times like this remind him of how broken position transfer really is. At this rate, he should be able to aim for the top of the class. Next on the list is none other than Samuel. Adele is looking forward to seeing if this brat's cocky attitude matches his skill level. Upon taking his starting position, Samuel began by accumulating mana around his body. The amount of concentrated mana continued to grow until the pressure around the area soared. Befitting of his brashness, Samuel's mana coalesced into a swirling tornado of pure destructive power. The other cadets were almost blown away by the scathing wind. Adele watched in shock as Samuel wiped the whole human battalion into one fell swoop. This is his first time seeing magic at such a high level. Samuel's gluttonous unique ability is a monstrous skill that can devour everything in its path. Adele reckoned that the kid might take the top spot in the class for now. But when the dust settled, Instructor Idea emerged unscathed. In fact, she was quite disappointed with this batch. Adele expected as much. There's no way an instructor would let herself get blown away by a cadet. Samuel's attack wiped the board clean beside the leader. It was an impressive feat, enough to give a slight shock for a brief second. Unfortunately for him, he fails like many others. Samuel was taken aback, seemingly wanting to appeal the decision. Instructor Idea simply snapped her fingers and showed why something elementary was useless against her. Behind her was a whole army of human puppets. Once more, she emphasized that if a leader is left alive, humans will always find replacements to fill their ranks. Stretching all the way out of the field, Adele estimated that there should be about 200 puppets behind the instructor. All Professor Idea can say is that Samuel's magic is impressive, but only for a fledgling first-year cadet. The prickly Samuel knew better than to talk back. So, he scoffed and walked back to the pack. Adele was quite surprised that the kid could take the harsh result, albeit full of discontent. When their eyes crossed for a second, Samuel felt his anger rise higher. The kid's overconfidence in his ability is the root of his failure. If he focused all that power on the real target, he could have passed this test without any issues. The initial assessment continued as Idea called on another cadet. A high and mighty laugh bellowed from the crowd. Laurel Franz stepped up to the plate, excited to get her turn in the spotlight. The other cadets were certain that she'd pass. It'll only be a matter of how. She stood in front of the puppets, calling them minions who dared block her path. Her arrogant words did not elicit the response she was hoping for. Nervously sweating, her haughty words stopped coming. Seeing that she couldn't use her abilities on the puppets, she desperately thought of a way out of this mess. As Adele expected, the heir of lust is not the type to fight directly. Back in the entrance exam, she used her teammates as crazed minions while staying at the back, barking orders like a queen bee. She's practically harmless without minions. Desperate for a solution, she turned her attention back to the flock of cadets and locked gazes with Adele. With pleading eyes, she asked for help but still referred to him as a slave. Unaware of their one-sided dynamic, the entire class silently discussed what they just heard. Adele wasn't going to help Laurel in the first place, but now he definitely will not. Tired of her crying, Instructor Idea ordered her army to charge forth. Laurel recoiled at the sight of the puppets swarming her. They surrounded her and rained punches and kicks. Adele couldn't believe that she didn't even bother learning to cast buffs on herself. Everyone watched as the puppet beat her up for a concerningly long time while begging for help. While everyone was focused on the beating, Adele's attention was drawn elsewhere. He just watched one of his classmates heal a wound completely. Healing magic is a power that only humans can use. Since that's the case, it's safe to assume that this pink-haired cutie must be a half-demon too. Healing talent is rare as is. A demon that can heal is practically non-existent. While he doesn't remember this girl's name, he made a mental note of finding a way to connect with her somehow. Just when he was about to approach her, Instructor Idea tasked him with helping Cadet Fran back to the classroom now that the test was over. Her timing couldn't be any worse. He'd rather try getting acquainted with the healer instead of babysitting a spoiled brat. He kneeled down and flicked the beaten and battered Laurel on her forehead, calling her useless. Adele poked her repeatedly to wake up and get up. The trashing she could live with, but being humiliated in front of everyone made her feel worse. At least when she calls him a slave, he can just clap back that she's pathetically weaker than one. Before the end of class, Instructor Idea ordered everyone to gather and line up. She had some high expectations, but the results were disappointing to say the least. Still, today is a good first lesson. It's important for these youngsters to experience overwhelming defeat to get a sense of where they stand in the world. It's imperative that they see where their flaws are and what mistakes they make. Finding out their limits early on is a big step forward. Knowing these allows them to support one another in battle. Adel found it odd that Saitan uses random class placement when human imperial schools usually split students based on their abilities. Instructor Idea touches on the concept of synergy. Despite all the failures today, one student passed the test. Singling him out among the crowd, Idea shot him a lingering glance, claiming that she'd be paying attention to his progress. Adele awkwardly thanked her while feeling the gazes of his classmates burning behind his back. Finally, they were dismissed and directed to return to the classroom for their next class. If the instructors are hostile, so are his batchmates. Samuel, in particular, looked like he was ready to pounce. Adele is worried that, at this point, building up his own faction might be next to impossible with all the meddling of those pesky kids from the 7 deadly sins. After hunting class, the rest of the lessons went on without a hitch. Next in their schedule was theoretical education. In theory class, they learned about the history of the demonic realm and the cursory weaknesses of humans. Adele diligently listened. Today he learned that demons have practically the same body structure as humans. Getting hit in certain parts equates to the same level of pain. Next time, they'll be having a quiz, so the instructor reminded them to study. It was surprisingly normal. Nevertheless, Adele found going through school tedious when he'd already gone through this in his previous life. It's only the first day, but he's already feeling defeated. Just like in his previous life, he had no friends to talk to after class. Speaking of friends, there's this one girl he's been trying to get acquainted with, the pink-haired lady who has healing powers. Since the next class won't start for a few more minutes, perhaps this is his chance to talk to her. Slowly walking up to her desk, the two exchanged a glance. With a warm smile, Adel properly introduced himself. The girl stared at him in silence while the rest of the class dropped whatever they were doing and paid attention to the two. Now that he's thinking about it, Adele realizes that when two half-demons do anything together, they are bound to draw attention from the masses. The girl is visibly uncomfortable with this, so it would be best to save the rest of the conversation for next time. So he quickly extracted himself from the awkward situation. Heading to the door, he just wanted to head to the restroom and feed loneliness to his mana or something. Suddenly the door opened, and Samuel walked in. For the nth time today, the two locked eyes. Adele just wanted to get out, yet this prickly brat looked at him like he was lower than garbage. Trying to keep the status quo, Adele reluctantly deferred and made way for Samuel to go in first. As the kid passed Adele, Samuel scoffed and murmured about how he's a nauseating, low-class creature. Everyone has a bottom line. Adele tried his best to stay out of trouble all day, but he's finally reached his limit for bullshit. He turned his head and sarcastically praised Samuel's family, seemingly touching on a sore spot. Samuel unleashed his stinky aura and asked him to repeat what he just said. Doubling down, Adele praised the gluttonous family for producing absolute garbage that can walk and talk. Those words pushed Samuel over the edge. Though, to be fair, it doesn't take much to provoke him into unbridled rage. Unlike Balton, who knows when to push and pull, this dumbass cannot control his pure hatred and hostility. If this kid is going to get in the way of Adele's plans, then it would be better to just take him out of the picture right now. Samuel contorted and shaped his mana around his body, forming a spiky armor. Adele was unfazed. He thinks that he should be able to get away with blowing an arm off if he frames the incident properly. But before the two could collide, the instructor for the next class had already arrived without anyone noticing. After dispelling their raging auras, the slick-backed, glasses-wearing instructor smiled kindly and politely asked everyone to take their seats. Both Samuel and Adele didn't even sense the instructor entering the room. With the instructor breaking up the fight, Samuel dutifully deactivated his power. Well, that's because it was turned off forcefully. The instructor not only appeared out of nowhere, but he also dispelled all talents within an effective radius. With that settled, it's time for the bespectacled educator to introduce himself. For that, all students must return to their seats. Samuel annoyedly clicked his tongue, and Adele was surprised that the mad dog had accepted the situation with just mild annoyance. He walked back to his seat as the rest of the class quieted down. The instructor enthusiastically introduced himself as Robolt. Is ChatGPT teaching magic now? Now it makes sense how this man dispelled all magic with seemingly no sweat. To become an instructor in Saitan, one must be highly skilled. In any fantasy world, the first thing that often comes to mind is magic. When Adele was still a novelist, he didn't write magic as a talent or latent trait. It was something entirely different. He was partial to seeing magic as a skill that is closer to being something one can improve with hard work. Depending on the perspective, it could even be seen as an academic pursuit. Instructor Robolt started off his lesson by giving his students one concept that they must carve into their minds: the concept of attributes. The core elements of magic are earth, water, wind, and fire. 4 base elements. Add in the rarer darkness and light magic, and you have 6 total basic attributes. Most people have just 1, but Adele could feel that he's attuned to 2. The Bears family is definitely inclined to the darkness attribute, but he's not quite sure what the Arson family practiced. Today's lesson will be a quick and easy one. The cadets will be identifying the attributes of their mana through a simple test. All they have to do is place their hands on an orb, and the change in color will reveal their affinity. As the students sheepishly fell in line for the test, Adele decided to stay back and observe first. The first one in line went up to the front, nervousness apparent in his face. When his palm made contact with the orb, it projected a crimson hue, indicating the fire attribute. Next was green, a sign of the wind attribute. Everyone had their turn, and the class had a surprisingly diverse lineup of elemental affinities. Since the process was fast and efficient, it did not take too long before it was Adele's turn. Instructor Robolt called him up to the front, and unlike the other students, he already knew Adele by name. Aside from that oddity, he was given the same instruction as the rest. When his palm made contact with the orb, it unleashed a dark aura with a glint of pale light. Just like everyone in the room, the instructor was taken aback. Robolt took a closer look at his ball and gasped at the extremely rare phenomenon. Half of the light is black, and the other half presents a gray color. Logically speaking, black often signifies darkness, usually found in high-ranking demons. But a gray hue is new even to the instructor. Well, he's not entirely unfamiliar with the spectacle. As far as he knows, gray light represents chaos, the attribute of magic that defies the natural order, a real outlier. Aside from what it's called, the instructor doesn't have any information about anything else. Adele, on the other hand, was completely oblivious. This is the first time he's heard of such an attribute. He never even wrote something like this in his novel. For now, it would be best to focus on the attribute of darkness. Messing with magic that defies the natural order without more info could be disastrous. As the lecture continued, he could not take his mind off that gray light that the orb produced. It seems like he's not the only one who's been obsessing over this newfound mystery. The daughter of Lust has been eyeing him since earlier. When Adele called her out for creeping behind his back and staring too hard, she was adorably flustered that her stealth technique was detected. She just wanted to come a bit closer to ask about what he was thinking, pulling a dangerous stunt earlier before the instructor arrived. Laurel Fran warned him against provoking Samuel, which was a ticking time bomb. Adele simply asserted that he's not the type to stand idly while he's being picked on without good reason. Laurel almost cursed him out for messing with someone from one of the most notorious and powerful families in the demon world. He argued that outside forces can't interfere with Saitan's business, so status doesn't really matter. But that is not the point Laurel is making. This matter is not just about demon versus demon, some innocent scuffle. Before spilling some privileged information out of frustration, Laurel stopped herself and sighed. All she could give Adele was a piece of advice. Adele must be very careful from now on and watch his back. He reckoned that Laurel must have wanted to tip him off about the Gluttony family's notoriety for exacting brutal revenge on their enemies. Either way, with the last class of the first day, he must focus up to close up without any more incidents. Come to think of it, the last instructor in today's docket is someone he's already met. Slamming his hand into the desk, the swordsmanship instructor, Ares, intimidated the cadets to submission. The hulking demon insulted everyone in the room for being weaklings who didn't even deserve to sit in his class. He was disgusted with the entrance exam turnout. Despite facing a measly 5% powered puppet, all groups except the top 8 were annihilated. Adele reckoned that Aries must be trying to provoke the class by hurting their pride. In this swordsmanship class, Instructor Aries aims to make sure that these cadets can at least take an opponent's arm in case they die in battle. In order to do that, today's first lesson is the importance of cardio. In other words, they will run until they drop. Aries believes that the foundation of swordsmanship is pure and raw physical strength. Any fancy technique backed by endurance can easily be magnified by 2 to 3 times in power. The allotted time for this last class is ticking, and the cadets have been running for 30 laps. With watchful eyes, the instructor spotted 2 cadets, namely Laurel and Samuel, doing something unforgivable. They were using mana to run without spending stamina. For that, the 2 heirs of prestigious families will be punished. For their punishment, they will be starting over this hellish run from the beginning. Adele was pleased with how those rich kids were dealt with for using tricks. Back in his day, he had to beat down knights after possessing a body before escaping to the demon world. Finally, Instructor Aries gave the much-awaited signal to conclude the diabolical class. Of course, only those who have completed 50 laps can proceed to their assigned dorms. Those who did not finish in time will have to take extra lessons. Today was no joke, but Adele miraculously got through it with minimal trouble. After freshening up, his next stop is the dorms. The first day was surprisingly exhausting. All he wanted to do was find his room and lie down as soon as he could. Unfortunately for him, Lady Renee found him walking on the way to the dormitory. She looks like she has a bone to pick with her so-called bodyguard. Swiftly regaining his composure, he asked his boss what was up. When asked about her first day of classes, she responded with a despondent silence. He wondered if someone offended Renee in her class or something. Before inquiring further, he needs to take this conversation away from prying eyes to avoid misunderstandings. Finally, the lady spoke and laid down her complaint. She was actually upset that the instructors did not give her nearly enough training, so she wants him to join her for some cool-down exercises. Adele, who just sweated his balls out in the field a minute ago, was mortified at the mention of more extraneous activities. Unable to say no, she led him to the personal training ground for cadets nearby. Even though it's tough, tagging along for some extra training with a child of the 7 deadly sins makes sense. Getting stronger increases his chance of survival. They arrived at the facility, and it was surprisingly spacious and well-equipped. Almost every machine was taken, and everyone was seriously working hard to improve their physical strength. Of course, Lady Renee immediately went for the heavy-duty weights. Adele volunteered to take a crack at the barbell first, confident that his years of working out in the previous world would make this easy. He tried a simple deadlift. This dude looked like he was about to shit his guts, and he could not even make the thing budge in the slightest. Lady Renee frankly called him a weakling and warned him to stop before he got hurt. He must have forgotten that the original Adil Arslan spent his whole life confined indoors. The lady grabbed the barbell he was straining so hard to move and did a perfect overhead press in her uniform without breaking a sweat. She has the ultimate sleeper build. In terms of pure strength, Adele is miles behind this girl. He needs to work hard and get some meat in his bones. The cool-down exercise she dragged him into stretched for a non-stop 2 hours before Renee reluctantly agreed to stop. It's about time to pack it up and go to the dorms. Overall, the tail end of Adele's first day was one big training montage. Curious about his current gains, he decided to take a peek at his status window while Renee was changing clothes. Well, he's still a chaotic half-demon with plenty of traits, a position transfer talent, and a mana count of 1321. Even though he's been diligently practicing mana manipulation every night, it only increased by a measly 24 points. It looks like he's entered the slowest growth phase. Maybe downing some elixirs would help. When Renee finished changing, he was knocked away from his contemplation. After escorting her to her side of the dormitory building, he implored the lady to get some rest. If Adele had stayed in that training facility a second longer, he would have collapsed. Following the directions he was given, he traversed the higher floors of the dormitory for his room. According to the letter of acceptance, he was assigned to room 407. Upon arriving at the 4th floor, a row of ornate doors stretched before his eyes. Standing before the one that had his room number, Adele wondered what kind of roommate he was about to bunk with for the year. He solemnly prayed for someone with good character, a potential ally, if you will. He's about to meet his potential first friend in the demon world. He felt a little giddy as his heart raced in anticipation. Adele opened the door with a smile and polite greeting but stopped his words midway through. Sitting on the left side bed was none other than Samuel, son of Varus, the bastard he was beefing with. The single worst person to be paired with. Both of them were stunned in surprise, clearly unaware that they would be put into the same damn room. When the initial surprise wore off, tensions quickly rose as hostility filled the air. Miraculously, these two managed to not pounce on each other on sight. They were in a similar foul mood upon confirming that they would have to share a room for an entire school year. The mortal enemies would occasionally glance and size up each other only to turn away when their eyes met. Of course, the racist dipshit still refers to Adele as a filthy half-breed. Hearing those poisonous words, Adele sighed and abruptly stood up. Samuel also got into position, ready to duke it out at a moment's notice. Adele is not dumb enough to invite trouble by fighting. He just can't stand being in the same room as this arrogant prick, so he's going out for a bit. Before opening the door to make his exit, he forebodingly wished the dipshit a quiet rest. Based on the dark circles under his eyes, Samuel doesn't look like he gets much sleep in the first place. After walking out of that prickly dorm room, Adele walked carrying his frustration. He'll just come back when the prick is asleep. How can a guy who's not even a descendant of wrath be so consumed with seething anger? Samuel is supposed to be the descendant of gluttony, right? With his train of thought in disarray, Adele found himself wondering about this chaos magic affinity of his. Questions about this unknown mana attribute nagged at his mind. Maybe he should ask the information paper if they know something about it. But if they have any leads, surely Instructor Robolt would have shared it with him, or he would be learning its power through inscriptions right now. Besides, obtaining information costs a lot of money, and he is currently as broke as the one watching this video right now. For now, the best use of his time is finding a place to train his mana techniques. While he was wandering the nearby woods of Saitan, he spotted a singular sparrow. The little fellow was cute, but there shouldn't be any kind of critter around this place. Adele sharply took note of this oddity. With a stoic poker face, he turned away from the bird and went on his way. When he finished mana training, the sun had long since set, and the dark night had set in. Opening the door, Adele found his hateful roommate asleep in his bed. Luckily, he won't have to deal with more bad vibes. Absolutely exhausted, he hopped into his own bed, feeling as though he was about to pass out at any second. Still, he wants to squeeze in every second of training he can get, and that includes the minutes before bedtime. As soon as he closed his eyes, exhaustion took over and knocked him out cold. Upon sensing that the half-breed was asleep, Samuel got up from his bed and hovered over Adele with a malicious gaze. Samuel just stood there menacingly. He just walked over to watch his new roommate sleep while talking trash about his looks. Normal stuff. What the brat cannot accept is the blatant insult to his family name. He recognizes that he was in the wrong, but Samuel won't be caught dead apologizing first. He sighed and turned around. Sharing a room with this punk is just adding to his already full plate. Still, he can't seem to forget the performance Adele put on during class earlier. When he saw that swift and decisive technique, Samuel's heart throbbed painfully. He felt a painful sensation that he had experienced before. Recalling the image of the half-breed and instantly finding the instructor's vital point in the blink of an eye made Samuel shiver uncontrollably. He could feel the call of hunger kicking in. His gluttony is running wild again, causing him agonizing starvation at a moment's notice. It felt like his insides were drying up to an unbearable degree. At that moment, Adele tossed and turned to face his roommates grimacing while he was off to dreamland. On top of his uncontrollable hunger, Samuel has to keep looking at this fox-eyed asshole every day. Fortunately, the night passed without much fuss. When morning came, Adele got up from his bed with renewed energy. He looked out of the window to get some sun but saw something more fascinating instead. The bird he spotted yesterday is perched on a tree branch near his room. For a place that is strictly sensitive about foreign intrusion, Saitan sure sucks at hiding its invasive intent. This basically confirms that someone is trying to keep an eye on him on this campus. Adele would put his bet on Instructor Aries. That guy is relentlessly onto him. After slyly scanning the little fella's mana, he confirmed that it was definitely a living being, something that could be tamed through various methods like food. Speaking of food, that brat Samuel must have already gone out to have breakfast. The dude didn't even fix his bed. At that moment, Adele realized his big mistake. He does not know where the hell the dining hall is. The allotted time for the first meal of the day quickly passed, and the first class of the day, under Instructor Idea, arrived. Adele ended up missing breakfast as he aimlessly wandered around the campus looking for food. This is a rough start for his second day of classes. With a grave expression, the instructor prefaced today's class with an important announcement. For their homeroom, the class will choose a representative. It's only the second day, and the class barely knows each other. Naturally, some of them had questions about how they would select one for the crucial role. Initially, Instructor Idea was planning on a democratic vote, but she just changed her mind on a whim. Instead of putting it into voting, she will personally appoint the class rep. Before she could even blurt a name out, a certain bold lady was already preparing her acceptance speech. Laurel Fran could not stand idly any longer. She stood up and praised the instructor's impeccable decision-making. In the novel, the instructor chooses Fran to represent this particular class, since Samuel's unpleasant personality makes him ill-fitting for a leadership role. Laurel, on the other hand, has a very inflated ego. As a representative, she wants everyone to treat and call her the queen. She might not be the brightest, but she's the best choice for the job. She certainly has the charisma of a leader and the best support skills. While she was busy claiming the role that wasn't hers yet, some of the other students were hoping that the competent Adele would be their representative until they remembered that he was a half-breed. Maybe his performance was a bit too good. Still, he is flattered to hear his name come up for something so important. Waving useless thoughts away, Adele quietly approved of Laurel Fran's inevitable appointment. Instructor Idea held her tongue as the vivacious lady urged her to say the name and make this nomination official. With a sigh, Idea blatantly shot Fran's overconfidence down by asserting that she was not going to be the class rep. Not used to getting rejected and passed over in her entire life, Fran could not make sense of what she was hearing. Without mincing words, Instructor Idea announced that the class representative she chose was none other than Adele Pixie. There was no one more surprised than the man himself. This is an absurd progression. There has to be some hidden agenda here. No one in their right mind would approve of a half-demon representing the whole class. Instructor Idea expressed her high expectations for the young man, hoping that he would lead everyone to success. After dropping that bomb of an announcement, she scurried off to another class she had to oversee. Samuel was visibly frustrated. The dude he's been wanting to tear apart just keeps moving up in the world. Classes will now heavily focus on practical training to prepare for midterms. Until the end of the day, they must group themselves into 3. Adele dug into his memory and recalled what midterms and practicals entail in a place like Saitan. It is more than likely that they will be tested on their ability to kill live humans. After all, that is the point of all the training they are undergoing. In combat, killing is imperative. Before promptly concluding today's brief homeroom class, Instructor Idea turned to Cadet Fran. With a venomous smile on her face, she warned the young woman to never talk so casually to her ever again, unless she wanted private lessons. Idea recognizes that keeping Fran's ego in check is practically a requirement. The task of submitting the team list by the end of the day naturally falls in the new class rep's hand. Setting the list aside, no one has any idea what the upcoming practical even is. Maybe they'll be fighting Idea's dolls again. If that were the case, though, there wouldn't be a need to form teams. In the novel timeline, it's still too early for the human world's terror incident. Anyway, what matters now is making a proper and functional team. Well, he already has one person he badly wants to pull into his fold. In the faculty building, one of the instructors is marching down the halls like he just heard the worst news of his life. Instructor Aries looked like he was ready to bitch slap anyone brave enough to stand in his way. Without knocking, he barged into Idea's office with his voice at full volume and his tone hostile. Seeing how calmly Idea responded, it's safe to assume that she's already expecting this visit. It's been a while since she had seen this dude looking so serious. It's kind of amusing for her. Aries came out swinging with his inquisition about the selection of that dangerous kid as class rep. The announcement was made just a few hours ago. Aries sure has efficient eyes and ears all over Saitan. Instructor Idea vehemently defended her choice. She knows the implications of what she did. This will be a temporary situation, but she thinks giving Adele authority over Class A is the best course of action. Instructor Aries refused to hear any outlandish reason she could come up with. He wants that class rep selection overturned and someone else appointed immediately, or else, even with that veiled threat, Instructor Idea stood on business without budging on her decision. She simply rejected Aries' demand like a real one. Aries clutched his head in frustration. He can make threats all he wants, but he really can't act on them against a fellow instructor. The thing is, Idea actually liked that kid. He has top-tier skills, and he's not an arrogant brat like those 7 deadly sins descendants. Furthermore, he's backed by the Bears family. Still, Aries firmly trusts his gut that the boy can't be trusted. After all, there's nothing more dangerous than a blind blade. Instructor Idea sighed and walked away from the argument. She will handle everything, so Aries better stay out of her way. She is supremely confident in her eye for real talent. Unable to do anything about the decision, the big man just stood there helplessly. Now he's regretting not pushing harder to take over that class. He feels a foreboding feeling about leaving someone so dangerous to a new instructor. Most importantly, the kid reminds him of a half-demon who left him with an unforgettable battle scar from a past battle. He could not shake off the eerily similar vibes of that killer to Adele's. While the chances of blood relation are slim, it cannot be overlooked. They don't even know what motivates that fox-eyed wolf. Aries walked towards the window and whistled for his little bird. So far, all the reports he's been getting are clean. Adele hasn't done anything that raises red flags. Just to be safe, keeping surveillance should suffice for now. He can't afford to take his eyes off a threat, even for a moment. Back in Class A's classroom, the cadets have been busy trying to form teams during break time. Adele might be the newly appointed representative, but not a single soul has approached him yet. He's worried that he might look too shady or something. Hell, even that asshole Samuel is getting offers to team up. He doesn't really mind who he groups with as long as they're not dead weight. Seeing him so easily get folded in annoyed Adele to high heavens. Since offers are not exactly flooding, it is about time to make the effort and approach someone himself. As expected, no one is approaching the half-demons. Just like him, that healer girl was also ignored. So his first target for recruitment is a fellow half-breed. Unfortunately, the girl sees her as some sinister being who's up to no good. Seeing him walking towards her menacingly nearly gave the poor lady a heart attack. She was so tense that she let out a tiny hiccup. It was Adele's fault, really. He was trying to scan her mana, and that must have startled her. Her mana pool is pretty deep, and her healing is invaluable. She would be the perfect support. Putting on the most disarming smile he could muster, Adele reintroduced himself. In return, she also introduced herself as Luna. Finally, he popped the question of teaming up. He even sprinkled in his class rep position to spruce up the invitation. At first, she was hesitant to give an answer, given how scared she was of the guy and the implication of two half-demons being in one group. So, he applied a little more pressure, reminding Luna that they don't have much time before the list of teams is to be submitted. With a little bit of push and intimidation, he was able to secure an affirmative answer. As they were finalizing the deal, Laurel Fran overheard their conversation and inserted herself between the two. With her perpetually haughty attitude, she butted in with her signature laugh. As if she was doing the two a favor, Laurel offered to take them under her wings. Adele tries his hardest to reject the insistent spoiled brat to no avail, while Luna is caught between two arguing powerhouses. She asserted that she still refuses to recognize Adele's authority as class rep, seeing herself as the true leader of Class A. He could tell that this girl wouldn't take no for an answer, so he ended up adding a 7 deadly sins descendant in his little circle. Adele also appointed her to be the team leader with the stipulation that every decision must go through him first. It would probably be better to have this kind of setup when it comes to Fran. This way, he can stroke her pride while also making use of her and her name's prestige to some extent. A whole week quietly passed without much trouble. At this point, Adele recognized that he had hit a bottleneck in his mana training. For the whole week, he only increased his pool by 1 point. He seriously needs external help from an elixir. In addition, he still can't find any relevant information on the Chaos attribute at all. His best bet is on this week's Magic class. On top of that, Kreet's worm poison is becoming unstable. He'll probably have to always keep the little critter on him now. At the very least, his prick of a roommate isn't causing him any grief, so that's a relief. Even so, he can't help but feel like things will be improving from now on. Today, Instructor Idea entered the classroom with an enthusiastic greeting to her cadets. She looks excited, so something good must have happened. Then, she announced that today's class would be a bit special. Class A is going to have a field training session. It's their first field class, and it will be held outside of Saitan. They will be heading to the location known as Oregon. Bro, they're going to the United States? Well, in this world, Oregon is the prison that houses humans who failed to return to their territory during the Human-Demon War. In other words, Oregon is a prisoner of war camp. To make the journey a lot faster, they will be taking the dimensional train. The clueless students heard that they were going outside the boundaries of school and were giddy with excitement. They are so focused on going outdoors, but if they knew what kind of place Oregon really is, they wouldn't be smiling and chatting so ardently. This is Adele's first chance to venture outside the school property, and he lucked out. Aside from training, there are more ways to get stronger. Soon the main characters will discover a special opportunity in that god-forsaken prison. Adele has the knowledge and knows how to get to that encounter before anyone else. The problem is seizing that thing without attracting suspicion and avoiding all the eyes around him. The Oregon guards are no joke either. His train of thought was interrupted by the cheery Fran. He must have looked a little stiff. So Adele laughed it off as nervousness for his first field class. Fran assured him that there was no need to worry with such a capable team leader by his side. Adele is kind of looking forward to seeing all that confidence and energy sapped out once they get to Oregon. Still, the girl's attitude cheered him up a bit. With a rare opportunity looming on the horizon, Adele is eager to get his hands on some much-needed power-up. The dimensional train announcer promptly notified the passengers of their arrival in Oregon. It's time to disembark. Instructor Idea led the way, as the cadets looked up to a sinister building exuding misery. While the kids were dead silent, their instructor looked right at home. On the way to the entrance, they had to walk by a few metal cages housing the bones of previous prisoners. As expected, the atmosphere was intense. The cadets who were expecting some leisurely place for field training are now shaking in their boots. To ease them up a little, Instructor Idea explained that there won't be any combat tests today. She said it as if something awful wasn't obviously about to happen. That woman has a twisted sense of humor. The guards of Oregon welcomed the Satan cadets with complete indifference. According to Adele's estimation, these guards must be as strong as instructors based on the pressure coming from them. With the verification done, they were invited to follow along closely. The walls of the hallways were inlaid with torches. It looked medieval up in this camp. Every stereotype you can think of was present. When they walked a little deeper into the facilities, desperate cries of humans begging for help and mercy became audible. Even the usually upbeat Fran was skeeved off. As they continued walking, an odd stench filled the air. Adele was inwardly laughing at the cadets who didn't know what they were about to experience. As expected, that prick Samuel doesn't seem affected or even remotely bothered at all. He's a weird one, that guy. Upon descending some stone stairs, Instructor Idea signaled for a stop. Suddenly, the ceiling opened, and they were welcomed to today's true training grounds. They are about to see the true face of Oregon, but it isn't pretty. With moonlight pouring in from the open ceiling, the cadets were finally able to see the miserable prisoners inside their cells. For a human, this place can be the closest thing to hell on earth. As everybody can tell by now, this place holds humans who dared to attack the demon realm. They are labeled as brutal criminals who have demon blood in their hands. Some of the worst of them even murdered pregnant women and children. Since everyone looked so curious about the subject of today's training, Instructor Idea tasked one of the guards with bringing in a test subject. With a malnourished and defenseless prisoner kneeling before her, Idea stimulated her magic. The threads of her power extended and wrapped around the poor guy. With a sadistic look in her eyes, Idea conjured a ball of pure misery made with magic and opened the prisoner's mouth. What happened next made the cadet's stomachs turn with its brutality. That wasn't the case for Samuel, though. He liked that gory shit. The prisoner was forced to swallow Idea's ball, and his head immediately twisted and shifted into something unimaginably grotesque. After a few seconds of unbearable agony, the prisoner's noggin exploded into bits and pieces of meat, blood, and brain matter. Instructor Idea just demonstrated the extremely simple premise of this field test. Cadets must kill one human however they please. Any method is allowed. Those who have weaker stomachs couldn't bear to look at the aftermath of their instructor's bloody demonstration. Adele, on the other hand, felt nothing at all. His psyche must have become completely one with the original demon who had this body before him. His goal won't change no matter how dirty his hands have to be. He will survive to the end and fix this wretched world's ending whilst fulfilling the original Adele's wish. To test her newly appointed class representative, Idea called up Adele to take a crack at the task at hand. Without saying a word, he walked up to the nearest cell and opened the gate to take his pick. Chained up against a wall was yet another underfed prisoner of war. Knowing what was about to happen, the poor sap looked at Adele's dagger with terror. With an emotionless tone, the young man extended a courtesy to hear the man's last words he wanted to leave behind. With vitriol and pure hate, the man screeched that his only regret in life was that he could not kill more demon bugs. He warned that humanity would wipe out every last demon in existence. Hearing the ramblings of a hateful madman fueled Adele's swift and clean blade swing. Knowing that he's killing such a piece of work felt oddly satisfying. When he walked out of the cell, Instructor Idea was clapping for his impeccable performance. The instructor and the class rep have had their turn. Now it's up to everyone else to enter their chosen cells and let human blood stain the floors. As for the half-demons in the class, they have to step aside with the instructor for a moment. Adele watched as Idea led them to the other side of the facility. He never knew that there was another half-breed in the class other than him and Luna. Speaking of Luna, she looks like she's not cut out for this brutal test. You see, Instructor Idea prepared a few specially designated prisoners for the half-breeds. Instead of killing humans like the rest, they must take the life of a fellow half-demon. This way, they can prove that they are not traitors to their demonic blood like the scums in this lineup. Seeing the traitorous demons who joined the human side when the war erupted, most of the half-breed cadets felt their blood boil. They have suffered and were persecuted because of the disloyal actions of many. Instead of using a weapon for a cleaner kill, the half-demon cadets used their fists and feet to beat the ever-living crap out of the defectors. Adele watched and listened to the sounds of bones breaking and helpless pleading. On the other side of the prison, Samuel led the charge by summoning his gluttonous apparition to devour his human prey. Sounds and the stench of death filled the air as Luna tried to tune the depravity out. Samuel didn't even need to kill with such brutality, but he's just a real sicko. Adele worries that if Instructor Idea sees Luna's complete breakdown from the pressure, the poor girl will be in trouble. As for Laurel Fran, she inquired if using her abilities to get the kill would count as a pass. Instructor Idea gave her the green light and chose a cell for a victim. She brought out 2 prisoners and put one of them in a spellbound trance. With complete control, she passed down the kill order. The puppet prisoner turned to his lifelong comrade and strangled the life out of his own kind. Instructor Idea gave Fran the pass and reminded her to fix what she still lacks over time. The girl doesn't seem to lack latent hatred toward humans, but she's a lot more fragile than Adele thought. Since they were up against chained-up prisoners, it didn't take too long for everyone to get their kill. Now there's only one remaining cadet who hasn't done her part yet, Luna. With a complete and undivided focus on the poor young lady, she must prove to Idea that she's not a traitor to their kind. If she can't complete this training, there are broader implications at play due to her blood. All Luna wants to do is disappear at this point. She slumped into the ground and cursed herself for being so pathetic. Luna came all the way to Saitan to avenge her mother, who lived a hellish life because of a man unworthy of being called a father. But she can't even get over her passivity. Seeing his teammates struggle, Adele stepped in to offer some much-needed help. He rolled up his sleeves and swore that she would get through this test with a pass. Luna felt apprehensive, but the young man had already taken out his dagger to get started. He turned the blade around and placed it in her hands. It may be frightening, but she must power through the fear. With the dagger in her hand, Adele gently guided its direction with finesse. In this state, all she needs to do is slowly move forward and stab the heart. She closed her eyes and did as she was told. Before Luna knew it, Adele was already collecting the blade from her hand while patting her head for a job well done. If he had not stepped in, things would have taken a turn for the worse. It's obvious that nothing good would happen if a half-demon refused to kill a filthy human. At the very least, she would be expelled. At worst, she could face a very painful fate. After helping Luna, Instructor Idea expressed her displeasure in seeing her class rep overstepping. Clearly pissed at Adele's tampering, there's no way that Idea would give the girl a pass after such a pitiful display. He reasoned that Idea laid out the rule that using one's ability to kill a human net is a passing evaluation. Cadet Luna is the only one among them with healing abilities, something more suited for a supportive role, and she is more valuable than most of the cadets who passed. By that logic, Adele is implying that he would gladly abandon other cadets with insufficient talent. He stood on business and asserted that he would do just that. Instructor Idea was quite pleased with his response. Since she liked how bold this class rep was, she turned the other cheek and gave Luna the pass. This time, he was just lucky that Idea was a complete psycho instead of a traditional instructor. If they had Ares overseeing the test, his approach wouldn't fly. When Instructor Idea walked out of the picture, and Adele congratulated her for passing, Luna's nerves finally got the best of her, and she fainted. Come to think of it, Luna passing out actually works perfectly for Adele's next plan. It's about time to begin the real game and seek what he really came here for. He knows the layout of Oregon like the back of his hand, and there's plenty of time before they head back to Saitan. Against explicit orders to stay close to the rest of the class, he ventured even deeper into the depressing prison. As expected, the security became tighter the deeper he went. He needs some lube, a miracle, to descend underground. Deeming it worth a try, he enveloped his whole body with pure darkness. With his improvements in mana control, he was able to pull it off. With his body hidden in darkness, infiltrating the underground passage of the prison should be barely probable. Moving as carefully as he could, Adele tiptoed around the patrolling guard's blind spot. Upon drawing a little too close, he had to step back and hide upon feeling hostility. Adele's heart skipped a beat. He can't afford to be discovered now. Thankfully, the guard only made a cursory scan of the area before moving on. That scary dude must have sensed the subtle difference in the atmosphere, as expected of an Oregon guard. After passing the risky parts of the prison, he finally found the only empty cell on the entire first floor. If he remembers correctly, the secret passage should be hidden inside. Using position transfer, he trivialized the lock of the prison cell. As soon as he stepped foot inside the four-sided cage, the pressure mechanism on the floor kicked in. He struggled to stay upright and prevented any noise from leaking out while he fell to a seemingly endless drop. His best bet on landing safely is by using his rough knowledge of how deep the protagonists descended in the novel. After counting in his head for a few seconds, he sent his dagger flying down. As soon as Adele heard the sound of his blade making contact with the ground, he used position transfer to swap places. In doing so, he cheated the laws of physics and landed without as much as a scratch or sound. The first part is done. Now, he must traverse the underground waterway. On the way, he expected to run into a spawn area of toxic black slimes. Their poison is highly lethal on contact. In that case, he chose to aim for their cores from a safe distance. Thankfully, he has the Fang of Darkness for a long-range black blade rain. Each of the dark mana blades stabbed into the slime cores with perfect precision. Black slimes are troublesome and lethal, but they're not really a big deal when you exploit their glaring weakness. After reaching the edge of the underground waterway, he must go deeper under the pungent black goo. Without hesitation, he jumped into the murky goo, hoping not to run out of breath midway through. Suddenly, he heard a foreboding voice inside his head telling him not to go any further for a great evil lie ahead. Adele never wrote anything about this voice and this warning in his novel. As far as he's aware, he is heading to a site where a demon who rebelled centuries ago lies dormant. The great evil mentioned might be the beast that even the Demon King couldn't handle and had to seal away. Either way, he's too deep to turn back now. He'll just have to see what's in store beyond the light. After what seemed like forever under the black goo, he frantically swam up to the surface of a hidden chamber. In front of him were the remains of a chained-up prisoner who rotted away to the bone. Scanning the morbid thing, Adele recognized that the opportunity was probably hidden inside the decayed heart of that skeleton. Giddy from the exciting treasure in front of him, Adele motioned to grab the rotten heart, only to be stopped in his tracks. When he got close enough, the decayed heart glowed with a bright crimson and vigorous hue. The light from that heart seemingly pumped life back into what remained of the sealed prisoner. Adele wasn't expecting any of this absurdity to happen. With new life pumping into the skeleton, its eyes lit up with golden fire. A crucifix insignia manifested behind the wasted prisoner. It has an uncanny resemblance to the emblem of the Arson family tattooed on Adele's neck. That means the fabled traitor of the demon realm was connected to his family after all. Defying all logic, the skeleton talked with a booming voice, recognizing Adele as the child of Arson. Unnerved and curious, his ears perked up to listen. Someone who can hear the skeleton's voice is bound to carry the same burden as he did in his life. That's the fate of the blood that carries chaos. For Adele, he leaves a warning not to be devoured by the raging chaos, the force that distorts the order of the world. If one becomes obsessed with finding its meaning, one is bound to become lost in the end. After issuing the bone-chilling warning, his remains crumbled into dust as the rotten heart fell on the floor. Upon touching and picking up the decayed organ, it lit up once more. Through his palm, it imparted a constant hunger, the will that seeks nothing but utter devastation and destruction. He must have touched upon the remnants of his ancestors' innermost desires. Looking at his status window, a new trait has been added. Telekinesis! Eager to test it out a bit, he drew his dagger and made it move using his mind. Unfortunately, all he can do right now is lift it up in the air for a few seconds. It's not a matter of lacking mana, but an issue of low proficiency. Nevertheless, he will need to train this new ability with diligence. Aside from this possibly overpowered technique, discovering a clue about chaos affinity beyond just raw power was unexpected. This sneaky operation was a huge success. Since there's nothing else left to gain in this damp shithole, Adele better return with the rest of the class before someone notices his absence. When he arrived, the first one who spotted him was Fran, and she looked suspicious. Using the simplest excuse, he claimed that he was just walking around the area. Well, Oregon is not really the place to take strolls. To cover his tracks, he insisted that sightseeing caged humans is oddly pleasing to him. Dismissing Fran's irritable ramblings, he looked for Luna. Fortunately, she seemed a lot better than the last time he saw her. He joked that she slept so soundly that someone could have carried her off without anyone noticing. Ignoring that joke, Luna thanked Adele for helping her with the field test. She would have undoubtedly failed if it wasn't for him. That means the girl is indebted to him now. He'll certainly cash that debt in the future. Finally, Instructor Idea called her cadets to gather up. Thankfully, there were no dropouts on today's field exercise. She also noticed the change that a lot of cadets underwent after getting their hands dirty. They still need refinement, but today, there was a big improvement. It was a short stay that felt long. Now it is time to leave this godforsaken place and return to Saitan. Another week quietly passed since they returned from that unforgettable trip. Not much really changed. Adele noticed that the half-demons had overcome some of their fears through the experience of killing their own kind. Meanwhile, every second of Adele's downtime has been dedicated to training up his telekinesis, while the professors keep hinting at the upcoming midterm exam. In the novel, the first-year students of Saitan launched an all-out invasion of the Imperial School around the time of midterms. This upcoming event is no joke. Adele could tell that not everyone in this classroom would ever return in one piece. Yes, the One Piece is real. Today, Luna kept on stealing glances at him and turning away once he stared back. Based on her expression, she looked bothered by something. So, he decided to approach her with a smile to check what was going on. She wasn't responding, so he gave her a little startling. When asked if something was going on, she frantically waved the question off. It looks like she won't be sharing her thoughts so easily. So, Adele invited the young lady to have lunch with him later. Hearing the invitation seemed to cheer her up a lot. With that being said, they are set to meet in front of the dining hall at noon. Luna is emotionally unstable but way too easy to read. She doesn't seem that frightened by everything anymore, and she seems to trust Adele after Oregon. A few hours later, the lunch period was almost over, and Luna was still a no-show, worrying Adele. He doesn't want to go in and eat alone since he normally doesn't even eat lunch. It can't be helped, so his time would be better spent on more training anyway. As he was about to walk back to his dorm, Adele spotted Lady Renee and the Demon King's daughter, Diana, walking his way. Upon seeing perhaps the most dangerous duo in Saitan, every fiber of Adele's being screamed at him to run and not get involved. So, he frantically used position transfer in order to hide himself. Even so, Lady Renee sensed a faint trace of his presence. Thankfully, she did not investigate the surroundings further, as he was just hiding behind a brush. Considering what he experienced back in Oregon, he's been a little more paranoid about getting outed as a descendant of the Arson family now. Not only did his family play a pivotal role in defeating the Demon Realm, but more importantly, they were directly responsible for the brutal death of the Demon King. To add salt to the wound, the Arsons even added the Queen to their kill count. While the ladies were trying to make sense of the presence, they both just felt Adele quietly snuck away. That was a close encounter. He really needs to be more cautious around the campus. His sneaky shenanigans landed him in a hidden spot behind the dining hall. The ample space and quiet is a lot better for training than his stuffy room. Maybe he stumbled upon a decent spot. Unfortunately, the peace and quiet didn't last too long as a frightened scream echoed nearby. Adele recognized the terrified voice and immediately ran in its direction. His suspicions proved to be correct. Luna was being harassed in an alleyway. Seeing the young lady being ganged up on made Adele's blood boil to dangerous levels. She turned to him with a glint of hope. Calming himself down, Adele scanned the goons and recognized them from his class. He can pretty much grasp what's going on here. With barely concealed rage in his voice, he asked the goons to return to the classroom. They must be ganging up on Luna when everyone here is also half-demon. The goon leader pushed back against Adele. From the beginning, these half-breeds never recognized Adele's authority as a class representative. These goons have no game at all. Believing that Adele wouldn't be able to handle a 3 versus 1, they were quickly proven wrong. With pure mana imbued with killing intent, Adele grabbed one of the goons and choked him without lifting a finger. The other two were taken aback, feeling the unnerving hostility of the class rep. These fools had the gall to stand up against him when they couldn't even move after feeling just a little bit of killing intent. He let the fool drop to the ground, looking down on the pathetic worm. Much to Adele's surprise, it seems like he underestimated one of the goons standing on the sidelines. The boy with the spider mark on his cheek wasn't scared of him. In fact, this dude is calmly analyzing his moves. After making an example of one, he implored the goons to stop embarrassing themselves and run. Hearing them bark even more, Adele gave one last warning, an opportunity to shut the fuck up. It's still lunchtime, and he'd rather not see his intestines before a meal. Limping away, the three stooges retreated with their tails tucked between their legs. The boy with the spider tattoo was still calm and collected as he stared at Adele with apprehension. Such a composure is unusual for a cadet. Aside from Luna, there might be another diamond in the rough in Class A. Once the goons were gone, Luna ran up to her savior with sincere gratitude for the help. Since they got held up for too long, their lunch meeting will have to wait for another time. The class will begin soon, so they had better hurry back. He heard that they are finally learning real magic today, so he doesn't want to be late. Day by day, Luna feels closer and closer to her fox-eyed knight. A few minutes later, Instructor Robolt entered the classroom and excitedly broke the news that they were finally delving into learning magic for real-life scenarios. Today's focus will be on invisibility and silence, two techniques that shouldn't fall in the hands of pervs. Coincidentally, these two are also the original Adele's forte. The purpose of learning these two techs is simple. How do you deal with someone stronger than you on the battlefield? At times, the only answer is assassination. For some, such underhanded methods aren't an option but a necessity. Right now, no cadent in Class A can defeat a human hero in a head-on fight. To get started, Robolt first demonstrated invisibility magic. He carefully explained how to heat their demon tattoo slowly as they circulate and release mana gradually. Even with a low mana purity level, one must try to spread the cover thinly and evenly across the whole body. Failing to do so will result in failure. After flawlessly executing every step of the process, the instructor seemingly vanished without a trace. That must have been why no one noticed when Robolt walked in during his fight with Samuel. Reappearing in the same spot he vanished in, the instructor tasked the cadets with wrapping mana around their bodies. First, they must close their eyes and devote all focus to the difficult and precise handling of mana. This step will take time, so patience is required. Even if they accidentally succeeded in a few tries, the caster should still be able to see their own body. Every cadet tried their hardest to devote all brain power and mana control to the task at hand. Robolt estimated that it would likely take more than a day for one of these brats to stumble into some semblance of success. One of the standouts was Laurel Fran. She has a deep mana pool and good control, as expected of a 7 deadly sins child. More impressively, the kid known for his brashness, Samuel, is exhibiting an astounding level of control. His body is already looking faint. He must have a natural talent for the technique. For normal cadets, a week of practice is the threshold to get a feel for invisibility's intricacies. Fran and Samuel are already at the prodigious level. While he was busy praising the rich kids, Robolt realized that one of the standout cadets was missing from his classroom. The kid with the chaos attribute that Ares warned him about. When he looked at Adele Pixie's seat, the physical form of the boy had already completely vanished. He could recall that the boy was sitting in that seat when he started the lecture earlier. While the instructor was having a mental crisis, Adele easily maintained his invisibility spell without much effort. Thanks to his body's latent talent, invisibility magic was way too easy to master. In fact, he's already trying to come up with ways to incorporate his chaos attribute into it. The invisibility and assassination skills they broach today won't cut it against those who are truly strong. He needs a more potent way of killing. As he was heading back to his dorm, Adele was stopped by Instructor Robolt in the hallway. The instructor just wanted to know if he had ever practiced magic before he was admitted to Saitan. Seeing no harm to it, he admitted that he's a first-time magic practitioner, but has always been able to use his inherent talents. Seeing that he has a generational talent in his hands, Instructor Robolt invited Adele to visit his lab from time to time. Bro is the LeBron of invisibility. He praised the young man for his exceptional potential for magic and the untapped possibilities of his rare chaos attribute. He is practically flowing with research value. Adele may be supremely talented in assassination, but it would not hurt to look into other avenues. Since he has something lined up today, he promised to come by Robolt's lab some other time soon. It would help his campus life a decent bit if he kept up the act of being a magic genius. Sitting in his dorm bed, Adele needed to take care of something before midterm started. To do that, he needs a technique beyond mere invisibility. Since Samuel isn't around, this is the perfect time to practice. If the events are consistent with his novel, then there must be a human spy hiding in the demon realm. He can't risk being found out by that person. Adele needs to find and kill that son of a gun, no matter what. A high-level spy will be incredibly tricky to deal with, so mastering his trump card is key. Going above simple invisibility, he intends to exist yet not exist at the same time. With the seamless integration of his compatible attributes and his firm grasp of the original invisibility magic, he succeeded within just a few attempts. It worked. In fact, it worked so well that he couldn't even see himself anymore. As his presence and existence fluttered away, Adele felt a grim premonition. He might have overdone the non-existence part of the technique, and now he's struggling to breathe. His body feels strange, and his instincts are telling him to dispel the dangerous magic. When he tried dispersing the mana away, he found that he could not force deactivation. He needs to do it right now, or he will actually vanish out of existence for good. Focusing every bit of his being into wrestling his mana back in control, he managed to dispel the modified invisibility after much struggle. In that state, his sense of time and all of his senses turned blurry. It was truly a horrifying feeling to be out of control. On top of that, his mana was severely depleted, making it a struggle to put a stop to his erasure. If he hadn't clutched up, he would have been lost to complete and utter nothingness. This experience made him understand why the ancestor warned him about being devoured by the power of chaos. Still, he can't give up on such a promising trump card. An entirely new technique that combines a well-known spell with the attribute of chaos will be a lethal weapon in his hands. It shall be called absolute invisibility. Out of nowhere, while he was panting in exhaustion, his dickwad roommate barged in and kicked him with full force. Samuel was yelling at him fervently, but he could not understand a word he was saying. Come to think of it, he can't hear his own voice either. The worst-case scenario wriggled its way into his mind. Could it be that he lost his hearing? After things had settled down in the dorm and his hearing came back, Adele chose to stick with training his new tech in the outskirts of Saitan. This time, he had better control of absolute invisibility. Thankfully, the rebound did not cause him his hearing this time around. Instead, it caused him to lose his eyesight. Now he's certain that using absolute invisibility comes at the cost of losing one or two of his senses. He's been repeatedly testing and tweaking his spell for a week now. He had experienced losing his hearing, taste, touch, and now, vision. Fortunately, the drawback only lasts for about 2 hours each time. The bad thing is, he can't pick or tell which senses will be lost in advance. As he is right now, the technique can only be safely used for about 3 seconds. In other words, it's practically useless. A high-risk and low-reward technique is good for nothing. Perhaps he could unseal the technique if he can guarantee a kill. Aside from practicing absolute invisibility, he also tried combining his chaos attribute with other traits to no avail. The most straightforward way to get stronger right now is through swordsmanship and mana training. Without his vision, he's stuck in the woods for 2 hours with no sense of sight. Since he made a habit of coming out here early in the morning, he shouldn't be late for class later. Today, Class A is under the care of strict instructor Aries. After regaining his vision, Adele was forced to fall in line and run like his life depended on it. It's been weeks now, and all they've done in this class is cardio instead of learning the way of the blade. After a grueling stamina training session, Aries ordered the cadets to gather up. As class representative, Adele had settled into the role of relaying orders from instructors to his classmates. Of course, this always rubs the musclehead the wrong way. He's still bitter that Adele was appointed in such a crucial role. After clearing his throat, Instructor Aries announced that they would start reducing physical training time to begin incorporating proper swordsmanship lessons. Adele wasn't the only cadet who was pleased to hear that the running would be cut down. Today's swordsmanship lesson shall start with a demonstration. Upon drawing his blade, Instructor Aries beckoned the class rep to step forward. Adele had no choice but to capitulate. Aries rudely asked him if he was able to channel mana into his sword yet. He truthfully answered that he could do just that. Aries sternly asked him to go all out with his mana sword and try to launch an attack. As a handicap, the instructor won't be using any mana, just pure strength. Knowing this vindictive bastard, he must be trying to set a scene that would humiliate Adele. Before going on the offensive, he confirmed that Aries would only be using his sword. With that stipulation established, Adele drew his trusty dagger. He might be allowed to use mana, but using his innate traits might be pushing it. For now, he wants to test the waters and see the instructor's skill level. From the get-go, he could tell that man's stance has no openings to exploit. In the human world, he would be at the expert advanced level, give or take. But in the demon realm, sword skills are mostly judged by how much mana one can channel through their weapon. Human ranks don't mean much in this world. In the first place, channeling mana into a weapon is not an easy feat. Adele could tell that the instructor was underestimating his capabilities, and that he hurt his pride a little. If that's the case, he just needs to exceed expectations. Darting forward like a loose arrow, he aimed for the kill through the right carotid artery. Of course, landing the opening attack is easier said than done. Shifting angles, Aries easily moved out of the way. Then, the second part of Adele's assault is initiated as he twists the blade's handle. He circled back with a quick follow-up attack, confident that he could land a critical strike. Aries glared at him and insulted his unfinished technique. The instructor flexed his bulky muscles and tanked the dagger without raising the guard. Then, a brutal counterattack to his spine laid Adele down on the floor. His fellow cadets watched as Ares used excessive force on a simple demonstration. Adele's landing made a large crater on the training ground. He coughed and huffed for air. His lungs deflated from the ruthless counter. Without stopping, Ares raised his blade, seemingly aiming for the cadet's neck. Based on the killing intent he was exuding, Adele could feel death looming closer. From the crowd, Luna worriedly called his name. With one hand lifting the hefty blade overhead, Ares struck down with the force meant to bring devastation. Once more, the impact destroyed the floor of the training grounds. Even Samuel could tell that this was a little too violent for a swordsmanship lesson. If that depraved kid felt that way, you're doing something really fucked up. Fortunately, Adele had enough of a buffer to imbue his body with mana and roll away from the impact. Thanks to telekinesis, he managed to push the sword aside at just the right moment to survive such savagery. If he had been a little late or a little early, he would have been cut in half. Ares felt the disturbance in his blade. Adele stood up and confronted the bulky bastard for trying to kill a cadet for nothing. Ares pulled out the dagger lodged in his chest like it was nothing, and calmly refuted the allegations. He threw Adele's blade on the floor and ordered him to go back in line and shut up. Afterward, the scumbag instructor asked the class rep how it felt fighting someone of his level in direct combat. Adele did not mince his words and asserted that what happened was a tactic used by the weak. Elaborating on his answer, he was allowed to use mana, but the enemy placed limitations on himself. What he gathered was Ares must be trying to show the class the only way for the weak to defeat someone stronger. One must be prepared to sacrifice oneself to deal damage to the enemy. By his estimation, Ares could have easily dodged his follow-up final strike, but the brute intentionally tanked the blade as if he planned to do so from the start. Much to everyone's surprise, Ares gave Adele credit for coming up with the correct answer. He wants to impose upon these cadets that the human realm is filled with terrifyingly powerful individuals. It is nearly impossible to defeat such fighters without doing risky plays. Demons have to resort to luring these powerhouses into complacency. When the situation calls for it, they must boldly expose their weakness for a chance at a surprise attack. What he teaches isn't the noble art of swordsmanship. In the real world and in real wars, such things don't exist. Ares will never teach his cadets pretty swordsmanship, only the kind that will win. Actually, they won't be limiting themselves with swords. From now on, this is a weapons class. He's basically telling them that death doesn't matter as long as you get the W. Ares is instilling this idea for the upcoming midterms. By now, the human Imperial School instructors must be gearing up on high alert. The human world spy must have already leaked the current situation in Saitan. In the novel, Saitan cadets will drop like flies while Imperial School students will come out unscathed. Ares likely suspects that Adele is that spy. In order to clear his name, he must root out the rat first. After one flashy demonstration, Instructor Ares dismissed his cadets. While the other walked back to the classroom in an orderly manner, Adele stayed in his spot. Ares looked at him with annoyance and asked if he intended to rebel because of what happened earlier. Of course, he denied such a ridiculous sentiment with a smile. But as soon as the instructor turned his back, Adele's veiled hostility burned. He can't really rely on the guy who's suspecting him of being a spy. Ares also abhors the murderous and ruthless side he's shown from day one. Adele couldn't help it. He's completely integrated into that aspect. Besides, a killer instinct is imperative to gain enough authority and status to suppress the strength of the 7 deadly sins. Of course, if Ares keeps on crossing the line like in that training ground, Adele will do everything in his power to give that musclehead a taste of the consequences. While he was plotting some revenge on one of the instructors, Luna approached him and felt some of his murderous aura leaking out. He apologized for startling her again. It was not intended this time around. She just came over to make up for the last time they were supposed to have lunch. Maybe today would be the day. Adele readily accepted, and her face lit up with excitement. Inside the dining hall, they ordered some lavish meals fit for aristocracy. It's been a long time since he had something this luxurious. Well, it's been a while since he ate lunch at all. There were so many delectable dishes spread across the table. Luna worries that leaving leftovers might get them punished by the demon god of gluttony. As they were about to start eating, the goon squad that Adele bitch slapped walked in. They took notice of Adele and Luna. Before they could think about messing around with the class rep present, Adele waved at them with a smile, and the 3 stooges chose to mind their business. Unlike the other 2, Spider-Boy is still fascinated by Adele. Adele found this a good time to ask Luna what really happened with those 3. She confessed that she was being bullied by the other half-demons. She doesn't know why. They just started picking on her at some point. She blames herself for being weak and lacking any special physical abilities. Perhaps she doesn't see just how valuable her healing power really is. Luna added that the 3 never physically assaulted her. Instead, they just curse at her while passing by and take her silver coins from time to time. Hearing that she was enduring such a shitty situation, Adele advised Luna to always stay near him from now on. Luna asserted that she doesn't need protection. She just has to prove that she's not a traitor to demonkind. But that's all the more reason to stick together. Since he'd been meaning to do some digging, Adele asked Luna what she knew about the kid with the spider tattoo. Maybe he's from Hunter x Hunter. As far as Luna knows, the boy's name is Kyle. Hearing the name rigged Adele's memory, reminding him of someone named Kyle mentioned in the novel. Asking more questions, he found out that Kyle is a pure demon, but he's hanging out with the half-demon crowd. In Luna's eyes, that boy is particularly scary. He looks at her like she's a disgusting bug. Isn't that precisely how they looked at humans back in Oregon? Yeah, Kyle just entered the top of Adele's suspected spy list. He briefly considered asking the information paper for confirmation, but it might just be a waste of money he doesn't have. To save himself from further headaches, it would be better to check directly. After all, he's got plenty of relevant data on this spy. So, Adele got up from his seat and approached the table of the Three Stooges with a polite greeting. Immediately, they reacted with a mixture of fear and hostility, while Kyle remained indifferent. Offhandedly, Adele mentioned that he heard about a girl in the Imperial School's first year. Kyle remained seated, focusing on the meal in front of him. Adele added that the girl is a half-demon with one surviving relative, an older brother. At that point, he could feel Kyle smoldering in his seat. To elicit a reaction from the suspected spy with a sinister tone, Adele name-dropped the girl, Ray. At that moment, Kyle must have realized that his cover was blown, and Adele was a much bigger problem than he anticipated. In the next scene, our hero Adele is talking with a student named Kyle, who has a tattoo mark on his cheek. When one of Kyle's friends interrupts their conversation, our hero suddenly slams the boy's head into the dining table. Seeing this, Kyle himself leaves the cafeteria, but the hero becomes certain of his true identity. Later, Kyle's injured friend is cleaning his wounds in the bathroom and complains about him. He says that Kyle himself was the one who convinced them to trust half-demons and was also the one who wanted revenge, yet now he is backing away from the plan. Hearing these disrespectful words, Kyle gets angry and beats up his friend as well. Doing this, he orders his third companion to bring this boy out of the bathroom. Alone in the bathroom, Kyle feels confused about how the hero managed to recognize his true identity. He knows that the disguise magic is still functioning perfectly, and it was cast by one of the greatest magicians. Since he himself is also a half-demon, he believes the chances of being exposed should be extremely low. He wonders who the hero Adele really is and how he knows about Kyle's sister. Because of this confusion, he makes a decision that before the hero can reveal his secret to everyone, he himself must eliminate him. That night, he enters a secret room and prepares for his mission. He equips several knives and takes out a small magical communication device. Through it, he decides to send the information he has gathered so far, reporting that Adele may have already discovered his true identity. While he is focused on sending the message, Adele suddenly enters the room. The student gets shocked by his unexpected appearance and throws a pen at him to attack. The hero easily dodges the attack, but he soon notices that the pen is no ordinary object. Kyle uses it to create multiple magic circles and launches a series of spells. Seeing this kind of power, the hero realizes that this student is also a half-demon. The student then throws multiple lightning bolts and demands to know how the hero learned about his younger sister, Ray. The hero dodges the attacks and thinks about Kyle's true motives. He knows that this student has never been acting for the sake of humanity. The real reason behind his actions is his sister Ray, who was born with a rare and abnormal constitution that causes an uncontrollable amount of mana to accumulate within her heart. Her condition is considered incurable, and to save her, Kyle chose to cooperate with humans. The hero tells Kyle that he has never met his sister in person, but he still remembers her beautiful smile. Hearing these words, the guy gets angry and declares that he will kill our hero and force him to reveal everything he knows before he dies. He immediately launches a powerful lightning bolt at him, but our hero easily dodges the attack by using his teleportation skill. Doing this, he assumes that Kyle may finally realize the difference in their strength and stop fighting. But to his surprise, Kyle doesn't lose himself. Realizing that ordinary attacks will not be enough, he activates his full power and prepares to continue the battle with everything he has. The hero notices that this attack consists of 20 lightning shots, but he also knows that dodging them is very easy for him. When the student throws all the bolts at once, Adele first shifts his position using the incoming attacks. In an instant, he moves behind the student and prepares to strike. The student gets shocked and cannot understand how the hero manages to move so quickly. Before he can react, our hero gives a light strike to his neck, to which Kyle faints down instantly. Afterward, the hero decides that he has to kill the student right here, but he immediately rejects the idea, realizing that the student still holds important information. And if he kills him, his sister Ray may eventually become an enemy to the hero in the future. He believes that by now, his sister has likely already been cured. He knows that she has received help from the protagonist and has become a dragon contractor. With the heart of a dragon, she is now able to control vast amounts of mana and will likely grow into a powerful mage worthy of her role as the story's heroine. He also notices that the student's magical device only transmits information. This means the student does not yet know that Ray has already been healed. Because of this, our hero decides that instead of killing him, he will control the situation and make use of the student for his own purposes. While he is focused on this, the student suddenly wakes up, but feels confused when he realizes that Adele has not killed him. The hero confirms that he has been waiting for him to regain consciousness, but says he has already taken action in the meantime. He then reveals a small poison dragon, to which the student gets shocked because he has recognized what kind of object it is. The hero explains that the poison is called twin goo. Even the slightest stimulation will kill its host, and it only functions when it exists across two separate bodies. Hearing this, student Kyle immediately understands what this means. Our hero explains that the other half of the poison is inside Kyle's sister's body. He says her sensitivity to mana is so extreme that her heart cannot handle it, allowing the poison to enter her body easily. However, he clarifies that even though her condition is rare, it is not truly incurable. The student refuses to believe him, so the hero feeds his own mana to the poison dragon as proof. The hero also thinks to himself that Rei's body constantly overflows with mana, which overwhelms her heart. The poison instead consumes that excess mana, stabilizing the condition. He is confident that, given how much he understands about her situation, Kyle will not be able to resist his explanation for long. When the student realizes that the venom is actually beneficial for his sister, he asks the hero what he truly wants from him. The hero confirms that he does have a purpose for the student, but before explaining, he warns him that both his life and his sister Rei's life are now under his control. He then mentions his demands that the first task is for the student to send false information to the Imperial School through his magical device, reporting that the third-year hero candidates will be attacked at Saitan Academy. He adds that he understands the student's concern, since his sister is also enrolled at the Imperial School, but he assures him that if he follows orders properly, he will personally guarantee her safety. Hearing this, the student finally agrees to complete the first task. The hero then tells him the second task that the student has to withdraw from Saitan Academy, as he needs him to work from outside. He orders him to collect and organize rumors and intelligence about rare locations within the demonic realm, and report them regularly. When the student accepts this as well, the hero feels satisfied, believing the student is now completely under his control. However, the student suddenly adds one condition, that he wants the hero to form a demon god contract with him. Hearing this, our hero gets stunned because the demon god contract is only used for forming extremely important bindings. It is a sacred oath, and if it is broken under the demon god's name, it can cost the breaker their life. Despite this, the hero agrees to form the contract. However, he explains that the contract requires a special item that only mages of a certain level can create. He asks the student if he already has it, but the student refuses and tells him that the hero must obtain it himself. At first, the hero feels confused, since no ordinary cadet would possess such an item. Then he suddenly remembers that the magic instructor, Robolt, might have one. He tells Kyle that he will try to acquire it today, and asks him to meet again the next day at the same place. As the student leaves, the hero thinks that he has successfully secured a useful pawn. However, he also realizes that this alone is not enough. Even if he uses the student to spread false information to the Imperial School, he is still uncertain whether he can pass the midterm exam himself. Later, the hero goes to Instructor Robolt's office as planned. The instructor gets surprised by his visit and goes to prepare tea for him. From behind, our hero observes the office and notices that the instructor is not only interested in books, but also engaged in magical formulas and research. The instructor then serves tea to the hero and thanks him for coming here like this. The hero turns on a serious matter, asking why the instructor requires his assistance. When the instructor hesitates to reveal the details, the hero assures him that he is even willing to sign a demon god contract if necessary. Hearing this, the instructor feels good and summons a pre-prepared contract document by using magic. Before proceeding, our hero adds a condition of his own, that if he finds that the task exceeds his capabilities during the research process, he will withdraw from the agreement and return all compensation received. The instructor then asks what compensation he expects. The hero states that he just wants some mana potions along with a demon god contract scroll. The instructor agrees with his demands, and then they start their work immediately. He moves a book on the shelf, to which a hidden passage door opens up in the office. As they step inside, the hero realizes the space resembles an underground laboratory rather than a simple room. The instructor then presents a book he has been searching on before. The hero immediately recognizes it as an ancient tome, but when he opens it, he finds that it contains no written text at all. The instructor explains that most of the book is blank, but a few pages at the end have some writing. The hero asks about where he has found this book. The instructor replies that he discovered it inside an abandoned house during a trip to the western desert. He describes how he came across it lying alone in the middle of the sand. Nearby, there was a large oasis, suggesting that a settlement once existed in that area. The hero then asks if this means the village disappeared, leaving only the house and the book behind. The instructor opens the final pages and shows the remaining text. However, the hero notices that the writing is made up of distorted and unreadable characters. It is clear that no normal method can decipher it. The hero asks if any progress has been made in understanding the book, but the instructor clarifies that there has been none. The hero suggests that there may be clues around the place where the book was discovered. The instructor explains that he already investigated nearby villages, but no one has ever heard of the abandoned house or the book itself. Hearing this, the hero realizes that he has to start the investigation from the beginning. As he studies the strange writing more closely, his own necklace suddenly starts reacting strangely. He notices something unusual. The distorted text starts transforming into readable words. When he reads a line, he cannot understand its meaning, but the reaction from his necklace makes it clear that it is connected to the demon god. He informs the instructor about what he has seen. The instructor gets surprised and realizes that the phenomenon is likely related to the chaos attribute. He explains that they will need further research to fully understand it, but admits that this is an extraordinary discovery. He suggests comparing the book with other ancient artifacts and texts from different regions. The instructor praises the hero for his contribution and thanks him for the assistance. As the hero prepares to leave, the instructor remembers his promise and says he will provide the agreed reward immediately. While the instructor searches for the items, the hero notices something alarming. 3 of the original stones in his necklace begin glowing red in response to the book's influence. He is unsure what will happen if the entire necklace is affected. At first, he considers handing the necklace over to the instructor for further study. However, he realizes that since the matter is connected to the demon god, it must be kept secret, and also he cannot fully trust the instructor at this stage. At this moment, Instructor Robolt finds out the potions and the contract scroll, then rewards the hero for his efforts. However, he asks him to keep the research a secret and not reveal it to anyone else. The hero replies that the decision is entirely up to the instructor. He already knows that the research has not been approved by the headmaster. He thinks to himself that if the instructor had received proper authorization from Saitan, there would have been no need to use a secret contract in the first place. He points out that if the research is ever exposed, he could be expelled as well. Since they are now involved in the matter together, he promises to do his best to assist the instructor. After collecting the rewards, the hero prepares to leave. Before he goes, Robolt asks what he intends to do with the contract scroll. The hero explains that he plans to save a slave and then leaves the underground laboratory. Afterward, he returns to the secret room, and by showing the contract scroll to student Kyle, he decides to finalize the agreement immediately. He warns the student that if he breaks any part of the contract, he should be ready to face the consequences. Reading every condition, the student finally signs the contract, to which it gets saved into his chest. The hero then hands him a letter containing false information and instructs him to send it to the Imperial School. The student agrees and activates his magical communication device. He explains that the device recharges on its own, allowing it to be used once every month. After sending the false report to the Imperial School, the hero reminds him that he must also fulfill the second condition of their agreement. He instructs him to leave Saitan today and start gathering information from outside the academy. The hero explains that he needs intelligence about the demon world. As a first priority, Kyle must investigate the location of the nearest hidden realm and collect information about the Seven Sins clans. The student accepts the task and extends his hand toward the hero. At first, the hero assumes that he is asking for a handshake. However, Kyle clarifies that he is actually requesting travel funds, since gathering information will require money. The hero agrees and hands him another letter. He explains that if the student presents the letter and mentions the hero's name, the Bears clan will provide him with assistance. Taking the letter, Kyle leaves the room and starts making preparations to withdraw from Saitan Academy and carry out his mission. The next day, the hero sits in class and thinks that Kyle has finally disappeared from the academy. However, rumors about his withdrawal quickly spread, and the hero's own name became part of the discussion because of the earlier incident in the cafeteria. He also notices that Luna, the healer girl, seems suspicious of him. Even so, he believes that the greater concern lies with the instructors, especially Ares, who likely have a negative opinion of him. Despite these concerns, the hero feels relieved because only a few days remain before the midterm, and no one can remove him from class monitor's position now. While he is thinking this, Instructor Idea suddenly enters the classroom and announces that the midterms will begin in 3 days. She explains that the exams consist of 4 subjects: weaponry, human studies, magic, and practical skills. Finally, she reveals that on the last day of the midterms, the students will take part in an operation that involves infiltrating a human institution known as the Imperial Academy. Hearing this, the hero realizes that the demon race is about to launch an invasion of the Imperial Academy, where humans will respond with force to resist them. In this chaos, hidden enemies are likely to expose themselves, and intense battles will erupt across the battlefield. At that moment, Lady Fran confidently declares that she will secure first place in the midterms. Several students support her claim, and others express their intention to take revenge on humans for their past suffering. However, the hero thinks that if events follow the original storyline he once wrote, the Class A cadets will be wiped out during the midterms. Still, he sees a chance to change the outcome. So far, he has already altered several key events, including bribing Kyle into sending false information to the Imperial Academy and preventing the healer girl Luna from being expelled. He understands that he cannot fully stop the downfall of the Imperial Academy, but he believes he may still be able to save at least his classmates from death. If he succeeds, he could earn a higher evaluation as class monitor and possibly gain another opportunity to access Saitan's weapons vault. Later, Adel goes to meet Princess Renee after a long time. However, he immediately notices that she appears angry with him, likely because he has been avoiding her for some time. But he also notices something unusual, that the princess has formed a friendly bond with Lady Diana, who is also present beside her. When they greet each other, the princess asks why he has been avoiding her and only now requests a sparring session. The hero explains that he kept his distance because he felt guilty for not being able to support her properly in his role as her bodyguard. However, the princess still feels bad, to which the hero offers her a mana potion as an apology. Lady Diana gets surprised by the potion and requests the princess to accept it and forgive him. But the princess refuses, saying she does not need such a gift. The hero then explains the real reason behind his distance. He says that he has been bullied by other cadets for being half-demon, and he feared that staying close to her might also bring her unnecessary trouble. He sits down in respect and apologizes again with his pure heart. Seeing his honesty, the princess finally forgives him. After that, she pulls out her sword and prepares to begin training with him. At this moment, Lady Diana quietly encourages her to show her new technique to the hero. But the hero overhears this and realizes that the princess must have learned a new skill during the time they were apart. When the princess activates her power, the hero gets stunned by the strong energy surrounding her. He notices that she is gathering mana at the tip of her sword, which means she has learned the sword coat skill. Among humans, this technique is considered the mark of an expert-level knight. Unlike humans, demons often shape their mana around their weapons or bodies to perform various abilities. As he is watching her progress, the princess suddenly stops using the skill. She explains that maintaining it requires complete concentration and that she must push her focus to its absolute limit to use it properly. Wanting to test her true strength, the hero pulls out his dagger and begins a sparring match. He leaps forward and launches an attack, but the princess easily blocks it with her swift movement. When she activates Sword Coat once again, the hero's dagger turns into pieces instantly. The hero feels amazed to see how much the princess has improved. Lady Diana also praises her for her achievement and encourages her to keep progressing. However, she suddenly starts acting strangely and comments that the more she observes her, the more curious she becomes. Seeing this, our hero recalls that one of Diana's abilities, contemplation, allows her to observe even the smallest details of a person's body. Because of this, he decides it is safer to keep some distance from her in case she ever becomes his greatest enemy. While he is thinking this, the princess asks her what has caught her interest. The lady explains that she is curious about the swordsmanship Renee just displayed because it is unlike anything she has seen before. The hero admits that he is curious as well and asks the princess how she is able to use the sword coat technique. She explains that there is no special trick to it. According to her, a person simply needs to get a feel for the sword and imagine filling it from the inside with power. Hearing her explanation, the hero decides to end the sparring session. He mentions that he still needs time to study for the upcoming exams and asks her whether she is prepared for the midterms. When the princess confidently replies that she is, the hero thinks about the game's original storyline. The timing of the first midterm examination does not overlap with the event in which the protagonist's group obtains the Eye of Superbia. This means Princess Renee survives the midterms without issue. However, it also suggests that there is a high possibility that the students from Class A, our hero's own class, will lose their lives during that period. After their conversation, both the girls leave together. But the hero notices that Lady Diana has become suspicious of him because she has sensed something unusual about him. Several days later, the midterm examinations finally begin. In his room, our hero Adele is feeding a sparrow and also thinks about the upcoming test. The first subject is understanding humans, and he regrets that even after staying up all night studying, he still struggles to understand the material properly. Although he reviews a few basic concepts in hopes of passing, those lessons also disappear from his mind the moment he enters the classroom. As he sits at his desk, the healer Luna approaches him and notices how exhausted he looks. She assumes that he has been studying too hard, but the hero assures her that he is fine and asks whether she is prepared for the examination. She replies that she has studied a little and believes she should at least be able to pass. The hero then turns to Lady Fran and asks about her preparation. She says that she has no need to worry about the written subjects. As long as she performs well in the practical examinations, she is certain she can easily claim first place. After that, the instructor enters the classroom and finally begins the written test. But he gives everyone a strict warning that anyone caught cheating will be immediately disqualified from the examination. The hero uses his traits of curiosity and focus to his advantage, and his last-minute cramming helps him perform better in the test than expected. However, he feels confused when he sees a question asking how he feels about humans. According to the memories of this body, humans are responsible for destroying his family. Yet in the hero's true identity, he knows he once created both humans and demons, and the situation is far more complex than this world. Thinking about this, he writes according to the demon world's perspective that he considers humans as his enemies. Later, the instructor collects all the answer sheets, and the students move to the training ground for the next exam. Weapon skills. Instructor Ares announces that the test will assess their real combat ability through live duels, and each student must fight him with full strength. The announcement shocks everyone, as none of them expect to face their instructor in direct combat. Still, the instructor calls the students one by one, and each of them steps forward to fight him. However, all of the students are getting defeated instantly. The instructor then orders the student Samuel to attack him next. The student activates his skill and launches several root-based attacks toward the instructor. In response, the instructor pulls out his sword, and by activating the sword coat technique, he cuts down all the roots very easily. The student does not stop and sends more roots toward the instructor. However, the instructor's strength is overwhelming, and he again slices through them effortlessly. He then steps in and gives a light punch to Samuel's chest, to which the student feels much pain. But he refuses to give up and suddenly throws another unexpected root attack toward the instructor's shoulder. The instructor blocks it with his bare hand and destroys the roots instantly. However, he acknowledges that Samuel has made a clever move. After that, he calls our hero Adele forward as the next fighter. Seeing the instructor's behavior, the hero thinks that even if the instructor does not kill him, he may still cut off an arm or a leg. The hero then asks the instructor to wait for a moment, saying he wants to observe something first. When the instructor asks what he means, the hero requests him to demonstrate how he performs the sword coat technique from the beginning. The instructor responds that it cannot be copied just by watching once, as it requires proper understanding. However, the hero insists that a single demonstration will be enough for him to grasp the basic feeling of it. The instructor eventually agrees and activates the technique, showing reddish mana flowing around his sword. Seeing this, the hero feels impressed and immediately channels his own mana, forming a blue and black aura around his dagger. He realizes he cannot yet infuse it with the chaos attribute, otherwise the mana would have turned gray. Doing this, he asks the instructor how the technique is performed, to which the instructor acknowledges that the hero is indeed highly talented. At that moment, the hero suddenly leaps forward and delivers multiple slashes with his swift movement, but the instructor easily blocks each one with his sword. When the instructor pushes the hero back, the hero quickly uses his teleportation skill and swaps his position with the instructor's sword. This allows him to close the distance instantly, and he attempts to strike the instructor's face. However, the instructor senses the move in advance and throws him away again. But our hero does not stop here. He activates another skill and summons 3 daggers at once, launching them toward the instructor. The instructor feels irritated and forms a defensive shield to block the attack. As the instructor leaps forward to deliver a powerful punch to the hero's face, the hero decides to surrender. The instructor stops and reminds him that escaping or giving up is not allowed during the battle. The hero mentions that his own arms are already injured from blocking attacks, and his mana is nearly depleted, so he cannot continue fighting. He thinks to himself that if he gets injured before the practical training, it will only put him at a disadvantage, so continuing the fight is unnecessary. The instructor accepts his explanation and calls the next student forward to demonstrate their abilities. Meanwhile, the other students talk among themselves, acknowledging that the hero is extremely strong, as he managed to fight the instructor more effectively than expected. The hero believes his plan has worked, as he has drawn everyone's attention to himself while making it appear as if Instructor Ares struggled against him. He understands that for the upcoming practical training, he needs to establish himself as the core of the class. If events follow the original story and Lady Fran takes the lead, Class A will be completely destroyed. While he is thinking this, student Samuel approaches him and asks why he is so strong. The hero replies that he may have simply been born with it, but he also insults Samuel's family. Hearing this, the student feels angry, but he cannot challenge the hero at the moment, so he walks away. Soon after, Lady Fran approaches the hero. She acknowledges that Samuel clearly holds hostility toward him, but questions why the hero keeps mentioning his family. The hero responds that he only referred to it once, yet the student repeatedly insults him for being a half-demon. The lady remarks that the hero seems unaware of the truth. She explains that this student is actually the patriarch of the House of Greed. The hero feels confused, wondering how a first-year student can be a patriarch. The lady then explains that Samuel's family line was wiped out long ago. During the Great War between humans and demons, every member of his bloodline was killed by humans, leaving him as the only survivor. Hearing this, the hero reflects that the original Adele also came from a destroyed house. However, since he is only possessing Adele's body, he cannot truly feel the rage that the real Adele would have experienced. Unlike him, the student Samuel has personally witnessed and endured that tragedy. He realizes that he has always treated genocide and family destruction as simple story elements in a novel, but the characters in this world are real. With this understanding, the hero tells Lady Fran that he will be more careful when speaking to Samuel from now on. The lady seems satisfied and then goes to spar with Instructor Ares. Seeing her, the hero thinks she is not only confident, but also has a serious side. However, during the spar, she also gets defeated by the instructor. Afterward, the hero and the other students proceed to the third exam, which consists of stealth arts and magic theory. Since stealth is the hero's specialty, he finds it no challenge. And the magic theory portion also covers concepts he already knows, so he completes it without difficulty. After completing the exam, the hero comments that this test was the easiest so far. However, he realizes that the real issue is the upcoming practical exam. No matter how well they perform in written tests, everything becomes meaningless if they fail or die in the practical assessment. While he is thinking this, Lady Fran approaches and asks how his magic theory exam went. The hero replies that he wrote it well and asks about her performance. She tells him to guess, to which the hero is about to say that she likely scored perfectly. However, he mistakenly comments that since she failed in the weapon skills exam, she might fail here as well. Hearing this, the lady feels embarrassed and starts hitting him like a friend. At that moment, Baltan, the monitor from another class, arrives for an important matter. Seeing the hero, he remarks that the hero seems to have grown stronger since their last meeting. He says he would like to test himself against him, but he has other responsibilities to attend to today. The lady recognizes him and comments that he is the same jealous-looking boy she saw during the entrance exam. The guy states that he has somewhere to go and asks if she will accompany him as well. When she asks for clarification, the guy explains that a meeting has been scheduled for all class monitors. Even the headmaster is expected to attend, so everyone is required to go. At this moment, the lady clarifies that she is not the monitor of this class, because the actual class monitor is Adele. Hearing this, the guy gets stunned, and his interest in testing the hero's strength immediately increases. However, the hero suggests that it would be better for both of them to attend the class monitor's meeting first. The guy agrees and invites Lady Fran to accompany them as well. As they walk through the corridor, the hero asks Baltan about the purpose of the meeting. The guy explains that it concerns regional assignments. He adds that everyone already knows the midterm exam theme involves the invasion of the human realm. From this, our hero understands that the meeting is meant to decide which regions each class will be assigned to attack. When they enter the meeting hall, the hero notices that all class monitors are already seated. Princess Renee is also present among them, and the headmaster Lu Jin welcomes the hero personally, addressing him as a class monitor. The princess gets surprised by this because the hero has never told her he had also been appointed as a monitor. The headmaster then prepares to begin the meeting. However, the monitor of Class D suddenly mocks both the hero and Lady Fran and states that it would be better if the two of them left the meeting hall immediately. Seeing this, the hero thinks that he only followed Baltan into the meeting hall, yet even the headmaster appears to be permitting it. He realizes that this may be a deliberate test to judge whether he is truly qualified to participate in the discussion. If that is the case, he decides to reveal some of his strength to everyone present. When the Class D monitor suddenly grabs the hero's head, the hero pulls out his dagger and aims it directly at the man's face. However, the Class D monitor activates a body-hardening technique and successfully blocks the attack. The hero then summons multiple daggers and throws all of them at the guy, but the opponent dodges them as well and tries to punch the hero full force. The hero senses it, and by activating the sword code on his dagger, he slashes the opponent's hand, causing him to scream in pain. As the hero is going to give a finishing blow, the headmaster stops the fight instantly. The hero agrees with her, while the other monitors are totally impressed by his combat ability. The headmaster then begins the meeting, explaining that all of them have been gathered to assign regional targets. Each class will be allocated specific regions of the human world for invasion during the practical examination. The hero states that he already understands the general plan, but he is still curious about the exact starting point and how the regions are being divided. The headmaster then summons a magical map of the human world to explain the strategy clearly. She mentions that she initially hoped Class A would be assigned to attack the Imperial Academy. However, after observing the hero's abilities, she realizes she may have underestimated him. Because of this, she assigns them a more difficult mission instead. The hero gets surprised by this, as he knows that attacking the Imperial Academy would already be one of the most dangerous missions in the human world. The headmaster explains that, according to intelligence from their infiltrator, one of the human first-year classes will be leaving campus for outdoor training and planning to attack a nearby domain. Therefore, instead of targeting the academy, Class A will be assigned to capture an entire city. Hearing this, Lady Fran becomes excited and states that she and the hero will handle the mission easily. However, the hero thinks that although their spies have not confirmed the exact timing yet, the protagonist's group has already surpassed even the heirs of the 7 deadly sins. He also realizes that during the intergrade competition after the midterms, their true strength will be revealed. On top of that, one of the protagonist's companions is actually inside the very class they are planning to raid. The hero realizes that if a direct clash happens with the protagonist's group, all classes except Baltan's and Diana's would likely be wiped out. Because of this, he reconsiders his assignment and decides on a different approach. He informs the headmaster that he and his entire class will instead target one of the human first-year classes. Hearing this, several students mock him, saying that as a half-demon, he has chosen the safest and easiest option. Even the headmaster questions his decision, as she expected him to accept the mission to invade an entire city. However, the hero knows that one of the protagonist's key companions is within that class, making them the most dangerous opponent they could face. Despite the risk, he decides this is exactly why he must go there. He also knows that within that location lies an elixir, something he intends to obtain no matter what. In the original course of events, one of the protagonist's allies would have consumed it, but now he plans to take it for himself. The hero then explains to the headmaster that he specializes in assassination and does not require large-scale chaos in a populated human city. He adds that the capital consists of crowded districts, and deploying dozens of students for an assassination operation there would be inefficient. Hearing the hero's explanation, the headmaster feels impressed. She remarks that he understands both the geography of the human world and his own strengths far better than she initially expected. This is why she confirms the decision and officially assigns Class A, led by the hero, to target the human first-year students. The hero thanks her and then leaves the meeting room together with Lady Fran. From behind, Princess Renee thinks to herself that the skill Adele used earlier was clearly swordcoat, and she feels confused about how he managed to learn such a technique in such a short time. Baltan also realizes that the hero was not particularly strong during the entrance exam, but has now become significantly more powerful, which is quite suspicious. At this moment, the headmaster understands why Instructor Ares has warned her to stay cautious of the hero. She recalls that the hero has even defeated one of the 7 deadly sins. In most cases, someone with such power would choose a more difficult target to prove themselves, but the hero instead acted with caution. She realizes that Adele is truly an exceptional individual. If properly guided, he could become a highly effective asset, comparable to a hunting force like House Arson. However, if he cannot be controlled, he will have to be treated in the same category as the 6 human houses. The next day, all cadets prepare themselves to depart for the mission against the humans. Many of them are excited, as they think about finally killing the humans who once destroyed their lives. The hero thinks that they have already sent false intelligence claiming the target is the 3rd-year dormitory. As a result, the Imperial Academy instructors will likely be stationed near the dorm area. This is why only a single instructor is assigned to accompany the first-year students. If his prediction is correct, that instructor will be the 5th Circle Mage. He understands that facing the protagonist's allies alone will already be difficult. Because of this, he decides that the mage instructor must be eliminated first. After that, he plans to move from the hidden route and secure the elixir. While he is thinking, the headmaster addresses all the cadets. She declares that the war has now begun, and they will face the humans who killed their parents, siblings, and friends. She reminds them that everyone here must have experienced such pain in some form. She then states that it is now their turn to take revenge and hunt the humans without mercy. Hearing her words, the cadets cheer loudly as they also want the humans to be dead. After that, the headmaster casts a blessing spell over everyone, granting them magical support that will aid them during the mission. After that, the instructors begin guiding the cadets on how they will proceed with the operation. Lady Instructor Idea has everyone board the dimensional train first. She explains that they will reach their destination in about an hour and instructs them to rest during the journey. Seeing this, our hero Adele thinks that transporting so many cadets using a dimensional train must be extremely costly for Saiton, but he knows that later in the story, more cadets connected to the human realm will appear, and eventually both worlds will begin to merge into a single dimension. While he is thinking this, the healer girl Luna offers him a snack. The hero checks his status and notices that his mana is still too low, even after all his training. He then uses a telekinesis technique on Luna, causing her to float slightly above her seat. The effect is small, only lifting her a few centimeters, but the hero recognizes its potential. Even at this stage, it could be useful in real combat. He understands that if developed further, the technique could evolve into a powerful force, allowing him to manipulate gravity itself. He then considers the situation mostly under control. However, he recognizes one remaining threat: the Knights of the 6 Houses, who previously attempted to kill him, and now there is a possibility he will encounter them again in the human world. He thinks that, in the original story, Knight Feltz had reported Adele's death as a fall from a cliff. However, the truth is different, because the hero actually fell into the demon realm while carrying the identity of the traitorous House Arson. Because of this, Knight Feltz must still believe he is dead. He assumes that Headmaster Lujin would also have learned the same information through her spies. To remain cautious, he decides that he will need a mask to hide his identity. After some time, the cadets arrive at their destination. The hero observes that Saitan has constructed a dimensional gate using extremely costly crystals. Instructor Idea then distributes face masks to all cadets. The hero feels satisfied, as this is exactly what he had been looking for. The instructor also puts on her own mask and explains that it is enchanted with a perception reduction spell, designed to conceal identities during the mission. She adds that even though identities are hidden, they will still be able to recognize each other among allies. When the hero puts on the mask, he feels reassured, as he can still clearly recognize the instructor despite the enchantment. The instructor then hands him food bars, explaining that he should consume 1 per day, as it will be enough to manage his hunger throughout the mission. She then explains the rules of the exam, mentioning that the instructors will not accompany the cadets during this mission. Hearing this, many cadets feel worried. However, she clarifies that this is a cadet assessment, and if instructors intervene, it would no longer be a proper test. She adds that all instructors must remain behind to prepare for the cadets' return. Because of this, full authority is transferred to each class monitor, and all cadets are required to follow their leader's commands. She then attaches a flower-shaped badge to the hero's uniform, stating that it symbolizes his role as the leader of the group. She also hands him a map, mentioning that the headmaster believes he will be able to read it accurately during the mission. After completing these preparations, she opens the dimensional gate leading to the human world and wishes all the cadets success on their journey. Our hero Adele thinks to himself that for the other cadets, this is an unknown world, but for him, it is the same hellish place he has already experienced before. Because of this, he decides that he will return alive at any cost. When all the cadets pass through the gate, the hero notices that the dimensional space is destabilizing their bodies, even though he himself finds it increasingly hard to endure. Soon after, he spots the exit point of the dimension, to which he immediately orders his team to move and escape through it. As the exit begins to collapse, all of them manage to leap out just in time. Once outside, they find themselves standing in front of the Imperial Academy, located on a floating island. The hero thinks that this is his first time seeing the academy known as the pinnacle of magic and technology in the human world. The other cadets look around in confusion, unsure of their surroundings. The hero explains that this structure is a school built to educate humans, unlike Saitan, which serves a different purpose. The healer girl then asks whether they are supposed to enter the academy. The hero replies that they cannot, as the entire academy is protected by a powerful barrier strong enough to withstand even a dragon's attack. The others get shocked by this, and our hero thinks that only he could enter using his position exchange skill, but doing so would immediately alert the protagonist's group. He then explains that, according to the map, if they move in the opposite direction of the Imperial Academy, they will reach their designated target location. The group agrees with the hero's plan and begins moving in the indicated direction. Along the way, the hero notices that student Samuel is still glaring at him. However, he also understands his importance in his own strategy, as the boy possesses exceptional magical talent that will be crucial for the mission. Thinking this, the hero offers a handshake to the student. The student finds it difficult to imagine any kind of friendship between them. The hero then explains that this is not about friendship in the usual sense, but cooperation. He states that they must work together for this mission to succeed. He also warns that without coordination, everyone present could end up dying because of the conflict between them. He adds that humans are not weak enough to be defeated easily, and that Samuel should understand this better than anyone. Hearing this, the student finally accepts the cooperation and continues forward alongside the hero. After that, the hero thinks that now that Samuel has been stabilized as an ally, the only remaining task is to locate the hidden base. At that moment, another cadet reports seeing something unusual ahead. When the hero looks in that direction, he notices that it is a massive door floating in midair, the entrance to the secret hideout. The hero informs everyone that from this point onward, they will enter this secret hideout to complete their mission. One of the cadets steps forward and claims he will open the door. However, the moment he tries, the gate gives a strong electric shock to him. The hero already knows that this would happen because the door can only be opened using authorization from Imperial Academy instructors. He then instructs student Samuel to channel his mana into the door's handle. The student follows the instruction, to which the large gate finally opens before them. The hero immediately orders the group to proceed inside, noting that there are no visible traps at the entrance. Once they enter, Lady Fran observes the surroundings and comments that the atmosphere feels similar to their own demon secret hideouts. The hero agrees, explaining that human training hideouts are also designed for entire classes to undergo trials. Student Samuel then remarks that if this place is meant for testing, it must be filled with traps and monsters. As the hero confirms, the student questions why they did not simply wait outside and ambush the humans when they were exhausted instead of entering the hideout directly. The hero acknowledges that the student's reasoning is correct, but explains that there are specific reasons for entering the hideout. He states that the first reason is his own knowledge of the structure. He is familiar with all the trap patterns inside, meaning the humans will be the ones who suffer from them, while his team will move safely through without triggering anything. The second reason is timing, which means they will leave the hideout before the humans even arrive. Hearing this, Samuel asks why they have entered here if they have to leave. The hero then clarifies that this place is not only similar in atmosphere to demon secret hideouts, but was actually designed by humans to simulate and study the conquest of demon realms. In other words, it functions like a vault within the demon world, and it also contains hidden treasure. Moving forward, the group eventually arrives at a spot where 6 separate cave paths are located. Seeing this, the other cadets feel confused about which path they should take. However, the hero Adele walks to a nearby wall and presses a hidden switch, to which a concealed door opens up immediately. Samuel gets shocked and asks how the hero knows so much about this place. The hero thinks to himself that it is because he himself designed this location in the past. They enter the hidden passage and eventually reach a chamber where a treasure box is placed. The hero opens it and finds only a bottle and a sandbag inside. The cadets feel disappointed and remark that the items seem useless. The hero then pours water from the bottle, but they notice that the flow does not stop. He explains that the bottle can store water sufficient for dozens of people, meaning they will not need to search for water during the mission. After that, he tells everyone that they must leave the hideout immediately, as a battle is likely to begin here soon. They exit the area, and the hero starts assigning roles to the group. He orders student Samuel to act as a scout from now on, and to survey the surrounding area. The student questions why the hero is assigning the scouting role to him, as if it is something the hero should be handling himself. The hero explains that this task can only be performed properly by someone with Samuel's exceptional magical ability. Hearing this, the student accepts the role, but the hero adds that he will not be scouting alone. He takes out Instructor Aries' pet sparrow from his bag and explains that it will assist him as well. The student feels confused about why Instructor Aries, who dislikes the hero, would have given him the sparrow in the first place. To test its reliability, the hero activates his ability. A visual link appears in front of him, allowing him to see through the sparrow's eyes in real time. He explains that since he can share information through the sparrow, Samuel's job will be to protect it during scouting. The hero then assigns another role to Lady Fran, that she will take command of the cadets whenever he himself steps away from the group. He asks her if her ability is truly charm, and she confirms that she can temporarily enhance the strength of her allies. However, she questions why he needs to leave the group during the mission. The hero then explains that Imperial Academy cadets will eventually arrive at this location, accompanied by an instructor. He states that he intends to confront that instructor on his own. The student responds that taking on an instructor alone is too dangerous. However, the hero assures him that it will not be a problem, because if the instructor does not appear, he will rejoin the group. As he has finished assigning everyone their roles, Lady Fran asks what they should do next. The hero replies that they should take the opportunity to eat something, since all of them are hungry. But he orders Samuel to move out immediately for scouting, and mentions that his task is to confirm whether any Imperial Academy class is conducting outdoor training along their route. As the student leaves, the hero distributes food bars to the remaining cadets and eats one himself. The cadets feel embarrassed because of the disgusting taste, but they still consume it because they need the nutrition for the mission. The healer Luna then asks the hero if he would like some normal snacks instead. However, the hero refuses, stating that since the others are enduring it, he cannot allow himself better food. He then opens a magical screen to observe Samuel and the sparrow's progress. Through the link, he sees that they have reached the area outside the Imperial Academy. At that moment, a carriage emerges from the Academy gates, to which the hero gets totally shocked. The hero observes that the carriage is used for transportation between the Imperial Academy and the surface world. He also sees Samuel attempting to communicate something, but since the connection is indirect, the message does not fully reach him. He hopes that the student will return safely on his own. Looking closer, the hero identifies Mage Instructor Besaha on the carriage, the same target he intends to eliminate. He assesses him as a wind element mage who, like Robolt, is not primarily specialized in direct combat. Because of this, the hero believes he can be taken down easily. He also notices several human cadets inside the carriage, including a strong individual named Leon Farius, one of the protagonist's key companions and an important figure in the main storyline. The hero thinks that this guy is expected to arrive about 30 minutes late due to a dispute with a female student. He decides that this delay creates the perfect opportunity to act. Seeing this all, the hero informs his team that they must relocate, as their targets are now approaching here. He orders them to erase all traces of their presence and prepare their weapons before entering the hidden domain. He explains that he will remain outside the domain to confront the instructor directly, while the rest of the team will ambush the human cadets once they are exhausted. As the hero's team begins preparing, the healer girl asks whether the instructor is truly coming to this location. The hero confirms that he is, and adds that this instructor is even stronger than Instructor Aries. At that moment, student Samuel returns and reports that the humans are approaching. The hero replies that he already observed their movement through the sparrow's vision. He then orders the student to enter the secret domain and bring the sparrow with him. The student agrees and proceeds to open the door of the secret domain so the entire team can move inside. Before they separate, the hero warns him to be careful of a human with golden hair and bronze skin. Once the group enters the domain, the hero hides at the top of a nearby tree to observe the surroundings. After some time, the human cadets finally arrive. The mage instructor begins explaining the purpose of the secret domain and the training they are about to perform here. Meanwhile, the stronger cadet Farius talks to a girl named Sylvia, like her boyfriend, but she immediately scolds him and keeps her distance. The mage instructor then informs them that once they enter, they will understand their objective, and the team that clears the domain first will receive a reward. Excited by this, the human cadets get fully prepared and start entering the secret domain. Seeing the humans, our hero Adele thinks that they appear confident. He thinks that in the original course of events, Saitan cadets were always the ones who ultimately lost against them. He also notes that this is partly due to the stronger cadet, who is distracted by his involvement with Sylvia. At that moment, the stronger cadet tells the girl that, as promised, he will begin his attempt in 30 minutes. He requests her to do her best in the meantime, but also states that no matter what happens, she will eventually become his girlfriend. After both Sylvia and the stronger cadet enter the secret domain, the hero notices that the mage instructor is now left alone outside. But suddenly the mage starts scanning the surroundings by releasing a powerful mana radiation. The hero senses it in advance and avoids it to stay hidden. Once the mage finishes the scan, he realizes that no one is nearby, so he moves in a different direction to fulfill his own important task. Seeing this, the hero decides to follow the mage and observe what he is trying to do. After some time, the mage reaches a specific location where he intends to act. Even so, he still feels as if someone is secretly watching him. He dismisses the feeling and places his hand on a small tree to activate a spell. The hero gets surprised to see as the small tree suddenly transforms into a massive one, and there is also a hidden door at its bottom. As the mage is about to enter, our hero suddenly throws multiple dagger attacks at him. However, the mage detects the attack and blocks all of them by activating a powerful shield. At this moment, the hero activates his stealth technique and turns his body into a shadow to remain hidden from the mage. The mage feels angry and responds by casting a powerful wind spell aimed at destroying the hero's position. However, the hero avoids the attack and retreats back to the treetop to regain distance. He realizes that if he continues being pushed back, the situation will become impossible to manage. While the mage focuses on forming new spells, the hero uses his teleportation skill to close the distance again. He attempts another strong dagger strike, but the mage blocks it once more with a shield. The hero's rapid movements anger the mage, who then unleashes a wide area attack across the entire forest, causing massive destruction. But our hero manages to dodge it using his sword coat technique. While analyzing the situation, the hero notices that the mage has activated 10 layers of protective shields. He understands that direct attacks will be difficult, but also realizes that 2 layers have already been destroyed. The mage then summons multiple tornadoes, to which the hero gets shocked and immediately activates his telekinesis skill to keep his position stable. However, the tornadoes are extremely powerful, and falling tree branches trap him beneath the debris and also has exposed his true self to the mage. The hero attempts to attack the mage again, but the mage first pushes him back and throws multiple powerful strikes at him. As the hero dodges them as well, the mage feels confused about the hero's behavior. He questions why the hero is fighting him so directly, especially since the supposed target was the third-year dormitory. At that moment, he realizes the truth. The information was a decoy. The hero's real objective was to target him and the class that has now entered the secret domain for training. Recognizing this, the mage decides to release his full power in an attempt to end the fight in a single strike. However, the hero activates a dark ability, forcing the mage to stop momentarily. Getting the opportunity, the hero launches multiple dagger attacks and breaks through the mage's shield layers. The mage wonders about who the hero truly is, and how he is managing to withstand his attack so effectively. Then suddenly our hero closes the distance and gives a powerful dagger strike directly at the mage's chest armor. When all the armor is completely destroyed, the hero cuts down the mage's head on the spot. Afterward, he remarks that this was the strongest opponent he has faced so far, and that it is almost a miracle he did not lose control after activating the dark ability. He then drinks a mana potion to restore his energy. Since there is no need to conserve it anymore, he decides to use whatever he has left, especially with the upcoming fight against Farius. Before moving, he takes an eagle-shaped badge from Mage Besaha's cloak as proof of his defeat. After that, he enters the massive magical tree. As he descends deeper, he notices a strong rotten smell becoming more intense. When he finally reaches the underground laboratory, he finds several demon corpses placed inside machines for examination. Seeing this, he gets surprised as he never has expected it to be this horrifying. In his original understanding, demons were written as absolute evil, making such experiments seem justified. However, seeing it now, he questions whether humans are truly on the good side, like how they treat demons. At that moment, he notices a small jar containing a homunculus, a tiny bug-like artificial life form. He realizes it is one of the mage's creations, formed through experiments that likely involved sacrificing countless demons. He decides to take the small bug-like creature back to Instructor Robolt for further study. However, before he can do so, his small dragon worm suddenly emerges from his bag and devours the creature in an instant. At that moment, the hero's demon god necklace reacts again, with all its red stones glowing. Seeing this, he realizes there may be some connection between the homunculus and the demon god. He considers that if he had access to a grimoire on homunculus creation, he might be able to uncover the truth. However, the mage's memories of the method were destroyed when the original book was burned. The hero then notices that his dragon worm has transformed into a snake-like form after consuming the homunculus. He worries that if the demon patriarch Crete discovers this change, it could become dangerous for him. Still, he calms himself and focuses on his goal to just obtain the elixir and leave the area immediately. After some effort, he locates the elixir, which resembles a wild ginseng root. When he consumes it while circulating his mana, he feels the heat in his body has been increased. As he opens his status window, he sees that his mana has increased beyond 2,000. He also notices that his other abilities have grown stronger, and now all the mana he releases can be fully converted into darkness. Satisfied with his progress, he decides it is time to return to his companions. When he opens the screen to check on them, he gets shocked to see that they are already engaged in battle with the human cadets. However, he realizes that the strongest guy Farius has not yet appeared on the battlefield. Suddenly, both his necklace and the information paper begin reacting again. The paper indicates that it can show events from the recent past. The hero feels confused, remembering that previously it kept repeating the phrase, "Offer a god." Using his own blood, he asks the information paper to reveal the true nature of the necklace. But once again, the same message, "Offer a god," appears on it. At that moment, the connection through the screen reopens, and he sees that his companions are now in serious trouble. Suddenly, the hero feels some pain in his head, to which the surroundings shift completely, and he finds himself witnessing a brutal scene where humans are mercilessly slaughtering demons. He also notices a young Samuel there, appearing to be around 10 years old. The hero realizes that this is a vision of the past, the time of the human-demon war, and the moment when Samuel's entire family was annihilated. In the scene, the guy's mother hides him inside a cupboard and tells him not to come out under any circumstances, to which the boy agrees. However, humans soon reach there as well and kill his mother in front of him. The half-demon maid is revealed to have betrayed them, allowing the humans to enter. But the humans kill her as well, ensuring no demons are left alive. Afterward, they destroy the entire palace with a huge explosion and retreat. Days later, Samuel comes out alive from beneath the rubble as the only survivor and gets sad to see his mother's lifeless body. In order to survive, he uses his root skill and consumes her remains. Seeing these memories, our hero Adele finally understands why Samuel hates him so deeply. The betrayal of Samuel's mother by a half-demon maid is the root of his anger. However, the hero still wonders who the real source of all this destruction truly is. After that, he calms himself and decides to focus on the immediate threat, stopping Farius. He believes that if he can uncover Farius's secrets or weaknesses through this situation, it will be useful later. He exits the massive tree and realizes that he must grow stronger without delay, especially since the necklace has already wasted too much of his time. He checks the magical screen again to observe his companions, but notices once more that Farius is still absent from the battlefield. When the connection to the screen is suddenly cut off, he immediately starts running toward the battlefield to handle the situation himself. Meanwhile, inside the secret domain, the human and demon cadets are engaged in combat. Student Samuel is fighting as well, and by using his powerful root skill, he defeats multiple human opponents. Seeing his strength, several humans attempt to overwhelm him with a coordinated attack, but Lady Fran blocks them and orders her companions to form a protective circle around Samuel to secure his position. When they follow her instructions, she tells student Samuel to activate his full power and eliminate the remaining human opponents. Hearing this, the student summons a massive tornado and instantly defeats several human cadets. Seeing the destruction, Lady Sylvia gets shocked and orders her remaining companions to retreat by tearing their return scrolls, realizing they are no match for the demons. The human cadets manage to escape the battlefield, but the student feels angry by her action and decides to kill her as well. To do so, he throws a powerful root attack toward her, but the strongest guy Farius suddenly appears and freezes all of Samuel's roots in place. The guy also throws a powerful hammer strike and defeats one of Samuel's companions instantly. He then helps Sylvia to stand up and asks her about the situation. She reports that 8 humans have been killed, while the injured survivors have already returned to the Imperial Academy. The guy praises her efforts and tells her to head back as well, assuring her that he will take care of the remaining enemies on his own. However, the lady refuses to leave as she wants to stay and fight alongside him. As they are talking, several demons charge at them to attack all at once, but the man gives a single ice attack, to which many of the demons get defeated in an instant. Seeing this, student Samuel uses his roots to attack the man and orders his companions to retreat immediately. He knows that they are no match for such a powerful opponent. Lady Fran asks if the student intends to face the man alone, to which the student confirms that he has no other choice. Luna also worries about him, but the student requests her to leave quickly and take care of the injured. At that moment, the man launches another attack and slices through Samuel's roots. When the dust settles down, he realizes that the student's companions have escaped successfully. Only the student himself remains behind to face him. Lady Sylvia remarks that the demons must have used a hidden passage to escape, as they had appeared out of nowhere earlier. However, the strongest guy assures her that it does not matter where they run, because none of them can escape from his grasp now. He then turns his attention to the student and orders him to use his true strength and fight him with everything he has. In response, the student throws a powerful barrage of spikes at him. However, the strongest guy destroys the attack very easily and mocks him for being weak. Despite this, Samuel points out that he has at least managed to give a small cut on his hand. When the strongest guy notices the injury, he gets angry and gives a powerful hammer strike in his direction. Because of this, the student crashes backward and gets serious damage to his body. Several of his ribs are broken now, but before he can recover, the guy cuts off one of his legs as well. Seeing him in such a condition, the lady tells Farius to finish him quickly and chase the remaining demons before they get too far away. This is why the strongest guy cuts off the student's arm and then aims his hammer to give a final blow to his head. But then suddenly our hero Adele appears and pulls Samuel out of danger in an instant. Placing him aside, he tells him to rest, declaring that the battle is now his responsibility. Meanwhile, the powerful warrior feels confused about who the hero is or how he managed to appear out of nowhere. In response, the hero pulls out his dagger and prepares himself for the battle. He knows that using absolute invisibility to rescue Samuel has deprived him of his awareness of the surrounding area, placing him at a disadvantage. When the warrior swings his hammer at him, the hero catches it with his bare hand. Although the Eye of Superbia cannot predict the hammer's trajectory, it allows the hero to read the movements of his opponent's muscles. When the warrior gives a powerful punch, our hero blocks it as well. But the impact is so tremendous that his own fist suffers serious damage. Realizing he cannot win through a direct clash of strength, he activates position transfer and swaps places with the warrior's hammer. This helps him to close the distance and he tries to strike the guy with a dagger. However, the hammer suddenly flies back toward its master and strikes Adele, to which our hero slides back. Seeing this, the hero realizes one thing, that the position transfer is useless against a weapon that can return to its wielder at will. The warrior then leaps forward once more and gives another hammer strike at him. The hero blocks the attack with his arms, but his right arm gets badly injured from the impact. Despite the pain, the hero uses his dagger rain skill and throws multiple daggers toward the enemy. The man easily deflects all of the daggers and gives a powerful hammer strike, forcing the hero to crash back. He insults him as an insect and closes the distance to crush his head. At that moment, Adele realizes he can no longer move from his position, so he understands that this is the end for him. But suddenly, he gets teleported to an unknown space where a mirror is also placed in front of him. When he looks into it, he notices that all his injuries have completely healed. However, something strange happens next. His reflection starts speaking to him. Our hero understands that the reflection is not just an image, but the true self of the body he is currently using in this world. The reflection apologizes for bringing him here, explaining that it was necessary because the situation had become urgent. Our hero demands answers to 3 questions, to which the reflection agrees. When he asks the first question about where they are right now, the reflection comments that this information can be shared without any price. Hearing this, the hero feels bad because he is practically dead, yet the reflection is still demanding a price for some questions. The reflection explains that it can share some information while other knowledge is restricted. It then answers the first question, stating that they are currently in a space born from chaos, a realm where everything cannot exist. The hero then asks the second question, wanting to know what chaos truly is. The reflection mentions that he may eventually understand its nature and power, but he will need to discover it on his own. It adds that it could explain further, but only if the hero is willing to pay a price. All the relics from both the human and demon worlds. The hero immediately realizes that such a condition is impossible to fulfill. He then asks his final question, whether he is still alive in the secret domain where he was fighting the stronger opponent. The reflection confirms that he is still alive, but warns that he will die soon if he remains in his current condition. Hearing this, the hero gets worried, as he cannot afford to die yet. He then requests the reflection to lend him its power. The reflection replies that bringing him here was done for this same purpose. However, it states that even this help comes with a price. This time, it is not gold or relics that is required, but something far more valuable, something that is most precious to the hero himself. The hero feels confused, unsure whether he truly possesses anything valuable enough to be offered as a price. However, as survival becomes his priority, he agrees to the condition. In response, the reflection grants him 20% of its power for 1 hour. At this moment, our hero suddenly gets transported back to the battlefield, exactly at the moment when the warrior is about to crush his head with a hammer strike. But the hero activates his dark skill and shifts his position to a safe location instantly. He immediately notices that his arm is still injured. When he opens his status window, he sees that his mana has increased to 4,300, and several of his abilities have risen by 2 levels as well. Seeing his sudden recovery and enhanced movements, Warrior Farius feels angry. Our hero then throws an illusory attack toward the warrior's neck, to which the guy gets stunned for a moment. Because of this trick, the warrior leaps forward again and throws another hammer strike. When the hero easily dodges this attack as well, the warrior unleashes a powerful ice storm. The hero summons Dagger Rain, but the attack has no effect against the storm's intensity. Realizing this, he activates telekinesis to stabilize himself within the winds and maintain control. At that moment, the warrior moves behind him to strike from a blind spot. However, the hero senses in advance and dodges it very easily. At that moment, student Samuel calls out to the hero and requests him not to lose to these so-called lowly human thugs. Hearing this, Lady Sylvia feels embarrassed and points out that it was the demons who were attacked without reason during the war. However, the student states that the war was not started by the demons, but by humans, who have already slaughtered many innocent demon families. When he asks about why they have done this bad thing, the hero comments that it is purely for profit. He thinks to himself that, in the eyes of humans, the demon realm is nothing more than a vast treasure filled with gold and elixirs. Moreover, humans possess far greater power, so they would never leave such a resource alone, especially not the 6 houses to which Sylvia belongs. At that moment, Warrior Farius orders the lady to stop speaking useless words. But when she refuses, he suddenly strikes and cuts down her head on the spot. Seeing this, our hero gets shocked, and the warrior comments that now he will kill both the hero and Samuel as well. Both of them again start fighting with their powerful skills. As the warrior closes in, the hero activates position transfer again and shifts behind him. However, Farius senses the move and kicks back the hero. The hero realizes that his mana is almost depleted, meaning he can no longer use dagger rain, so he must find another way to win. At that moment, he gets another idea and brings Samuel into the fight, telling him to assist. When the warrior charges forward with his hammer, the hero uses position transfer again, swapping positions with the weapon, and gets closer to the warrior. Samuel immediately uses his root skill to grab the hammer, preventing it from returning to Farius's hands. Getting the opportunity, the hero inserts his dagger into the warrior's shoulder. At the same time, the snakeworm suddenly emerges from the hero's bag and bites into the same shoulder. Because of this, Farius feels pain, but suddenly the hammer comes back and strikes the hero forcefully. Our hero crashes back very badly, and also gets a serious wound on his stomach from this attack. The warrior then decides to finish him off once and for all, but the pain in his shoulder forces him to sit down. Seeing the situation getting worse, the warrior tears a return scroll, to which a bright light erupts from it, and he escapes the battlefield instantly. As the danger finally ended now, our hero asks Samuel why he chose to stay behind and ordered the others to retreat earlier. The student replies that he acted this way because he just wanted to protect everyone with his pure heart. The hero points out that some of their companions are half-demons, but the student explains that they are still his classmates and friends now, so he cannot abandon them to die. The hero acknowledges that they have managed to defeat the monster, but warns that if things continue like this, they will keep risking their lives. At that moment, the snakeworm emerges again. The hero thanks it, recognizing that it has played an important role in the fight. Soon after, the rest of the team returns and gets shocked to see both of them badly injured. The healer girl Luna immediately starts treating the hero's wounds. Once the bleeding is stopped, the hero asks her to heal Samuel next. However, the student refuses, stating that it is unnecessary. He activates his root ability again, to which the roots start consuming his own body. Seeing this, Lady Fran asks if he is trying to kill himself, but the student rejects it and tells the hero that he needs to borrow his body for some time. After the roots finish consuming his body, they shift toward the hero's arm. The hero initially assumes that the roots will attack him as well, but instead, they start performing a strange magic and eventually form a small horn-like object attached to his hand. At that moment, an information window appears before the hero. It informs him that the temporary power boost has ended, but 20% of the original power has been permanently shared with him. When the hero opens his status window, he notices that his mana has increased to 2600 and his other abilities have also improved. However, he still feels confused about what Adele's true self has taken from him in exchange for this power, because he has asked him for something precious. While he is thinking this, the healer girl asks why he is staring at his hand. The hero lies that he is checking whether the hand is injured. Suddenly, he notices something strange. Samuel's name appears in his status window as well. As he feels confused about what this is, Samuel's voice states that he is still alive. Everyone around him struggles to locate the source of the voice. The student then explains that he has transformed into a horn that is now attached to the hero's hand. He mentions that he had exhausted too much of his power earlier, and even with treatment, he would not have survived in his original form. Because of this, he transformed into his current state because this form consumes the least amount of energy, and after a few months, he will be able to return to his original body. The hero asks why he has been attached to the hero's hand. Samuel replies that, in order to rebuild his body, he must absorb a fixed amount of mana each day, and the hero possesses a large supply of it. He also mentions that although he no longer has eyes, he can still perceive his surroundings through a shared sense with his host. Hearing this explanation, the others start teasing him like a friend. However, the hero states that they must leave immediately, as the Imperial Academy will soon send reinforcements. Lady Fran asks where they should go since the return gate will only open the next day. The hero assures them that he knows a hidden location previously used by the human instructor he fought before, and they can safely stay there for a day. As they prepare to move, student Samuel suddenly remarks that he will consume the bodies of their fallen teammates, explaining that doing so will significantly speed up his recovery. At first, the healer girl feels bad about this, but since they have no other option, she eventually agrees. Lady Fran then asks whether the hero can walk on his own. Before he can respond, a teammate named Luke steps forward and says he will support the hero instead. The hero recognizes him as the same boy he once fought in the cafeteria. As they are talking, the sparrow that had hidden itself during the battle returns to the hero. Seeing that everyone is now gathered, Adele states that they must hurry and leave the secret domain immediately. Meanwhile, at the Imperial Academy, warrior Farius returns with some injuries. The other cadets feel confused to see him in this state, but then Instructor Madeline arrives and asks him about what has happened there. The warrior explains that during the dungeon raid, they were ambushed by demons. He reports that many cadets, including Lady Sylvia and Instructor Basaha, have been killed in the incident. Hearing this report, the cadets get totally stunned. The instructor remarks that it seems the demons have sent assassins strong enough to match instructors. But the warrior clarifies that only 2 opponents were at instructor level. One of them was exceptional, but still not stronger than him. He states that there is no need for another instructor to take action, as he will handle the situation himself with his remaining teammates. However, his injury suddenly gets worse because the area where the hero's snake worm had bitten reacts strangely. Even as the healer attempts to treat it, Farius gets shocked when his entire arm is suddenly cut down on its own. Feeling angry, he declares that he will kill the hero and all the demons using his remaining strength. He demands to be sent back immediately to finish the mission, but the instructor refuses his request and orders the cadets to take him to the medical facility and also summon Ninai Hamel along with his team. After some time, Hamel and his team arrive and ask Instructor Madeline why they have been summoned. Seeing them, the instructor thinks that they are the Student Council, the elite group of the Imperial Academy. Each member is among the finest students, destined to become future leaders of the Empire. The other cadets also remark that if they have been called, the situation must be extremely serious. Hamel, the leader, states that he has already heard Warrior Farius was severely injured and that several students were killed. The instructor confirms this and adds that there is also a possibility that a spy within their ranks has betrayed them. The leader understands the situation that if the enemy targets the third-year dormitory, mobilizing manpower will be difficult, which explains why the instructor has requested their assistance. When Instructor Madeline asks if they will help, the leader agrees with her. He orders his teammate Sisla to head to the secret domain immediately to locate the demons. He also asks the instructor to brief them fully, promising that they will eliminate the threat at any cost. Meanwhile, Adele and his team safely arrive at the underground laboratory of Mage Besaha. The hero notices that the others have fallen asleep from exhaustion after the previous battle. However, he himself is still worried, knowing that escaping from this place later will not be easy. He understands that the Imperial Academy instructors are bound to defend the dormitory, meaning the enemy will likely make a move soon. He also realizes that the attackers are none other than the Student Council, the same group responsible for the original Adele's death. He considers that the original Adele's power has already been taken, and Samuel is no longer in his original form. If they encounter the Student Council in this weakened state, they would be completely annihilated. While he is thinking this, Samuel notices his worried expression and asks about the problem. The hero replies that he is only thinking about whether they will be able to escape safely the next day. The student tells him to leave it to luck, adding that the underground laboratory still feels disturbing because of how brutally the demons were treated here. Our hero then asks him if he can consume the remaining demon corpses. He explains that he is concerned the decaying bodies might cause illness for the others. Samuel agrees and immediately uses his root ability to devour all the remaining corpses. After doing so, he gets exhausted and falls asleep. However, our hero remains awake because of the trouble ahead. At that moment, the healer girl Luna approaches him and asks about his condition. She tells him that if he is not feeling well, he can talk to her, since they are now friends. Then she moves a little closer and admits that she is also feeling scared. The hero asks if she is afraid of humans or the monstrous enemy they faced before. She says she is not afraid of either. Instead, she is afraid of death itself. She explains that ever since she saw him bleeding on the ground, she has been afraid of losing him, because he is now someone she considers a friend. She adds that she wanted to save everyone so that no one would die, but she failed. She then asks him what they should do so that no one dies again. The hero replies that more people will die in the future, and even Lady Fran might die tomorrow. He then asks her if that happens, whether she will cry like this every single time. He tells her that sometimes they must let go of emotional attachments and use their guilt as strength to harden their resolve. He adds that if she truly wants to save everyone, she needs to further develop her healing abilities and continue training her magic, as she has the potential to do so. Hearing this, she agrees, and our hero tells her to rest as well, since they must leave early the next day. The next morning, the group exits the underground laboratory and heads toward the location where the portal back to the human world will open. However, a dangerous thing is that Sisela, the human archer, has already arrived in the forest, and she has secretly aimed a powerful arrow at them from a distance. When Adele and his team reach the designated location, they notice that the exit gate has not opened yet. He realizes that they are not late and orders everyone to hide as best as they can. He then decides to climb a tree to scout the surroundings. Samuel tells him there is no need to take such a risk, but the hero explains that enemies as strong as Farius could already be nearby. Hearing this, the student gets stunned, but our hero calms him and uses his position transfer skill to instantly move onto a tree branch. At that moment, the human archer fires a powerful arrow at the exact spot where Adele was standing. The attack creates a large blast, but she feels bad because she has missed her target. As the dust settles down, Adele's teammates panic and start searching for him. However, he calls out from the tree, assuring them that he is unharmed and in a safe position. From the attack, he understands that a sniper is tracking them. He orders everyone to stay hidden for now, and once the exit gate opens, they must run toward it. He thinks to himself that he had previously checked the mana flow around the area for safety, but nothing has appeared in his radar. He realizes that the arrow must have been fired from an extremely long distance, far beyond his normal detection range. He then asks Samuel to locate the archer, since he cannot track her position with his own mana sensing. The student agrees and releases his mana waves across the surrounding area. After scanning, he identifies the enemy's position, nearly 5 kilometers to the north, on a small hill. Hearing this, Adele recognizes the archer as Sisela, a member of the student council. At that range, he understands that neither his position transfer nor his daggers can reach her. As he is deciding about how to deal with the situation, the student suddenly informs him that the exit gate is about to open. He asks if there is any way to survive the incoming attacks. The hero replies that there is no safe method, but comments that if they sacrifice themselves, they might still be able to save the other cadets. Samuel feels strange at first, but agrees to follow the plan for the sake of their teammates. However, our hero reassures him that he was only joking and declares that he will protect everyone from the attacker. He activates his Eye of Superbia skill, to which blood comes out of his eye and a powerful mana spreads around him. With this skill, our hero slows down everything around him, and he also locates Sisela on the hilltop. He sees her preparing another arrow, this one charged with enough power to potentially destroy the entire forest. When she releases it, the hero jumps down from the tree to lure the strike. At the same time, the exit gate finally opens up and the rest of the team immediately starts rushing toward it. Adele instructs the student to use his mana storm and block the incoming arrow at any cost. The student follows his instruction and creates a massive tornado in front of them. The hero then enters the storm and infuses it with his own dark energy, just to make it stronger. When the arrow collides with the combined barrier, Samuel struggles because of the overwhelming pressure of its force. The others continue moving into the exit gate, while the healer girl calls out for the hero to follow them. The hero then activates his telekinesis skill as well, and with combined effort, they finally deflect the arrow back. Doing this, our hero also starts running toward the exit gate. However, Sisela gets angry by his trick and fires another arrow toward him. Seeing the situation getting worse, he uses his position exchange skill with a teammate's sword that is already inside the exit gate. By swapping positions, he safely enters the gate's dimensional space and ensures the survival of himself and his team. He warns everyone that the dimensional space is about to collapse and tells them to hurry and pass through to their own world. With some effort, the group manages to escape the collapsing space and successfully returns, where they meet Instructor Idea, who was waiting for them. Afterward, they return to the Academy Sighton. Adele submits his report, stating that 21 cadets were sent to the human world, but 4 were killed in action. The instructor acknowledges the report and commends their efforts, saying the fallen cadets will be remembered. She then takes back the flower badge from the hero, which contains the whole mission's recording in it. At this moment, other class monitors mock the hero, claiming that his weakness caused the deaths of his teammates. The hero dismisses their remarks, thinking that if they had entered that battlefield, they would have been killed instantly. He then notices Princess Renee and Lady Diana nearby, who have also successfully completed their own missions. Seeing the hero's injuries, the princess gets worried and decides to take him to the infirmary. However, when she notices Luna standing close to him, she gets serious and orders her to stay away as the hero belongs to her. Before the situation gets worse, our hero calms the princess and explains that she is misunderstanding the situation, as Luna is only a friend. The princess accepts his explanation and leaves, telling him to get proper treatment. At that moment, the headmaster calls everyone together. She states that the exam has been a harsh experience for all of them. She also acknowledges the comrades who did not return, but instructs the students not to cry about them. Instead, she urges them to strengthen themselves so they can defeat their enemies in the future. Saying this, she orders them to return to their dorms and do proper rest. Afterward, Samuel asks the hero whether their class is truly that weak, since they suffered 4 casualties while no other class lost anyone. Our hero mentions that their class is actually stronger than Guar and Aaron's classes. However, he also feels regret, because if he had chosen a different area during the mission, their losses might have been much lower. But the student reassures him that there is no need to be sad about the losses anymore, since everything is already over. While they are talking, Cadet Baltan arrives and remarks that the hero seems injured. Our hero explains that his opponent was strong, which made the battle difficult. The guy mentions that his own opponent was also powerful. He says it was an old swordsman, but he eventually became exhausted and collapsed during the fight. Hearing this, the hero becomes suspicious. He recognizes that Baltan's target was the famous king of mercenaries, and he finds it hard to believe that such a warrior would simply collapse on his own. After that, Baltan leaves the area, telling the hero to treat his wounds properly as the next time he would like to face him directly. Once he is gone, the hero tells Samuel that this guy is extremely strong and could even stand against the ice monster they fought earlier. He also thinks to himself that, at the current level, only this guy and Diana are capable of matching the student council. And in a few years, Princess Renee and Samuel may also reach that level. At that moment, Lady Fran approaches and starts speaking as if she is the senior among them. The student, still in his horn form, mocks her, to which she feels embarrassed and starts beating both the hero and the student as a friend. The healer girl Luna then stops her, reminding her that the hero needs medical attention first. After that, as Luna brings our hero to the infirmary, he thanks her for staying by his side through everything. She replies that she regrets not being able to use recovery magic well enough to heal his injuries earlier, but the hero reassures her not to blame herself and tells her to keep improving her abilities instead of getting sad on mistakes. When they enter the infirmary, they see a female doctor waiting there, who also feels strange to see two half-demons come here for the treatment. But after examining the hero's condition, she instructs him to lie down on the bed. She inspects his stomach wound closely and states that immediate surgery is necessary due to the severity of the injury. Hearing this, Luna becomes worried and asks whether the surgery will have any side effects. The doctor reassures her that there will be no complications, but explains that the procedure will take around 3 hours, so she has to wait outside the room. Meanwhile, in the meeting hall, all instructors gather for the midterm evaluation, including the headmaster. She announces that she wants to determine which class monitor is the strongest and orders the footage from the flower badge cameras to be played. Instructor Aries remarks that, as expected, the strongest will likely be from his class or Class E. Instructor Idea agrees but adds that Class C also contains the Demon King's daughter, who must have shown incredible abilities. Aries then states that the strongest individual is still Baltan, not only in combat but also in swordsmanship. The magic instructor agrees, noting that if judged purely on physical potential, that guy has a rare talent who could go down in history. However, the lady comments that she doesn't like that guy because he passes a smile like a madman. Hearing this, Instructor Aries also mocks the lady's class monitor, who is nothing else but our hero Adele. As they are arguing, a staff member announces that all preparations are complete, and the recordings will now be played, starting with Class E. The footage shows Baltan engaged in combat with the powerful mercenary king during his mission. The instructors get surprised to see the guy is handling the opponent very easily with his exceptional combat skill. As the mercenary king prepares a final strike, Baltan has not yet fully infused his fighting will. However, some instructors note that he is already capable of imbuing weapons with fighting will and has only recently learned this technique before the midterm exam. When the cadet defeats the mercenary king, the instructors acknowledge his outstanding performance. Next, the footage of Class D is shown, featuring Aaron as the class monitor. They observe that his opponents are newly formed knights, which he is able to handle without difficulty. However, they also note his weak leadership skills and the fact that he often sleeps during missions. Afterward, they move on to Instructor Aries' class footage, where Princess Renee and Lady Diana are seen taking active and important roles in the mission. When the instructors observe the princess's swordsmanship, they feel impressed by her ability and power. However, they soon realize that her opponent is no ordinary enemy. It is a 6th Circle mage who has already caused massive destruction on the battlefield. At that moment, Lady Diana steps in and blocks a powerful attack with one hand. The instructors notice that her crown is suppressing her power, yet even under that restriction, she defeats the mage very easily. Seeing this, the magic instructor remarks that at this level, there is only one cadet who could potentially match her in magic, and that footage will appear later. Next, they review Class B's mission, where Cadet Guar acts as the senior and leads his team with strict discipline. The instructors acknowledge his leadership skills and agree that he deserves credit for his command ability. Finally, it is Class A's turn, where our hero is the class monitor. However, the lady instructor feels bad, knowing that this footage will reveal the deaths of 4 cadets during the mission. When the footage begins, the instructors get totally surprised to see the Imperial Academy for the first time. They observe Adele following a map secretly provided by the lady instructor and leading his team directly toward the secret domain. After arrival, they notice multiple entrances to the area. However, the hero identifies a hidden passage that the others fail to notice. Instructor Aries feels confused about how the hero could know so much about a place he is visiting for the first time. The magic instructor explains that the hero possesses an exceptional sensitivity to mana, allowing him to detect hidden magical structures and pathways. Instructor Aries argues that the hero was assigned to the easiest area. He adds that even though 2 members of the 7 Deadly Sins house were present there, 4 cadets still died, and the rest returned injured, making it clear to him that the failure lies with the hero. The lady instructor points out that the hero himself was also seriously injured during the mission. However, the headmaster agrees with Aries' assessment for now, but she states that they have only seen the beginning of the footage and must continue watching before making a final judgment. Meanwhile, at the infirmary, our hero Adele wakes up after surgery and realizes that his wounds have been treated properly. The doctor approaches him with a bowl of soup to help restore his stamina and asks if he feels any remaining pain. The hero replies that he feels completely fine, and she instructs him to avoid any strenuous activity for some time, explaining that he will recover fully in a few weeks. The hero thinks that there is no need to push himself further since the midterm exams are already over. However, he suddenly remembers that the finals may still be approaching, although he does not know when they will take place. He decides to ask Samuel about it, but notices that he is asleep. He then asks the doctor whether Luna came to the infirmary during his surgery. The doctor explains that the girl waited outside anxiously for 3 hours during the surgery. As soon as it ended, she rushed in and immediately began using her healing magic on the hero as well. She adds that the girl's healing talent is rare among demons, even though she lacks formal medical knowledge. She also notes that she can teach her proper medical skills. Hearing this, the hero feels amazed, and the doctor says that if Luna combines her natural recovery abilities with medical knowledge, she could become a highly valuable asset. Saying this, the doctor leaves the room, instructing him to rest a little longer before getting up. From behind, our hero thinks that this is a major opportunity for Luna. If she learns medical knowledge, it will also greatly benefit him in future battles. Meanwhile, the instructors finish watching the full footage of Adele's mission. Instructor Idea states that, based on what they have seen, the hero is not a spy. The magic instructor also adds that defeating a 5th circle mage alone proves his strength is significant. Instructor Ares still remains doubtful about his abilities. However, the lady points out that the hero's willingness to risk his life for his teammates is something truly remarkable. The instructors discuss that the human cadet wielding the ice hammer was also a highly dangerous opponent, and they did not expect the Imperial Academy to have students of that caliber. They note that the archer at the end displayed abilities far beyond expectations, meaning they had seriously underestimated the academy. The lady headmaster then explains that the cadet who directly fought Adele appeared to be even stronger than the mercenary king. Hearing this, the instructors realize that the area they assumed would be the easiest was actually one of the most dangerous. She adds that excluding Baltan and Diana's classes, any other group would likely have been wiped out in the same location where the hero was assigned. The instructors then understand that the hero coordinated well with his teammates and ultimately ensured their safe retreat. The headmaster comments that, based on what she has observed, Class A's practical score will not differ significantly between her evaluation and the other instructors. She then ends the meeting and instructs everyone to compile and submit the final evaluation scores of the cadets. Meanwhile, our hero Adele thanks the lady doctor for her care and decides to leave the infirmary as now he is feeling much better. Before he goes, the doctor informs him that an instructor had come earlier looking for him. When he comes outside, he wonders who it might be, but decides to return to his room first to bathe and rest. At that moment, the sparrow appears in front of him, to which he gets surprised. However, he notices that it is not alone. Instructor Ares is also there. Seeing him, the hero tries to leave, but the instructor stops him and says he has something important to discuss. The hero feels confused, thinking the instructor may be about to question him about the poison snake. However, the instructor instead tells him that he has reviewed all of his mission footage. He mentions that he fought while risking his life for his comrades, which he acknowledges as a good thing. Saying this, the instructor extends his hand for a handshake. Our hero feels it is unexpected but accepts it and makes a friendly bond with the instructor. The instructor then leaves, advising him to focus on recovery before the final exams. Later, when he is sitting in his office, the lady instructor comes to him and comments that he must have met Adele. She reminds him that she had previously asked him to do so, since she appointed that boy as class monitor due to his talent. Ares admits that the hero is stronger than he had expected, but also suggests that such strength could become a future threat. The lady then decides to leave, and he tells her to proceed with whatever the headmaster has assigned her. As she leaves, he feels confused whether the hero will become an asset or a danger to the demonic realm. But he also notes that the hero's combat performance at the Imperial Academy exceeded all expectations. He realizes that there are several matters he must prepare for moving forward. For now, he considers that he should decide what punishment he has to assign the hero for breaking Saitan's rules. Meanwhile, our hero Adele takes a bath and feels relieved, as it is the first proper bath he has had in a long time. He notices that Samuel, still in his horn form, has not woken up yet. Although he feels relief that they returned from the human world alive and that he gained 20% of the original Adele's power, he realizes that he has lost something in the process, and if this continues, his overall plan may fail. He decides that he must grow stronger and also help his teammates improve their abilities for their future safety. He knows that the next encounter with Imperial Academy cadets will be far more dangerous than before. After finishing his bath, he examines the information paper and realizes that, to achieve both of his goals, he needs the original Adele's mana cultivation technique. He asks the information paper to provide details on a cultivation method suitable for his current body. However, the information paper states that access to this knowledge requires a high price, either a legendary grade artifact or 10,000 gold coins. Hearing this, the hero gets stunned, but he realizes that if he achieves a high score in the midterms, he will gain access to Saitan's weapon vault, where far greater treasures are stored. Still, one problem remains: whether Instructor Ares will give him a high enough score. The next day, all cadets gather in the classroom. The lady instructor informs them that after today's session, the midterm results will be posted. At that moment, Lady Fran approaches the hero and suggests a wager. When Luna also arrives, the hero agrees and asks her what she is offering. Lady Fran explains that her prize is an invitation ticket allowing him to enter her estate. The hero recalls that the bear's estate is already quite large, but he feels curious about this lady's home as well. He accepts her offer and adds his own condition that for one day he will act as her servant, allowing her to give him any orders she wants during that time. The lady gets amazed by this, while our hero believes his victory is certain and thinks about using the opportunity to visit her home and enjoy good food. He also adds that Luna must be invited to her house as well. As the three of them are talking, the lady instructor arrives and asks Adele to accompany her for an important discussion. Once outside, she directly tells him to be honest about what he is hiding. Hearing this, the hero gets shocked and realizes that she has seen the mission recording and discovered something about his secrets. Trying to act innocent, he says that the emergency rations she gave him were difficult to eat, so he threw them away. However, the lady instructor clarifies that this is not what she is referring to. She explains that, based on what she has seen, the hero has brought a monster into Saitan without official permission. In response, our hero takes out the snake worm from his pocket and shows it to her, as this is the creature she is referring to. The instructor then asks where he obtained and tamed it. Adele considers that mentioning house bears could raise suspicion about the creature's true origin, so he lies that he found it in the human instructor's laboratory. He adds that it seemed to react to his darkness and eventually bonded with him. The lady instructor remarks that the snake looks cute, but reminds him that academy rules require any creature kept by a student to be officially registered as a familiar. Because of this, she informs him that he must pass a formal examination in 1 month. As she is about to leave, the hero takes out the sparrow and asks if it can also be registered. The instructor agrees, stating that if it is a special creature, it may even assist him in his training and missions. After some time, all cadets gather in the auditorium where the midterm results are about to be announced. When our hero notices that Luna looks worried, she explains that she needs a high score to secure a scholarship this time. The hero reassures her that she will succeed and thanks her for staying by his side during his treatment. He then notices that Lady Fran is looking unusually confident. Feeling confused, he asks her the reason, to which she replies that everyone will soon realize she is the main highlight of the results today. Samuel mocks her by saying she is just being delusional. The lady feels bad by his words, but before the situation gets worse, an instructor orders everyone to pay attention as the results have been posted on the notice board. Our hero sees that 120 cadets are listed, so he decides to start checking from rank 50, since scholarship begins from rank 40. As he scans the list, he finds Luna's name at 38th place, to which she gets amazed because she has gotten the scholarship. He then reviews the top 10 rankings, where senior cadets such as Aaron, Samuel, and Guar are also listed among the top performers. He sees that Princess Renee has secured 5th place, to which he feels surprised. But the more unexpected thing is that the hero himself has gotten 4th rank. He then notices that Lady Diana has taken 3rd place. The second position goes to Baltan, which shocks many of the cadets, as he was considered one of the strongest among them. However, the biggest shock comes when the first place is revealed to be Lady Fran. The cadets get stunned, while the lady herself laughs and declares that everyone should now serve as her slaves. The hero wonders how this result is possible, but Samuel explains that the head of the House of Lust produces hundreds of children, but only one of them is chosen as the representative heir, the strongest among all. This means Lady Fran has defeated hundreds of internal competitors to earn her position as the heir. He adds that she performed well, and without her buff magic, more cadets would likely have died in the secret domain. Adele understands the situation and realizes that securing first place requires near-perfect scores across all subjects. The lady then approaches him and orders him to sit in front of her, reminding him that he promised to obey her commands for an entire day. Our hero accepts her order happily, and he also feels satisfied seeing her take first place, as all the other cadets' attention shifts toward her. Many of them are looking angry, especially Baltan, and because many cadets are present, he can't take any action against her. Meanwhile, Princess Renee feels confused about the hero's 4th place ranking, as it does not match his earlier abilities before the midterm. While she is thinking about this, Lady Diana approaches her, but the princess teases her, remarking that it is unfortunate she ended up in 3rd place. Later that night, while everyone is asleep, Lady Fran secretly enters the bathroom. She removes the bandages from her body and uses a strange magic to force an artificial smile onto her face. At the same time, our hero is training alone in his room. He realizes that even after gaining 20% of the original Adele's power, he still cannot use fighting will. Accepting his limits for now, he lies down on his bed, knowing his body still needs proper recovery and that he must proceed carefully. He also thinks about the upcoming opening of Saitan's secret vault and becomes curious about what he will obtain this time. A few days later, he stands outside and thinks that the secret vault will open today, and that's why Instructor Ares has summoned the top 8 cadets. The hero decides that he will take 2 items from the vault, one for Samuel, since he is currently not in his original body. At this moment, the student asks the hero why he is not heading to the main hall, since the instructor has already called them. Our hero replies that since 3 of the top cadets are from Class A, it would be better for them to go together. Because of this, he decides to wait for Lady Fran to arrive first. However, after realizing she is not coming, he chooses to head to the hall on his own. At the main hall, Instructor Aries remarks that the Class A cadets are late despite being instructed to arrive on time. Because of this, some cadets disrespect them, to which Princess Renee feels uncomfortable. When Cadet Baltan comments that they are talking too much, the guy Guar assumes our hero Adele might have arrived and tries to react angrily. But when he realizes Baltan is the one who spoke, he immediately backs down because he cannot challenge him. Soon after, our hero appears in the hall using his teleportation skill and apologizes for being late. However, he notices that several cadets are looking at him angrily, and Guar once again speaks rudely to him. In response, our hero activates his dagger rain skill and places a dagger at his neck just to scare him. Seeing the situation getting worse, the instructor stops the hero from taking any further action, to which the hero agrees. The instructor then scolds Guar, warning him that if he provokes other cadets again without reason, he will face serious punishment. Our hero feels surprised, as he had expected to be the one scolded by the instructor. The instructor addresses everyone, stating that humans are their enemies, not comrades to rely on in battle. He adds that he has no intention of rewarding those who fail to understand this basic principle. Explaining this, he notices that Lady Fran from Class A has not yet arrived. Our hero explains that he waited for her until just before coming, but he does not know her current location. At that moment, Lady Fran finally appears and remarks that it feels good knowing everyone has been waiting for her. She adds that since she secured first place, arriving late suits her for now. The instructor does not react to her comment and instructs her to stand with the other cadets. However, the guy Baltan suddenly blocks her path because of jealousy. Lady Fran also mocks him, acting as if she does not even know him. The guy states that they have met before the midterms, but the lady comments that she suffers from an incurable condition that prevents her from remembering the faces of anyone ranked below her. Hearing this insult, the guy feels angry and a powerful mana starts flowing around him. He declares that if that is the case, he will challenge her immediately and fix her attitude. The lady replies that she has no interest in fighting him, but the guy insists that she should preserve her top rank so she can face him properly later. Our hero Adele notices that both of them are escalating the situation, while Instructor Aries is also not stopping them. The lady then provokes Baltan further, asking why he does not challenge the instructors or even the headmaster directly if he truly seeks strong opponents. She suggests that he avoids them only because he knows he cannot win, and instead picks fights with weaker cadets. When the situation gets worse, our hero steps forward to stop them, aware that a serious fight could lead to severe injuries on either side. At that moment, the instructor finally orders them to stop causing a disturbance, to which Baltan calms down. The instructor then changes the subject to the secret vault, and explains that the entry is usually determined by rank. However, during the previous entrance exam, he assigned the order arbitrarily, which caused those who entered later to face a disadvantage. Hearing this, our hero thinks that it is true, as he himself had entered last time at the last position and did not obtain anything useful. But this time the instructor announces that the hero will enter the vault first. He explains that since the entry order was previously decided without strict rules, and the current group is similar in composition, it is only fair to reverse the order now. He adds that from next time onward, entry will only follow rank. Saying that, the instructor uses his magic to open the vault door. Adele thinks to himself that if luck is on his side, he may finally obtain the original Adele's mana cultivation technique from within the vault. Samuel notices his reaction and asks why he looks so amazed. The hero asks if he is not excited about the treasures, to which the guy replies that he cannot use any of them in his current form. Our hero Adele reassures him to not worry as he will recover soon. He thinks that this is his second chance in the vault and looks forward to what he will gain this time.